In the year 2025, a bidirectional portal leading to a parallel apocalyptic world appeared in Lin Han's rented apartment. On the other side lay a hell on earth overrun by zombies and annihilating black rain, yet at the same time an undeveloped treasure trove strewn with gold and abandoned black technologies. Coastal City, Xingfu Jiyuan Residential Compound. 2:15 in the morning. The curtains of Unit 302 in Building 4 were drawn tightly shut. Only the ghostly blue glow of a computer screen illuminated Lin Han's slightly fatigued face. As a freelance graphic designer, pulling all-nighters was his norm. Lin Han gripped his pressure-sensitive stylus, making the final color adjustments to a poster whose client had demanded the impossible, a riotously colorful black. A strange sizzling of electricity suddenly crackled through the quiet bedroom. Lin Han frowned and took off his headphones. Where is that sound coming from? Is the power strip leaking electricity? He turned, following the direction of the noise. The next second, the pressure-sensitive stylus slipped from his fingers and fell onto the desk with a soft clack. The wall beside the bed, where a giant Cyberpunk 2077 poster had originally been pasted, had somehow transformed into a vast swirling vortex. It was a circular gate of light about 2 meters in diameter, its rim emitting an unstable faint blue glow, like a living black hole slowly turning in place. What the hell? Lin Han instinctively sprang up from his gaming chair, retreating 2 steps before his back slammed against the wardrobe. An illusion. Had staying up too long finally caused his retinas to detach. He rubbed his eyes hard, and even pinched his own thigh. A sharp stab of pain. This was no dream. The gate of light was still hanging on the wall, the poster, the wallpaper, even the red bricks inside the wall had all vanished without a trace. Through that vortex, he found himself staring into a completely unfamiliar scene. It was a room. Its layout almost perfectly mirrored his own bedroom, yet it had fallen into utter ruin. By the faint bluish glow radiating from the gate, Lin Han could see that the floor in the opposite room was buried under a thick layer of dust and dead leaves. Where a bed should have stood, only a moldy, decayed bed frame remained. The walls were covered with black mold, whole sheets of plaster peeling off in large ragged chunks. What truly made his scalp prickle was the dark red trail on that blackened wall, the dried remnants of some liquid dragged from the bedroom door all the way toward the living room. It was the mark left by a body being dragged, a long streak of blood. Lin Han swallowed with difficulty, his throat producing a loud gulp. A fierce survival instinct screamed that he should turn around and run immediately, yet the curiosity etched into the human bones clawed at his heart like a cat's paw. Is this a parallel space? Or some kind of haunted house? Mustering his courage, Lin Han grabbed a stainless steel thermal mug from the desk as a makeshift weapon and inched 2 careful steps toward the gate of light. As he drew closer, a damp, rotten wind carrying the stench of iron rust and decay blew out from the far side of the gate. It was the smell of death. Holding his breath, Lin Han slowly thrust his head toward the gate. His gaze passed through the ruined room and its shattered floor-to-ceiling window reaching for the world beyond. Just then a ghastly white streak of lightning split the sky in that other world with a resounding crack. In that instant of blinding light, Lin Han saw the entirety of that world. His pupils constricted violently. It was a city reduced to a silent wasteland. Countless skyscrapers that once pierced the clouds now jutted brokenly into the heavens like toy blocks snapped by a giant. Dark green, sinister vines crawled up the sides of the buildings. The streets were choked with rusted, abandoned cars stretching for kilometers, forming a continuous graveyard of steel. The sky hung low in a despairing shade of leaden gray, pouring down in torrents. The rain itself was black. Black droplets swept across the ruins, converging into turbid rivers. A non-human roar tore through the curtain of rain and drilled into Lin Han's ears. He turned his gaze toward the sound. On the street below the building opposite, by the faint sparks still clinging to a broken streetlight, he discerned several swaying human-shaped figures. They were not human. Their clothing hung in tatters, and their ashen skin was studded with strips of rotting flesh. They clustered around a toppled bus, frantically tearing at something. Lightning flashed again. Lin Han saw clearly. They were ripping apart a corpse. One of the creatures suddenly jerked its head up, revealing a face with only half its flesh remaining. Its cloudy, pallid eyes seemed to pierce through the void, fixing unerringly on Lin Han's position. Zombies. Real living feasting zombies. An icy chill surged from the soles of his feet straight to the crown of his head. Lin Han felt as though his scalp were about to explode. Just then a large gray moth in his bedroom, drawn to the light, fluttered up and, heedless of danger, flew straight. It passed into the ruined room, then out through the shattered window, streaking into the curtain of black rain. At the very instant it touched the first droplet of black water. A harsh sizzle sounded like a droplet of water falling into boiling oil. The moth did not even have time to struggle before a wisp of white smoke rose from its body midair. Its wings and body were corroded completely in less than a second, dissolving into a splash of black pus that vanished into the darkness of the rain outside the window. Highly corrosive acid rain. This water was poisonous. That final image snapped the last strand supporting Lin Han's mental defenses. Close it. Close the door. Shut it down. Lin Han screamed silently in his heart. Miraculously, as his will surged, the blue vortex on the wall contracted abruptly. With a low hum, the gate vanished in less than half a second. The original wall and poster reappeared before his eyes. The bedroom returned to a deathly stillness. Only the soft whirring of the computer's fans remained. Lin Han leaned back against the wardrobe and slid down the doors until he was sitting on the floor gasping for breath. Cold sweat had soaked through the back of his t-shirt. His hands trembled violently, his heart pounding as though it meant to smash through his ribs. It wasn't a hallucination. It was real. The apocalypse, zombies, acid rain. Lin Han fumbled for his phone with shaking fingers. His mind raced at full speed. As a modern young man who had watched countless films and devoured endless web novels, he understood exactly what he had encountered. The legendary cheat, a bidirectional portal. According to novel tropes, he ought now to gather capital stockpile, supplies cross over to act as a profiteer, exchanging resources for gold and black tech, striding to the pinnacle of life, and marrying a wealthy beauty. But Lin Han lowered his head to glance at his sub-healthy body worn down by years of all-nighters. Then he recalled the moth that had turned to pus in an instant, and the terrifying gaze of that half-faced zombie. To hell with the pinnacle of life. If I go over there, I won't last 3 seconds. If that rain can corrode a moth, it can eat through my protective suit. Those zombies may not be individually strong, but this is practically a biohazard outbreak. If one of them grabs me, I'm finished. This hell-level dungeon. How could a mere mortal like me possibly clear it? Lin Han drew in a deep breath. The terror in his eyes gradually hardened into resolve. Though greedy for wealth, he cherished his life even more. In this world, if any power could stand against such an apocalyptic crisis, it certainly was not a shootin' designer in a rented apartment. There was only one force. A colossal entity possessing steel torrents, millions of soldiers, and a complete industrial system. Unlocking his phone, Lin Han did not tap WeChat nor Alipay, but instead opened the dial pad. Without hesitation, he keyed in the 3 digits carved into the bones of every Huaxia citizen. The line connected with a series of beeps. A steady female voice came through. Hello, this is 110 Emergency Center. How may we assist you? Lin Han swallowed, forcing his voice to sound less like that of a madman. Hello, officer. This may sound absurd, but I hope you can send someone over. It seems that a door leading to a Resident Evil-style world has opened in my wall. No, I'm not drunk, I haven't taken drugs, and my psychological evaluation is normal. I'm very serious. This thing is far too dangerous. I can't handle it. The address is Unit 302, Building 4, Xingfu Yun Nanshan District, Haiban City. Please come quickly. It would be best if you bring SWAT officers, and a chemical defense unit as well. After hanging up, Lin Han slumped limply to the floor, staring at the now normal wall, as he muttered to himself, this windfall of fortune. I'll just hand it over to the nation. Ding dong. Ding dong. The urgent chime of the doorbell tore harshly through the silence of the deep night. Lin Han jolted as though struck by lightning and sprang up from the floor. He glanced at the clock hanging on the wall, 2:35 a.m. It had been 20 minutes since he called the police. This response time was considered standard in Haiban City. Lin Han did not rush to open the door. Instead, he strode into the bathroom and splashed his face hard with cold water, trying to bring some color to his unnaturally pale complexion. Then he rummaged through a drawer, pulled out 2 N95 masks, layered them together, and put them on. Only after doing all this did he walk to the door and peer outside through the peephole. 2 police officers were standing outside the door. One was an older officer who looked to be over 50, hair graying, his eyes tired yet sharp and shrewd. The other was a young man who seemed to be a newly hired auxiliary officer, an enforcement recorder clutched in his hand. Who called the police? The older officer knocked on the door. Anyone home? Lin Han drew a deep breath and opened the security door, but only a narrow gap. The security chain remained fastened. I'm the one who called. Lin Han's voice, muffled by 2 layers of masks, sounded dull and thick. Officer, did you bring firearms? The 2 outside exchanged a glance. Auxiliary Officer Shaoli could not help it. He snorted with laughter. Bro, how much have you had to drink? Firearms. Why not ask if we brought grenades too? The older officer Lao Zhang frowned and sized up Lin Han, who showed nothing but a pair of eyes. Kid, you reported that there's a Resident Evil-style portal in your home, and said there were zombies. I know it sounds insane, Lin Han replied, not offended but uncannily calm. But when I open the door now, and you come in, no matter what you see, you must not move, not touch, not approach anything. Can you do that? Lao Zhang's gaze sharpened. In 30 years on the force, he had seen false reports, drug-induced hallucinations, and schizophrenia. But the eyes of this young man were too clear, too composed. This was not the crazed fixation of a madman, but a forced calm born of extreme terror. That composure was not obsession, it was the brittle stillness after being pushed to the brink of fear. All right. Lao Zhang nodded, his hand unconsciously reaching for the single officer equipment at his waist, though it was only a baton and pepper spray. Open the door. Lin Han removed the security chain and swung the door fully open. He did not waste words, simply stepping aside to clear a path and pointing toward the master bedroom. In that room. Don't go inside. Just stand at the doorway and look. Lao Zhang and Xiao Li entered the apartment one after the other. The place had the typical mess of a man living alone, takeout boxes and delivery cartons piled in the corners, the air thick with the smell of braised beef instant noodles. Everything appeared utterly ordinary, until they reached the master bedroom doorway. What the hell? Walking behind, Xiao Li blurted out a curse, freezing in place as though struck by a petrifying spell. Lao Zhang did not cry out, but his pupils dilated to their utmost, and the veins bulged on the back of the hand gripping his baton. The bedroom wall had vanished. In its place hovered a slowly rotating portal of eerie blue light. Through that portal, where a cozy bedroom should have been, lay a ruined, mildew-stained room reduced to rubble. Dust and a chill wind, visible even to the naked eye, were streaming out from that room into the apartment. Most striking of all was the window in that ruined room. The glass had shattered completely, and black rain was being driven in by the wind, splattering onto the floor with a sizzling, corrosive hiss. Outside that window, the leaden gray sky and the jagged silhouette of a ruined city were so real they were suffocating. Is this some kind of holographic projection? Xiao Li stammered, edging closer despite himself. Has 3D tech really gotten this insane? Naked eye 3D. As he spoke, he instinctively reached out, wanting to touch the edge of the light gate. Don't move. Lin Han roared, lunging forward to seize Xiao Li's arm and yank him back with brute force. Are you insane? What if that light is poisonous or radioactive? Lin Han shouted. Startled, Xiao Li balked, bristling with faint resentment. Bro, you're way too deep into this role. It's obviously just some kind of light hand shadow effect, admittedly a bit more realistic. A special effect, huh? Lin Han let out a cold, humorless laugh. He knew that without hard evidence these two would never believe him. Wait here. Lin Han turned and ran into the kitchen. 10 seconds later, he emerged holding a live chicken, one he had just had a delivery runner by from the nearby market to test his theory. Now this chicken would become the pioneer of humankind's exploration of the other world. Lin Han had already deftly tied a long nylon cord to its leg, the other end secured to the door handle. Watch carefully. Lin Han held up the old hen, which was clucking frantically, and positioned himself 2 meters away from the light gate. Here we go. With a powerful swing of his arm, he hurled the hen like a thrown grenade, sending it precisely into the light gate. The two officers' eyes locked unblinkingly onto the bird. They watched as the hen passed through the light gate and slammed heavily onto the floor of the ruined room on the other side. Cluck cluck. Startled, the hen began flapping in wild panic. In its frenzy, it crashed toward the shattered floor-to-ceiling window. At that moment, a gust of wind mixed with black raindrops swept in from outside. Dozens of drops of black rain poured down onto the hen. The next second, a horrifying scene unfolded. The hen let out a scream of absolute agony, sharp and twisted, utterly unlike any sound a chicken should be able to make. Under the three men's gaze, the bird's feathers rapidly turned charred and withered. Its frantic clucking grew more shrill and desperate. Its skin flushed red and blistered, then began to slough off in large patches as though scalded by boiling water. It did not instantly liquefy like a moth in acid, but the slow, visible process of corrosion was all quick. Throw it out. Don't let it die in there. Seeing the hen on the brink of death and still thrashing about, smearing the floor and flinging corrosive black rain everywhere, Lin Han shouted urgently. Off you go. With a swift motion, Lin Han slashed through the nylon cord tied to the door handle with a utility. Immediately afterward, he grabbed a long-handled mop from behind the door and, staying on his side of the light gate, jabbed hard at the half-dead hen. The blood-soaked hen, half its feathers gone, was shoved, chicken and trailing cord together, out through the broken window. Cluck, roar. As it fell, the sound it made changed. It was no longer a chicken's cry, but a low, hoarse snarl saturated with aggression. Its body convulsed violently in midair, its once red comb turned a lifeless gray, its eyes bulged bloodshot, and its claws suddenly lengthened, gleaming with a metallic sheen. It was mutating, but the change had come too late. The hen crashed onto the street below the opposite building. Ruhar. Several zombies feeding down on the street were immediately drawn by the sound. They abandoned their original meal and lunged at the still-twitching hen like rabid dogs. Within seconds, amid a series of sickening, tearing noises, the chicken fell completely silent. Only a broken length of nylon cord remained dangling forlornly outside the window. A deathly silence descended. Xiao Li's mouth hung open wide enough to fit an egg, his face as white as paper, his legs trembling uncontrollably. Lao Zhang was no better. Cold sweat streamed down his forehead and along his cheeks. The hand clutching his baton was shaking violently. As a veteran officer, he had seen bodies, car wrecks, murder scenes. But he had never witnessed a death like this, something that transcended human understanding, cruelty taken to an absolute extreme. Thighs. Lao Zhang felt as if a wad of cotton were stuffed in his throat. No sound would come. Expressionless, Lin Han drew the mop back. The mop head tainted by the black rain had turned charred and was emitting pungent white smoke. You saw that, didn't you? Lin Han pointed at the charred mop. That rain can mutate living things, and whatever's down there can devour flesh. Ugh. Xiaoli could no longer hold it in. Clutching his mouth, he bolted into the bathroom, retching with heart-wrenching violence. Lao Zhang seasoned as he was forced himself to suppress the upheaval in his stomach. He looked deeply at Lin Han, and his gaze changed completely. No longer was he looking at a mere complainant, but at something, or someone, as dangerous as a highly hazardous substance. Without a second's hesitation, Lao Zhang's trembling hand pressed the radio on his shoulder. His voice sharpened and cracking under extreme tension rang out, calling command center. This is officer number 09251. At Building 4, Unit 302, Xingfu Jiyuan in Haiban City, a major unknown incident has occurred. It is not a criminal case. Not a fire. Repeating, there is a door here. A door leading straight to hell. Requesting SWAT support. Requesting chemical defense units. Requesting a full lockdown of the residential compound. Hurry. This is a level 1 biochemical threat. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. At 0330 in the morning, the usually tranquil and peaceful Xingfu Jiyuan community was now utterly shattered by piercing sirens and glaring searchlights. Strangely enough, the sirens did not last long, replaced instead by a suffocating yet orderly bustle of all units seal off every entrance to zones A through D. Evacuation team, move faster. Use the cover story. Major gas pipeline leak with explosion risk. Has the chemical defense regiment arrived? Have them enter through gate 4. Clear out all unauthorized personnel. Around the perimeter of the community, yellow warning tape had been strung 3 layers deep. Dozens of military vehicles in camouflage pitch-black SWAT armored cars and several eye-catching yellow biochemical emergency vehicles encircled the community, leaving no gap. In the skies, several police drones hovered, monitoring every move on the ground. Building 4, entrance. This area had become a temporary frontline command post. A modified black communications command vehicle was parked at the building entrance. Several technicians in full white protective suits holding precision instruments were frequently entering and exiting the lobby. A modified black communications command vehicle was parked at the building entrance. Several technicians in full white protective suits holding precision instruments were frequently entering and exiting the lobby. Across from him sat a middle-aged man in a dark blue jacket. He was in his 40s with a square face and eyes as sharp as scalpels, as if he could see straight through Lin Han's very organs. His name was Chun Guofeng, a division chief from the Goen Bureau. Lin Han, male, 24 years old, native of Haiban City, freelance designer. Parents deceased, early, no criminal record, no history of mental illness. Chun Guofeng held a tablet reading Lin Han's file in a flat tone, as if reciting an ordinary menu. Half an hour ago you said a door appeared on your wall leading to a parallel world, and you threw a chicken through to verify. Lin Han nodded, his hand holding the cup, trembling slightly. I know it sounds insane, but we've already verified. Chun Guofeng interrupted him, setting down the tablet and leaning forward, his oppressive presence filling the air. Old Zhang, the veteran officer who took the call, his body camera recorded everything. Our technical team also went in just now and conducted a preliminary probe with the drone. He paused, his expression growing extremely grave. The air sample analysis is back. Apart from containing large amounts of unknown viral aerosols, the oxygen content, gravity, and even atmospheric pressure are all identical to Earth. That place is indeed another Earth. Lin Han jerked his head up. Then my apartment. Your apartment is now a top-secret national crime scene. Chun Guofeng's voice brooked no argument. All residents of the building have signed confidentiality agreements and been relocated. From now on, that place no longer belongs to you. Or rather, it no longer belongs to the civilian Lin Han. Lin Han opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but finally managed only a single question. What about me? Am I going to be sliced up for research? Chun Guofeng's stern face actually cracked into a rare smile. Sliced? No, you're worth far more than that. He pressed a remote on the table. The large screen on the inner wall of the command vehicle lit up. The screen showed an old man with graying hair and a general's star on his shoulder. He wore a crisp military uniform and sat in a vast conference room surrounded by busy staff officers. Zhao Zhengwo, the very general Zhao who often appeared in military news. Lin Han instinctively tried to stand, but his legs were too weak, and he failed. General Zhao on the screen waved his hand, his voice strong and resonant. Sit, comrade. Scared you badly tonight, did it? It's okay. Lin Han forced a smile. I've been briefed on the situation. Zhao Zhengwo's expression turned serious. That door, can you control it? For example, turning it on or off, or moving it? Lin Han took a deep breath and answered honestly, I can turn it on and off with my mind. As for moving it, that doesn't seem possible. It's firmly rooted on that wall. And I can sense that the size of the door is somehow connected to me, but I don't fully understand it yet. Being able to turn it on and off is enough. Zhao Zhengwo nodded. Comrade Xiao Lin, I now formally ask you a question on behalf of the nation. The old man's gaze seemed to weigh 1,000 tons through the screen. You should understand what this door means. It is a crisis. If that virus leaks over here, it would be a catastrophe for us. But it is also an opportunity. A brand new parallel world with unknown technology and resources. You hold the key to open it. What do you intend to do? Lin Han fell silent. Even though he had already thought through his answer when he called the police, actually facing such a national-level authority figure made the pressure almost suffocating. He recalled the moth that dissolved into pus, the zombie with only half a face, and the days he spent staying up late drawing blueprints in this city just to afford a few thousand yuan in rent. He lifted his head, his eyes clearer than ever before. Chief, I'm just an ordinary citizen. I don't understand grand principles, but I know that I can't handle what's on the other side alone, and I wouldn't dare to. That chicken died too horribly. I don't want to end up like that. Lin Han paused, his voice growing firmer. I'm afraid of death. I just want to live and live well. So this door, I'm turning it over to the nation. But I have one condition. Name it. Zhao Jingwo was not angered by the condition. Instead, his eyes showed a hint of approval. I want absolute protection from the nation. Not just from the monsters on the other side, but also from being exploited by certain interested parties. I only trust the nation. A brief silence. The air inside the command vehicle seemed to freeze. After a few seconds, Zhao Jingwo on the screen suddenly stood up and gave a sharp military salute to the camera. Comrade Lin Han, your trust is received by the nation. Lowering his hand, Zhao Jingwo turned to the staff group behind him, his voice ringing with authority across the entire command network. By order. Immediately establish the Otherworld Strategic Special Operations Group, codenamed Xinhua, meaning the flame of civilization passed down through generations. Comrade Lin Han is specially enlisted, awarded the rank of Civil Service Major, appointed as Special Advisor for the Xinhua Project with regimental level treatment. His immediate family is to be placed on the highest level of security protection. The Haiban Military District Chemical Defense Regiment and Special Operations Brigade are to immediately deploy to Xingfu Jiyuan. Hold this gate at all costs. If it doesn't belong to Earth, then it is new territory. If it belongs to the future, then it is our hope. Hearing this cascade of orders, Lin Han was completely stunned. Major, regimental level treatment. Was he getting a cushy government job? And a golden rice bullet? Chen Guofeng stood up, pulled a red header document stamped top secret from his briefcase, and handed it to Lin Han, extending his right hand at the same time. Welcome to Xinhua, Major Lin. Chen Guofeng's eyes held a new recognition for a comrade in arms. Sign this, and you're one of us. From now on, behind you stands all of Huaxia. Lin Han looked at the document, and then at Chen Guofeng's outstretched hand. Trembling, he grasped it. In that moment, he knew his miserable life as a corporate slave was over. A magnificent new era quietly began to unfold that night. Half an hour later, Lin Han, wearing an ill-fitting spare camouflage uniform since there was no hazmat suit available, he could only wear this for now, returned to Unit 302, Building 4, accompanied by Chen Guofeng. Unit 302 had been completely transformed. The living room was filled with various instruments, and the original furniture had been cleared out. The door to the master bedroom had been removed, replaced by a heavy, airtight isolation door. Through the glass window of the isolation door, Lin Han saw that his bedroom had been completely turned into a white, sterile chamber. The glowing door still hovered on the wall, emitting a faint blue light. In front of the glowing door, a squad of soldiers clad in fully sealed heavy hazmat suits resembling astronauts had assembled. They carried samplers, detectors, oxygen tanks on their backs, and some even had flamethrowers strapped on. This was the true national elite, the Chemical Defense Regiment's advanced team. Ready? Chen Guofeng asked. Lin Han nodded and pressed the intercom button, speaking to the soldiers inside him. Lin Han. The door can be opened now. With a thought from him, the vortex leading to hell began to rotate once more slowly. At 0600 a.m., the sky was already faintly lit. But inside the negative pressure isolation room in this coastal city, the lights still blazed brightly. Attention all units, this is not a drill. Chen Guofeng's voice came clearly through the internal communication channel into everyone's earpiece. This is an expedition across time and space. Our primary objective is to confirm environmental safety, followed by sample collection. Remember, safety first. If you encounter uncontrollable danger, withdraw immediately. At the light gate, 6 fully armed soldiers were making their final preparations. They wore the latest Great Wall Type 3 heavy chemical protective suits developed by our nation. This exoskeleton-assisted enclosed armor could not only withstand any known biochemical virus and strong acid corrosion, but also sustain the soldiers' vital activities for at least 12 hours in an oxygen-free environment. They looked like astronauts about to land on Mars. The team leader, named Lei Long, was a lieutenant colonel from a special operations brigade. Through the thick faceplate glass, he glanced at Lin Han, standing outside the glass wall of the isolation room. Lin Han took a deep breath. He was still wearing that somewhat ill-fitting spare camouflage uniform, standing outside the isolation room. Though he could control the light gate with his mind alone, he still habitually raised his right-hand palm, facing the wall. Countdown. Commence, Chen Guofeng ordered. 3, 2, 1. Open. Lin Han's eyes sharpened, and he moved with his thoughts. Buzz. The familiar heart-stopping hum of electric current sounded again. On the originally empty wall, the deep blue vortex rapidly expanded, finally stabilizing into a circular passage 2 meters in diameter. A cold wind mingled with the deathly aura of that world instantly rushed out. But this time the pre-prepared negative pressure extraction system immediately started at full capacity, drawing the alien air into multiple filtration ducts for incineration and purification. Environmental Monitoring Team, report readings. Chen Guofeng stared at the data on the screen. Report. Radiation values on the other side of the passage are slightly elevated but within safe range. Oxygen concentration 28, consistent with Earth. Viral aerosol reaction detected, but activity is extremely low, lacking airborne transmission capability. Confirmed, no risk of airborne infection. Chen Guofeng pressed. Confirmed. Based on animal experiments and rapid testing, current air samples have not triggered an immediate infection reaction. It is speculated that airborne transmission capability has significantly declined. Maintain level 1 protection. Move out. With Chen Guofeng's command, Lei Long took the first step. His combat boots stepped into that deep blue vortex. There was no expected dizziness. It felt like passing through an ordinary water curtain. The next second, his entire body had crossed that water-like light gate, his feet landing on the dusty floor of a ruined room in another world. Viewed from the real world, it was as if he had stepped into a holographic projection, seeing his silhouette perfectly blending with the surrounding ruins. Vanguard 1, do you copy? Check communication signal. The command center's call came through the earpiece. Crackle. Vanguard 1 received, signal strength good. Lei Long replied calmly. You may proceed. Understood. Lei Long raised his rifle, quickly scanning the surroundings. Reporting to command center, I have successfully arrived at target area. Visually confirmed, indoor environment. Building structure is severely damaged, but no immediate collapse risk. As Lei Long reported, the camera on his helmet transmitted real-time footage to the command center's main screen. Everyone held their breath. Though they had seen it before through the drone, the perspective and the sense of immersion from a first-person view were entirely different. On the screen, the floor was thick with dust and withered leaves. The mold on the corners resembled human faces. In the center of the room, the charred mop lay still beside it, a pool of long-dried blackened blood left by that Vanguard chicken. Then the remaining 5 team members entered one after another. Trained and disciplined, 2 stood guard, 2 set up communication repeaters, and 2 began collecting samples. One team member carefully used a robotic arm to pick up a piece of moldy wall plaster from the floor and placed it into a special sealed case. Another team member walked to the broken French window and extended a telescopic rod outside to collect some black rain residue clinging to the windowsill. Captain, look at this. Suddenly, a team member's voice carried a trace of shock. Lei Long walked over. That team member was crouching beside a pile of rubble in the corner. He gently wiped away a thick layer of dust with his gloved hand. What was revealed was a half-crushed iron street. Though rusted and deformed, the white reflective paint still barely allowed recognition of the line of simplified Chinese characters. Haishan No. 3 Middle School. And beneath the sign lay an old, worn-out backpack. A few books had fallen out of the backpack, their covers reading, 5 years of college entrance exams, 3 years of simulation. In the command center, there was dead silence. Chen Guofeng took off his glasses, rubbed his brow, and spoke in a somewhat hoarse voice, simplified Chinese. Haishan City. Exam prep materials. Plus identical gravity and atmospheric composition. He put his glasses back on, his eyes growing immensely complex. I think we no longer need to doubt. This is no alien planet, nor any demon realm. This is the parallel Earth. Lin Han stood outside the glass wall, watching the screen, his heart a mix of, though he had long suspected it, seeing those familiar traces of civilization unearthed from the ruins with his own eyes still struck him with a suffocating impact. That world had once echoed with the sound of reading, had once bustled with traffic. But now only silence remained. Wait, we have movement. Suddenly Lei Long's voice became urgent. There's movement outside. The command center's screen instantly switched to Lei Long's first-person view. He was half crouching by the window, his Type 191 assault rifle already off safety, the muzzle aimed at the By now the black rain outside had stopped. A crack split the leaden-gray clouds, and a pale sun hung in the sky. Though the light was bright, it carried a deathly chill, illuminating this city of tombstones. At the end of the street, a dark figure was moving rapidly along the wall in an extremely eerie posture. It crawled on all fours like a humanoid cheetah, its ashen skin reflecting a nauseating oily sheen under the sun. It seemed to catch the scent of living humans, abruptly stopping. It raised its head, looking toward the third-floor broken window. That was a horrifying face with only whites in its eyes and a mouth split open to the ears. Roar. An inhuman shriek instantly tore through the dead silence. It had discovered the intruders. All units combat readiness. Lei Long's voice was terrifyingly calm. Target locked. Permission to engage. Attention, all units target spotted. Lei Long's voice came through the communication channel with an extraordinary calmness completely devoid of the panic one might feel when facing an unknown monster. He knelt by the window, his Type 191 assault rifle braced against the sill, forming a stable firing posture. The tactical rail on the rifle bore the latest optical scope, its crosshairs locked unwaveringly onto the eerie black shadow below the building. On the massive screen in the command center, the real-time feed was split into two sections, one displaying Lei Long's primary perspective, the other a high-altitude drone's overhead view. Target characteristics analysis. The tactical analyst in the command center stared at the screen, speaking at a rapid pace. Quadrupedal locomotion, extremely high-speed, grayish skin with advanced signs of decomposition. Preliminary assessment, infected by an unknown zombie virus. Looks like a hairless monkey, Lin Han muttered beside him, unable to resist a jab. That's no monkey. Chun Guofeng pointed to a corner of the screen's data, his eyes gleaming with a researcher's unique intensity. Based on skeletal analysis, it was originally human, but underwent severe deformation. And look at its nails. The image zoomed in. The monster's hands, or rather forepaws, bore nails that had evolved into black blades about 10 centimeters long, gleaming with a metallic sheen under the pale sunlight. Those were not meant for scratching, but for disemboweling. Roar. The monster below seemed to lose patience. It did not charge mindlessly like movie zombies. Instead, it lowered its body, emitting a beastly growl from its throat. The muscles in its hind legs tensed abruptly like a drawn bowstring. It's going to jump up, Lin Han exclaimed. This was the third floor. Bang! A dull, heavy impact. The concrete floor crumbled into two shallow pits from its kick. That black shadow shot up from the ground like an arrow released from its string. It didn't use the stairs. With astonishing leaping power, it grabbed the second-floor security grill, then used the momentum to vault straight toward the shattered third-floor window. Its speed left a blur in the air. Too fast. The tactical analyst recorded data rapidly. Suggestion: upgrade threat level to D. Confronted with the stench and claws hurtling toward him, Lei Long didn't even blink. As a lieutenant colonel in the Special Operations Brigade, he had undertaken multiple high-risk peacekeeping missions overseas. A king of warriors forged from piles of dead bodies. In his eyes, as long as it was carbon-based life, there was no problem a bullet couldn't solve. If there was a grenade launcher round, would do the trick. Facing this unknown monster, Lei Long took no chances. He was fully aware that behind him lay the dual-gate portal, the only passage linking to his homeland, and he could not afford any mistake. Hence, the moment the monster leaped, he pulled the trigger. Bang, bang, bang. 3 shots in a controlled burst. That was the sound of the Type 191 rifle equipped with a special suppressor. The first bullet precisely struck the monster's right shoulder joint. The immense kinetic energy shattered its scapula, instantly causing the claw aimed at Lei Long's face to veer off course. The monster lost its balance midair and let out a shriek. Then came the second shot. The bullet entered through its forehead and exited through the back of its skull, carrying a spray of black blood and brain matter. Thud. The monster's corpse was thrown backward by the kinetic force, slamming hard against the window frame before rebounding and falling onto the street below. Thud. The body hit the ground with a dull sound. Lei Long moved forward swiftly, his rifle trained on the corpse until he confirmed it was no longer moving. Target neutralized, Lei Long reported calmly. Confirmed kill. Head is the weak point. Body is downstairs. Requesting instructions. In the command center, the tense atmosphere instantly relaxed. Excellent. Zhao Jiangwo slapped the table with force, his eyes gleaming. It seems these things aren't so mysterious after all. As long as the laws of physics still apply, our firearms are effective. Lin Han let out a long breath of. His greatest fear was that the creatures here, like in some novels, might be impervious to bullets or require some kind of spiritual energy to kill. Since bullets could kill them, matters became much simpler. If something could be physically eliminated, it was just a statistic on an industrial assembly line. Attention, all squads. Chun Guofeng's voice rang out again, this time carrying a hint of excitement. Immediately collect samples. This is the freshest first-hand data. I want to know its muscle density, bone strength, and what that black nail is made of. Vanguard 2, follow me downstairs for sampling. The rest remain on the 3rd floor on alert. Lei Long gave the order, still maintaining a combat stance, as he vaulted over the window sill and rappelled to the ground. Roger. Vanguard 2 followed immediately. Once on the ground, the two quickly established a perimeter. Lei Long covered with his rifle, while Vanguard 2 grabbed the monster's hind leg and dragged it into the dilapidated first-floor lobby of the building, ensuring a relatively safe indoor environment for the operation. Commencing sampling. In the dim first-floor lobby, Vanguard 2 opened his portable sampling case and worked under the light of a tactical flashlight. He first used a mechanical arm to extract black blood from the monster's wound, then employed a laser cutter to sever a small segment of the nail. Report to command. The soldier handling the sampling read the instrument readings. Preliminary detection shows high concentration of viral activity within the target. Additionally, its bone density is 1.5 times that of a normal human, and its muscle fiber strength is twice the norm. The nail is a composite of keratin and metallic elements with hardness approaching steel. Metallic elements. Chen Guofeng paused. How did it ingest metal? Perhaps it devoured some metal-containing mutated creature, or the virus itself can concentrate metallic elements from the environment. A researcher speculated. Intriguing. Chen Guofeng adjusted his glasses. If we can crack the mechanism of this biological metallization, our bulletproof vests and tank armor materials could undergo a revolution. Lin Han listened slightly stunned. Good heavens, they were already thinking about using it for scientific research. Was this the mindset of a national team? Everything could be converted into a resource. Captain, new development. Anomaly detected at 12 o'clock. At that moment, the urgent voice of a soldier on the third floor came through the communication channel. Lei Long immediately slipped to the shattered floor-to-ceiling window of the lobby and peered out through the dust-caked. Through his high-power scope, he saw that at the end of the street, the wandering zombies, previously aimless, seemed to have been drawn by the dying scream of the monster. They began to turn slowly and converge toward this direction. Though their movements were sluggish, the number 12 o'clock direction estimated count exceeds 50. Lei Long reported. Approaching our position. Requesting instructions. Inside the command vehicle, Zhao Zhangwo looked at the dense red dots on the screen and waved his hand. Probing engagement concluded. Now we need a solid foothold. Order Chemical Defense Corps Engineer Squad to move in immediately. Establish forward operating base 0 around the room containing the dual gate portal. Tell the soldiers not to conserve ammunition. In this world, truth lies only within range. All units fire at will. Lei Long's voice echoed through the comm channel as cold as if he were issuing a cleaning order. The chief said not to spare the bullets. Send them on their way. Copy that. From the third floor window, 3 191 assault rifles fitted with suppressors extended outward at once. Though equipped with suppressors, the dense gunfire echoed harshly through the desolate street. Thump, thump, thump. Precise bursts instantly wove a net of death. The zombies who had just caught the scent of human life and were surging excitedly from all directions crashed into an invisible wall. At such close range, the 5.8mm steel core rounds displayed terrifying penetration. Often a single bullet would pierce through the head of the first zombie and punch a hole in the chest of the one behind. Foul blood splattered, severed limbs flew. Lei Long and the second advance operative stood behind the shattered French windows of the first floor lobby. They did not open fire hastily, but served as the last line of defense, calmly observing the battlefield. This is the charm of modern industrial firepower. Before the large screen in the command center, Chen Guofeng watched the drone footage and sighed. Before absolute range and precision, numbers mean nothing. In less than a minute, the 50-odd ferocious zombies on the street had all become corpses lying on the ground. Not a single one had managed to approach within 10 meters of the building's entrance. Targets eliminated, Lei Long reported. Threat neutralized. Excellent. Zhao Zhangwo nodded, then issued the second order. Engineer Squad 1, move in. Immediately establish Outpost 0. Yes, sir. The engineer squad, already waiting beside the double portal, sprang into action at once. Lin Han felt his vision blur as a group of soldiers in special operations gear carrying various modular equipment rushed through the double portal like a gust of wind. Their movements were dizzyingly fast, yet perfectly orderly. No superfluous words, no chaotic collisions. Everyone knew their position, everyone knew their task. Airtight partition deployment. Gap filling operation commence. Air circulation system linkage. Power transmission line laying. Lin Han stood at the side, feeling like an unnecessary mascot. He had originally thought that establishing an outpost meant moving a few tables and chairs, at most setting up a few machine guns. But he had clearly underestimated the weight of infrastructure maniac. It wasn't just speed, it was an ultimate industrial aesthetics. The first soldiers to enter used some silvery white lightweight alloy panels to completely cover the walls of the dilapidated room in the other world within just 5 minutes. The panels interlocked via tenon amortized joints. A soldier followed behind, using a high-pressure spray gun to apply a layer of pale blue polymer gel over all the seams. This gel solidifies within 10 seconds of exposure to air, forming a molecular-level seal. Chen Guofeng explained to Lin Han. Forget viral aerosols. Even nerve gas can't penetrate it. Next, a compact air purification and circulation all-in-one unit was installed in a corner. A thick supply hose extended through the double portal, directly connected to the air supply system on this side. Lin Han noticed that at the connection points between the hose and the equipment, a special Redan blue magnetic quick-release coupling was used. That's an emergency disconnect device. Seeming to read Lin Han's confusion, Chen Guofeng explained. In case of an uncontrollable crisis, or if you need to close the double portal urgently, this coupling can release with one click and automatically seal the port within 0.1 seconds. No hesitation. A chill ran down Lin Han's spine as he silently nodded. They had thought of everything. Even a contingency for cutting off the tail to survive. Report. Outpost 0 core area airtightness test passed. Internal air pressure adjusted to positive pressure mode. Report. Power grid synchronization successful. Voltage in the other world stable. Report. Military broadband communication base station erected. Signal full bars. From the time Lei Long eliminated the zombies to the room transforming into a futuristic forward base, it had taken less than 20 minutes. Lin Han watched in stunned disbelief. That's done. The basic construction is complete. Zhao Jingwo looked at the renewed room 302 on the screen, then turned to Lin Han. Comrade Lin Han, get ready. We need you to go over there. Huh, me too. Lin Han pointed at himself. You are the master of the portal. Zhao Jingwo looked at him, his gaze warm yet firm. We need to test whether the portal remains stable if you personally are in the other world. And some things perhaps only you can sense. Lin Han took a deep breath. Though his heart was still a bit uneasy looking at the fully armed soldiers on the screen, he felt it wasn't so terrifying anymore. That one-sided slaughter just now had given him immense security. Alright, I'll go. 10 minutes later. Lin Han put on a set of specially made lightweight protective gear. This suit was much lighter than the soldiers' heavy chemical protection suits, yet its protection level was by no means low. He stood before the glowing portal taking one last look back at his bedroom. His once cozy little nest was now crammed with various instruments, turned into a temporary command center. Zhao Jingwo accompanied him personally with 4 fully armed guards beside him. Everyone had changed into the highest grade chemical protection suits. Though they looked somewhat bloated, no one would gamble with their lives. Lin Han nodded and stepped across that luminous gate. A strange sensation spread through his entire body, as if passing through a cool film of water. The next second the feeling under his feet changed. No longer wooden floorboards, but a floor covered with anti-slip steel plates. A faint smell of ozone from the air purifier lingered in the air. No trace of the imagined stench of decay. Welcome to Outpost 0, Chief. Lei Long had returned to the 3rd floor, saluting Zhao Jingwo at the airtight door, then nodded to Lin Han. Consultant Lin. Lin Han looked around. The originally moldy and dilapidated walls were now covered with silvery white alloy panels, and the room was brilliantly lit. Through a high-strength, bulletproof glass observation window reserved in the wall, he witnessed this apocalypse with his own eyes for the first time. The sky was leaden gray, oppressive enough to choke one's breath. Downstairs the street was a complete mess. The zombie corpses shot down moments ago lay scattered across the road, black blood pooling into rivulets that flowed into the sewers. This was the apocalypse. Real brutal, without any filter. How is the portal? Chen Guofeng's voice came through the communicator. Extremely stable, a technician reported looking at the readings. No fluctuation in wave amplitude. Preliminary tests indicate that regardless of which side of the portal Comrade Lin Han is on, the double portal can remain stably open. Excellent. Zhao Jingwo walked to the observation window and pointed at a distant building. It was a jewelry store on the corner. Though its glass door had long been shattered and the interior was pitch black by the dim light, one could still see that seductive glint of gold reflected from the display counters. A jewelry store. Lin Han followed his gaze, his eyes widening instantly. Seems we're in luck, Zhao Jingwo said with a faint smile. We've stumbled upon hard currency right away. In this world, gold is scrap metal. Zhao Jingwo turned around, patting Lin Han on the shoulder meaningfully. But on Earth it has been the strongest currency for the last 100 years. With it we can trade for more steel, more chips, more grain. Comrade Lin Han ready to be a porter. The next day at 0800 in the morning, the sky of the other world remained a lifeless lead gray with no sun visible. Only the pale diffuse light faintly illuminated this dead city. Inside the No. 0 outpost the atmosphere was bustling with activity. Team 1 is responsible for vigilance, Team 2 for clearing obstacles, Team 3 bring the sacks and entrenching tools. The fully equipped Thunder Dragon was making the final battle preparations. Target the corner gold shop. Distance 150 meters. Threat level low. Lin Han was holding a cup of hot soy milk, standing in front of the bulletproof observation window of the No. 0 outpost. Although he was eager to see the scene of gold everywhere with his own eyes, Zhao Jingwo had explicitly issued a ban until the surrounding area was completely cleared. Comrade Lin Han was not allowed to step out of the outpost. In response, Lin Han expressed his firm support. After all, life is his own. Set off. As the airtight door slowly opened, a fully armed squad streamed out. Although yesterday's sonic attack had cleared the zombies in the corridor, quite a few stragglers were still wandering the streets. Puff. Puff. The sound of a suppressed rifle firing became the only melody of the morning. Through the real-time footage transmitted from the Thunder Dragon's helmet camera, Lin Han felt as if he were there. In the footage, the soldiers advanced rapidly and silently. The few ordinary zombies they encountered along the way did not even have a chance to roar before being precisely shot in the head, turning into rotten flesh by the roadside. The asphalt road beneath them was covered in cracks with dark red moss growing in the crevices. The cars by the roadside had long rusted into piles of scrap metal, with only the shattered glass of the windows crunching underfoot. 5 minutes later, they arrived at the gold shop's entrance. The glass door here had long been removed, leaving only a deformed metal frame. The interior was dimly lit, and on the thick layer of dust on the floor, scattered footprints and dark bloodstains were faintly visible. Safety confirmed. The Thunder Dragon led the team in quickly checking behind the counter, and in the warehouse, no zombies. Safe. As several high-powered tactical spotlights turned on the whole gold shop instantly became resplendent. Holy crap. Looking at the image on the big screen, Lin Han couldn't help but curse. Although he had been mentally prepared, seeing the rows of gold ornaments still gleaming enticingly in the display cases was still a tremendous visual impact. Gold necklaces, gold bracelets, gold rings, scattered carelessly like trash in the display cases, some even lying in the dust on the ground. In a broken display case, Lin Han also saw several neatly arranged gold ornaments. Golden toads, golden auspicious symbols, golden Buddha statues. Is this the absurdity of the apocalypse? Thunder Dragon bent down and picked up a gold bar from the ground. This should be the kind used for investment, weighing about 100 grams. It was stained with a black mark resembling some kind of dried bodily fluid. He casually wiped it on his clothes and waved it in front of the camera. Advisor Lin, how's the quality of this? Thunder Dragon's voice came through the communication channel. On Earth, this thing is currently priced at over 600 per gram, so this one is worth 600,000. Lin Han looked at the dazzling gold on the screen and muttered to himself, here it's even less valuable than a pack of instant noodles. That is natural. Shun Guofeng's voice came from the communication channel. The value of gold lies in its social consensus as a general equivalent. When social order collapses, this consensus dissipates. In this world, the only hard currency is survival resources, water, food, medicine, weapons. But in our place, Shun Guofeng paused, a hint of a smile in his tone. It remains the lifeblood of industry, foreign exchange reserves, and hard currency for purchasing advanced technology and strategic materials. Stop dawdling. Thunder Dragon put away the gold bar and clapped his hands. Get to work. The next scene left Lin Han in front of the screen, wide-eyed. He had originally thought moving gold meant carefully packing the gold bars into a safe like in the movies. But the soldier's approach was simple and crude. Clang. A soldier directly swung his rifle, but shattering the display case glass. Then 2 soldiers stepped forward, one holding open a specially designed military woven bag, while the other wielded the entrenching tool, shoveling the gold and silver jewelry from the counter, along with the velvet trays underneath, into the bag. Clatter. The sound of metal clashing was crisp and pleasant. What exquisite craftsmanship, what designer concepts were all irrelevant at this moment. Here they had only one attribute: metal. There's also a safe here, a soldier shouted from behind the counter. Blow it open. Thunder Dragon said nonchalantly. Yes. The engineers skillfully attached directional demolition charges to the safe's door seam. Boom. A muffled sound, and the heavy security door was blasted off. Inside were neatly stacked dozens of standard gold bars weighing 1 kilogram each, along with a large pile of banknotes that had turned to waste paper. Those banknotes were made of a special material resembling a high-strength synthetic plastic. The most striking feature was the design on them. Replacing the portraits common on Earth currencies were grand technological buildings. Thunder Dragon picked up a banknote with a denomination of 1,000 credit points. On the back was a towering giant tower connecting heaven and earth, which was a space elevator. The front displayed a borderless map of East Asia with a small line printed at the top: Central Bank of the East Asia Union. Space elevator. Regional unification. Lin Han, in front of the screen, was stirred by the details of the banknote displayed by Thunder Dragon. These details silently spoke of the former glory of this world. This was a civilization highly advanced in technology, possibly having even entered the interstellar era. Yet despite this, they still faced destruction. In the face of the apocalypse, even the most splendid civilization becomes nothing but a pile of waste paper. The soldiers directly moved the gold bars out, stacking them into transport boxes like bricks. As for those waste paper-like banknotes, they were also ordered by Thunder Dragon to be packed into several large bags. Take all the counting machines, cash terminals, and that device on the counter that looks like a holographic projector away. Thunder Dragon pointed at the dust-covered electronic devices. Dr. Shun instructed that even electronic waste, as long as it has a chip, must be collected. We need to reverse engineer their technological level using these civilian devices. Report, Captain. Inventory completed. Half an hour later, the soldier responsible for counting reported, preliminary estimate: the total weight of gold is about 52 kilograms. Additionally, there are 15 kilograms of platinum and various diamonds, emeralds, and other jewels. 52 kilograms. According to the current gold price, that's over 30 million. And this is just from this small roadside gold shop. How many gold shops are there in this city? How many bank vaults? Lin Han felt as though his breath was about to stall. This is not Wasteland. This is clearly a treasure trove of gold. Regroup. Thunder Dragon waved his hand, and the soldiers hoisted up the bags filled with gold and transport boxes, as if carrying sacks of potatoes happily and easily, making their way back. 20 minutes later at the No. 0 outpost, Lin Han finally touched the shiny gold bar. The heavy feeling made him feel as if it were unreal. Zhao Jiangwo looked at the piles of golden spoils with a satisfied smile on his face. With this batch of startup funds, we can now fully implement the upcoming procurement plans. Although the Flame of Hope project is backed by the state machine, with almost limitless budget support, every expenditure at the national level must go through a strict approval process. Moreover, the ultimate purpose of the project is to benefit the country, not simply to be a gold guzzler. In less than 24 hours, they had brought back hard currency worth tens of millions. Although this income is still just a drop in the bucket compared to the current manpower and resources invested, it proves a crucial fact: this other world is profitable. This is a perfect start. Zhao Jiangwo looked at Lin Han. Comrade Lin Han, another achievement has been recorded in your merit book. Chief, this is nothing. Lin Han placed the gold bar he held into the box, took a deep breath. What concerns me more is the footage just transmitted back by Captain Thunder Dragon. He pointed out the window to the distant, still shadowy half-high-rise building. There lies the CBD area of, if we can find the bank vault there, or the server of the tech companies there. Lin Han's gaze sharpened. That would be the real treasure. Zhao Jiangwo nodded appreciatively. No rush. We must take it one step at a time. Zhao Jiangwo turned to Thunder Dragon. How is the drone reconnaissance situation? Report. A technician quickly switched the image. The Hummingbird drone just discovered a unique heat source in the area of the unfinished building 2 kilometers from here. On the screen, a red dot stood out against the gray ruins backdrop. Heat source. Lin Han leaned in close. Not just a heat source. The technician enlarged the image. Through spectral analysis, this should be a sun signal reflected by a mirror. It's very regular, like Morse code. Morse code. Zhao Jiangwo's expression tightened. Translated. It's SOS. The technician replied. Repeated 3 short and 3 long, 3 short. The command room fell silent instantly. Survivors. Shun Guofeng adjusted his glasses, his tone certain. Zhao Jiangwo was silent for a moment, then decisively ordered, contact them. We need a local guide. The contact plan has been formulated. Shun Guofeng stood before the tactical map, his fingers gliding across the screen. The target is located in an unfinished building area 1 kilometer from Outpost 0. The contact plan has been formulated. Shun Guofeng stood before the tactical map, his fingers gliding across the screen. The target is located in an unfinished building area. That is precisely what we need to understand, Zhao Jiangwo said in a low voice. Those who can survive independently in the apocalypse are no ordinary individuals. We need their survival experience, and even more their understanding of this world. Operation Codename, Asking the Way. Executing Unit 1st Reconnaissance Squad of the Special Operations Brigade equipped with Hummingbird drone swarm. Lei Long snapped to attention and saluted. Mission will be accomplished. For this operation, Lin Han could only remain in the outpost as an observer. However, to facilitate communication, the technical department had set up a dedicated high-resolution display screen before his observation window, providing a real-time view from the drones and soldiers. What if they are hostile? Lin Han couldn't help asking. We will first extend an olive branch, then resort to force if necessary. Zhao Jiangwo said calmly. We come with good intentions, but if those intentions are rejected, we have enough firepower to pacify him. At 14:00 in the afternoon, 2 Hummingbird microdrones took off, first gliding silently over the ruined city like inconspicuous gray magpies. Lei Long followed closely with 4 elite scouts. They did not take the main roads but hugged the shadows of buildings using abandoned vehicles and walls as cover, advancing swiftly and silently. This tactical maneuver allowed them to avoid the wandering horde on the streets while minimizing exposure. Lei Long's voice was very low. Sprinters spotted 300 meters ahead. On the screen, Lin Han saw a familiar gray monster basking on top of a bus. The soldiers did not pause. They slipped past like ghosts from a second-floor window without alerting any monsters. 10 minutes later, the unfinished building area came into view. It was a high-rise residential zone, only half constructed, with exposed steel and concrete protruding like skeletal fingers stabbing into the sky. Target is on the top floor of Building 3, Lei Long reported. Drones have locked on. The view switched to the drone camera. On the rooftop of an unfinished building, a thin figure was holding a broken makeup mirror, adjusting its angle toward the sun. It was a woman who appeared quite young. She wore a mismatched, filthy gray work uniform, her hair tangled and tied back in a messy bun, her face covered in grime that obscured her features. At her feet lay a homemade water filter, a cut plastic bottle filled with sand, charcoal, and cloth scrap. In a chipped bowl beneath the filter was only a shallow layer of murky liquid. That was her entire day's harvest. Clearly she was at her wit's end, or she wouldn't have risked coming to the rooftop in broad daylight to send a distress signal. She's using the mirror to signal. Lin Han watched the scene. Such a traditional method. Her communication equipment must have failed long ago. That means she hasn't given up hope. Chen Guofeng analyzed coolly. As long as there is a will to survive, there is a basis for negotiation. So pitiful. Lin Han murmured, looking at the murky water in the chipped bowl. Though he had read many post-apocalyptic novels before, the impact of seeing such a scene firsthand was entirely. That humble struggle for survival deeply pierced his modern sensibilities. Captain, shall we make contact? The observer's voice came through the communicator. Lei Long looked toward the command center. Zhao Jiangwo nodded. Proceed with Plan A. Drop supplies and establish initial trust. Roger. Lei Long input instructions on the terminal. The drone hovering above the rooftop descended slowly. The woman below seemed to sense something. She jerked her head up, her eyes flashing with the wariness and ferocity of a startled beast. She quickly grabbed a sharpened rebar beside her, curling her body behind a concrete pillar, staring intently at the micro-drone in the air. Her eyes were full of vigilance. Clearly in this world, drones were not uncommon and might even signify danger. Don't be afraid. A standard, gentle electronic voice in Mandarin came from the drone's speaker. We mean no harm. The woman said nothing, but her grip on the rebar tightened, her knuckles turning white. Thud. The drone's belly hatch opened, and a small package was dropped, landing precisely 2 meters in front. The woman flinched, instinctively shrinking back. But after a long wait, the package did not explode or release. It lay there quietly, a transparent sealed bag. Through the plastic, the contents were clearly visible: a block of compressed biscuits, a box of amoxicillin capsules, and a 550 milliliters bottle of crystal clear mineral water with its label torn off. In this gray, filthy, rotting world, that pristine bottle of water was like a dazzling diamond, instantly capturing all of the woman's attention. It was something she had only seen in dreams. It was the color of civilization. Gulp. Through the high magnification lens, Lin Han clearly saw her swallow. It was the most primal biological craving, overwhelming all reason and caution. This is just a gift, the drone's voice rang out again. If you are willing to communicate, we need some information. In exchange, we can provide more food and water like this. The woman stared fixedly at the water bottle, her expression shifting from ferocity to struggle and finally to determination. She cautiously reached out, as if touching a fragile dream, and grabbed the package. Then she tore it open, twisted off the cap, and tilted her head back. Without a moment's hesitation, without a single wasted drop. She did not even drink it all at once. She took only a small sip, closed her eyes, and let the sweet liquid swirl in her mouth, as if savoring the most exquisite nectar. 2 streaks of clear tears rolled down her grimy cheeks, washing pale trails in their wake. Contact successful, Lei Long's voice came through the channel. The fish has taken the bait. In front of the screen, Lin Han watched the woman weeping over a bottle of water, his heart filled with mixed emotions. A bottle of water can break her defenses like this, eh? To someone drowning, a straw is the whole world, Zhao Jiangwo said, his gaze profound. And we are holding the entire ark in our hands. Su Wan's loss of composure lasted only a brief 10-odd seconds. As the sweet liquid slid down her throat into her stomach, bringing a long-lost sense of moisture, her mind, once clouded by hunger and thirst, rapidly cooled. As the former chief virologist of the Haitian Institute of Bioscience and Technology, rationality was an instinct etched into her very bones. She quickly tightened the cap, clutching the remaining half bottle of water protectively to her chest, then lifted her head and wiped her face carelessly with her sleeve. The vulnerability in her eyes vanished, replaced by a look of scrutiny and assessment. The other party possessed a drone. They had industrial-grade purified water with a flawless bottle body and no scratches indicating it was newly produced. They also had medicine. That box of amoxicillin was unopened. Conclusion: this was a powerful force with a complete industrial production line and the remnants of pre-war civilization. It might be a large-scale shelter, or even the legendary Central War Zone. What do you want? Su Wan's voice was hoarse but clear. I have no supplies. I only have this life and what's in my head. We want information. The voice from the drone remained gentle. About this city, the zombies, and the current distribution of powers. The more detailed, the better. Su Wan was silent for a moment. She knew this was her only chance. In this post-apocalyptic world, value was the currency of survival. If she couldn't prove her worth, the other party could discard her at any moment like an ant. All right. Su Wan took a deep breath and pulled a neatly folded piece of paper from her pocket. It was a tourist map of Haitian City, the edges worn and faded. She had made dense annotations on it with red and, "This is the intelligence I've gathered over the past 3 months." She unfolded the map in front of the drone's camera, sliding her finger across it. The red zones are heavily infected areas where zombie hordes gather. The city center, the train station, and these major hospitals. Never go there. There are runners and even spitters haunting those places. The blue zones are safe houses and supply points, but most have already been looted. Her finger paused. The black crosses are the control zones of Huaxia group. They've taken over the industrial park and oil refinery in the north. They have heavy weapons and are extremely xenophobic. They capture survivors as slaves and even conduct experiments. Inside Outpost 0, Chen Guofeng stared at the clear map on the screen, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. This girl is a talent for intelligence work. He quickly ordered the technician screenshot model it and import this information into the tactical map. Anything else? Lin Han pressed through the microphone. Besides this, any special news? For example, anything strange? Suwon thought for a moment. Strange things. She seemed to recall something, a flash of disgust and fear in her eyes. Recently, Huaxia group has been frantically collecting zombie heads. Heads? Lin Han was taken aback. To be precise, what's inside the heads? Suwon explained, I saw from afar that after their hunting squads killed mutated zombies, they would cut open the back of the zombie's skull and take out something like a crystal. It said that thing is extremely important to them, more important than gold or food. Crystal. Those two words struck Lin Han like lightning. He instinctively looked at Zhao Jiangwo and Chen Guofeng. By now Chen Guofeng's eyes were shining like two searchlights. He lunged toward the microphone and asked rapidly, what color is that crystal? How big? Does it glow? Suwon was startled by the sudden urgency, but answered truthfully, most are grayish-white, the size of a fingernail. But I saw them sacrifice an entire squad just to seize a red one. A core. Chen Guofeng took a deep breath and turned to Zhao Jiangwo, his voice trembling with excitement. Commander, if I'm not mistaken, this might be a new type of high-energy substance. A substance that can drive biological mutations and perhaps contain unimaginable energy. Zhao Jiangwo, though not a biologist, understood strategy. If that core were truly a high-energy substance, its value would be incalculable. Ask her if she knows the specific use of that thing. Zhao Jiangwo said in a deep voice. I know a little. Suwon hesitated, but continued, I heard people from Huaxia call it blood of the gods. They believe it can grant power, but the side effects are severe. Direct use leads to death or mutation. Only after some special purification can it be used as a strengthening agent. Grant power. Lin Han's heart raced. As the master of the dual portal, he was more sensitive than anyone. The portal was still level 1, only allowing passage through an opening a few meters wide. To upgrade it to transport tanks, planes, or even destroyers, some special energy was definitely needed. Could it be this? Comrade Lin Han. Zhao Jiangwo spoke, interrupting his thoughts. It seems we need to have deeper contact with this survivor. He looked at the frail yet resilient woman on the screen, a glint of admiration in his eyes. She's very smart and knows how to read the situation. Most importantly, she's a local. Bring her in, Zhao Jiangwo ordered. We need her. On the rooftop of the decrepit building, Suwon waited anxiously for a response. She had already shared all the most valuable intelligence she knew. If they weren't satisfied. Just then the drone's voice came again. Your intelligence is valuable. At these words, Suwon's tense body finally relaxed. In return, we can offer you shelter. The gentle voice continued, if you're willing, we can take you to a safe place. There's clean water, hot food, no zombies, and no Huaxia group. Suwon was stunned. A safe place? In this hell, was there really such a place? Instinctively, she wanted to refuse. There's no such thing as a free lunch. But when she looked down at the bottle of water in her hand, at the crystal clear liquid, the words of refusal wouldn't come out. It was the temptation of civilization. It was the light she had longed for most when waking from countless nightmares and tears. Suwon bit her lip, her voice trembling. I'm willing. Good. The drone rose slowly. Stay where you are. Don't move. Our pickup team is downstairs. One more question. The voice suddenly became casual, as if making small talk. What was your job? From the way you analyze the intelligence, you're not an average person. Suwon hesitated. She straightened her tattered collar and lifted her spine. Despite the grime on her face, she exuded an aura unique to an intellectual at that moment. My name is Suwon, director of the 3rd Laboratory Haitian Institute of Bioscience and Technology. The Z-Virus. We discovered it there. When Suwon identified herself as a person associated with the discoverer of this virus, the command center of Outpost 0 fell into a brief silence. Everyone realized this was not merely rescuing a survivor, but acquiring a living repository of knowledge. Escort her back to the outpost immediately. Zhao Jiangwo made a swift decision, his voice carrying an irrefutable authority. Elevate security to the highest level. Lei Long, if obstructed, you are authorized to use any means necessary. Understood. Lei Long's response remained terse and resolute. 15 minutes later, Suwon was led into Outpost 0. As she crossed the airlock door and beheld the silver-white sci-fi space filled with clean uniformed personnel moving busily, yet orderly, she froze completely. This was no survivalist camp. The equipment, the energy supply, the caliber of personnel, even the faint scent of disinfectant in the air, gave her an overwhelming sense of temporal dislocation. It felt as though she had not been wandering the apocalypse, but had returned to a pre-cataclysm national laboratory. Welcome, Dr. Su. A young man in casual attire smiled and extended his hand. He appeared amiable, his eyes clear, devoid of the typical post-apocalyptic aggression and madness. It was Lin Han. Su-won shook his hand somewhat awkwardly. Her hands were grimy, nails caked with dirt, while his were clean and warm. Lin Han, he introduced himself. This is, well, think of it as a special operations base. Su-won. She spoke softly, but her gaze involuntarily drifted to a nearby table where a freshly opened self-heating rice meal steamed alongside an opened can of Red Bull. Hungry, Lin Han slid the meal toward her. Eat first, we'll talk after you've had your fill. No pleasantries. Su-won practically lunged at the table, shoveling rice into her mouth with a spoon, urgent yet maintaining a shred of dignity. The scalding rice brought tears streaming down her cheeks, but she couldn't bear to spit it out, swallowing it along with her tears. Lin Han watched, feeling a pang of sorrow. This was the apocalypse. Even a former brilliant scientist, when faced with hunger, regressed to the most primal animal instinct. 10 minutes later, the meal was devoured. Su-won finally set down the empty container. She took a sip of Red Bull and let out a long sigh. Thank you. Her eyes regained clarity, even sharpness. Now we can discuss a trade. No rush. Chun Guofeng approached, holding a sealed bag containing a gray-white crystal, the very one Lei Long had extracted from the Boxing's head. Dr. Su, is this the crystal core you mentioned? Su-won glanced at it, her pupils contracting slightly. She nodded. This is a low-grade crystal core, typically found in Class 1 mutants. Ordinary zombies rarely have them. What exactly is it? Chun Guofeng stared intently. We call it a high-energy biological aggregate. Su-won shifted into professional mode, her speech accelerating. This virus not only destroys cells, but also reorganizes the host's energy metabolism system. It concentrates undigested energy from the host's body and absorbed radiation from the environment into a special organ in the brain, forming this crystal. In simple terms, it's the mutant's battery. Battery. Lin Han felt a surge of realization. Su-won continued, the Haigang group discovered that directly swallowing these crystal cores has a minuscule chance of empowering ordinary people, even awakening special abilities. But the mortality rate is 99. Most turn into zombies directly or self-destruct due to energy overload. Then why do they keep collecting them? Because they're mad, Su-won said coldly. Moreover, they seem to have found a purification method to reduce mortality, but I don't know the specifics. Energy. Lin Han paid no heed to the Haigang group's madness. His focus was entirely on that word. He subconsciously reached out and touched the crystal core through the sealed bag. The instant his fingertip made contact, a soft chime resonated in his mind. The sensation was familiar, like the first time he had activated the dual portal. Then a translucent stream of information abruptly appeared before his retinas. Detected absorbable energy source. Tier 1 biological crystal core. Energy purity 12. Contains many impurities equivalent to 12 energy points absorb. Current dual portal level LV1 upgrade progress 01000 upgrade. Effect expand portal to 5 by 5 meters. Unlock material transmission channel. Allows large vehicle passage. Lin Han was stunned. Then ecstasy surged within him. So this was it. This was the key to upgrading. The so-called surrendering to the state wasn't just handing over resources and technology. It was leveraging state power to hunt powerful mutants, obtain crystal cores, and upgrade the dual portal. It was a perfect closed loop. Comrade Lin Han. What's wrong? Chun Guofeng noticed his peculiar expression. Lin Han snapped back, suppressing his excitement. He glanced at Su-won, who was still absorbed in studying the crystal core, and realized this wasn't the place to speak. Chief, I have an important report. Lin Han signaled Zhao Jiangwo with his eyes and pointed to the encrypted communication room next door. Regarding the use of this crystal core, Zhao Jiangwo understood. Dr. Su, please take a rest. He nodded to Su-won, then led Lin Han and Chun Guofeng into the adjacent secure room. The airlock closed. Speak, Zhao Jiangwo said to Lin Han. Chief, I know what this thing is for. Lin Han took a deep breath and said slowly, it can charge the portal. Charge. Zhao Jiangwo raised an eyebrow. Yes. Lin Han gestured toward the glowing portal. The moment I touched it, I received feedback. This thing provides the energy needed to upgrade the dual portal. With enough of them, I can expand the portal, even allow tanks to drive through. A single sentence ignited the entire command center. Tanks driving through. What did that mean? The current dual portal had a diameter of only 2 meters, allowing only personnel and light equipment. Heavy equipment had to be disassembled, transported in, and reassembled. Extremely inefficient. If tanks, armored vehicles, and even attack helicopters could roll straight through, that would be a true steel tide. That would be a true dimensionality reduction strike. How many? Zhao Jiangwo asked directly. For this low-grade type, roughly 100. 100. Zhao Jiangwo turned to the tactical map, his gaze locking onto a zombie horde concentration point marked in red. His eyes turned razor-sharp like a drawn blade. Lay long. Sir. Notify the Special Operations Brigade. Full assembly. Zhao Zhangwo pointed at the red dot on the map, his tone grim. Surround this area? Since these monsters contain the energy we need, they're no longer threats. They're walking or deposits. From now on we start mining. After issuing the order for the entire army to mine, Zhao Zhangwo's gaze returned to the screen before him, which displayed a real-time feed of Su Wan in the outpost rest area. Now that Dr. Su's identity has been confirmed, I suggest immediately transferring her to the P4 laboratory for a full examination. Chen Guofeng stared at the frail figure on the screen, his eyes gleaming with the light of discovery. The knowledge in her mind is crucial for us to decipher that world. No, Zhao Zhangwo refused decisively, his voice cold and almost ruthless. Until we completely rule out the virus incubation period and mutation risks, she must not cross that door. Behind us are 1.4 billion people. We cannot afford this risk. He turned to face the fully armed commander of the Chemical Defense Corps. Order the engineer battalion to speed up. The outpost 0 built around Building 4 must be fully sealed as soon as possible. Additionally, set up a fully enclosed medical isolation pod in room 301 right next to the light portal. Transport the best equipment, medicine, and daily supplies there. Since she can't come over for now, well, send civilization to her. In the other world, at the splendid garden residential complex Building 4. After a full day of cleansing by the Special Operations Brigade, the building and the surrounding 200 meters had been thoroughly cleared of zombies. Facing modern automatic rifles, these decaying, sluggish walking corpses were no more challenging than moving. At this moment, the building's windows were being sealed one by one with thick steel plates and sealant by the engineers. Huge air purification units roared, attempting to replace the air inside with a safe, breathable environment. Lin Han's voice came through the loudspeaker. Dr. Su, by now you must have realized we come from another world. For epidemic prevention and safety, we cannot invite you through the light portal for now. But in the medical pod next door in room 301, you will be absolutely safe. Su Wan looked at the busy yet orderly soldiers and gave a bitter smile. She understood. What she carried was not just dirt, but possibly the most lethal plague of that world. To this clean civilization, she was a dangerous source of infection. I understand. Su Wan took a deep breath. As long as I can have clean water, it doesn't matter where. When she stepped into the medical pod 0 in room 301, despite having already seen the cleanliness of the outside outpost, the professionalism here still surprised her. The dilapidated living room had been completely emptied and replaced with a silver-white negative pressure isolation tent. The floor was covered with dust-free anti-static tiles, and various medical instruments blinked with indicator lights. Though the equipment appeared slightly bulkier than she remembered, every piece was brand new and in perfect maintenance condition. The floor was covered with dust-free anti-static tiles, and various medical instruments blinked with indicator lights. As a former top scientist, Su Wan immediately recognized the origins of these devices at a glance. ECG monitor, blood gas analyzer, spiral CT. Her fingers lightly brushed over the casing of a machine. They look a bit clunky, less integrated than pre-cataclysm products, but they're brand new and impeccably maintained. This gave her an inexplicable sense of reassurance. The technological level of this civilization might be slightly behind that of pre-cataclysm launching, but their industrial system was intact and vibrant. Dr. Su, we need to perform decontamination procedures first. 2 fully armed female military medics guided her into the shower room. Warm water poured down. Su Wan stood stiffly under the shower head, watching the black water flow at her feet. No sting of radiation reigned, no stench of recycled water. It was real, heated, pure water. She scrubbed her skin frantically, as if trying to wash away all the marks of the 12-year apocalypse. After decontamination, she changed into a fresh, sterile hospital gown and lay on a soft medical bed. The monitoring instruments emitted rhythmic beeps. Severe malnutrition, multiple soft tissue contusions, mild radiation sickness. Just then the transfer window of the isolation pod opened with a ding. Lin Han stood outside the window in a light protective suit, holding a meal tray. Dr. Su, General Zhao specifically instructed that since your digestive system hasn't seen oil in a long time, your first meal shouldn't be too heavy. This is a specially formulated nutritional meal. Lin Han smiled awkwardly through the glass. I brought it myself. Consider it. A greeting from a fellow countryman. The lid was lifted. A bowl of soft, fragrant millet porridge. A plate of stir-fried seasonal vegetables. 2 boiled eggs. And a small dish of glistening red, streaky braised pork cut into small pieces. Su Wan stared fixedly at the bowl of braised pork. Across 12 years, the familiar meaty aroma struck her heart like a heavy hammer. In the apocalypse, food represented status. In the lighthouse survivor camp, where she had been even as a research director, she only received a small piece of synthetic meat each month. Real unmutated braised pork like this. Perhaps only the autocratic director would allow himself a bite on. This is for me. Su Wan's voice trembled violently. Eat up, there's plenty more, Lin Han said gently. Suwon picked up the spoon with trembling hands, scooped up a piece of braised pork, and brought it to her lips. The grease melted on her tongue, rich and savory. At that moment, the taut string deep within Suwon snapped. Wah! She covered her mouth, letting out a stifled sob that quickly turned into wailing. She wept as she frantically stuffed food into her mouth. Tears fell into the porridge and mixed with the braised pork as she swallowed. In that moment, the scientist's reserve and the hardened shell forged in the ruins all crumbled away. She was just an ordinary girl who had struggled in hell for 12 years and finally tasted the warmth of human life. This was the taste of civilization. Lin Han stood quietly outside the window, saying nothing, but silently handed her a pack of tissues. After a long while, Suwon finished the last bit of gravy and put down the spoon. She took the tissues, wiped her tears, and when she looked up again, the vulnerability was gone, replaced by an unprecedented resolve. Mr. Lin Han. Suwon looked at Lin Han through the window, her voice hoarse but resolute. I know I'm a virologist. I understand the terror of the Z virus better than anyone. I will stay here and cooperate with all your research. I will give you everything in my mind about this world. The virus maps weak points of mutated creatures' resource. She turned her head to glance at the wall, as if seeing through it to the azure glowing spatial portal next door. I have only one request. If the day comes when it's confirmed I'm no longer dangerous, please let me go over there and see the sun. In the command vehicle, Zhao Jiangwo watched the surveillance screen, remained silent for a long time, then slowly nodded. Tell her that day will come. Order the engineer battalion to work 24-hour shifts and complete the overall airtight modification of Building 4 within 3 days. I want our soldiers to be able to take off their gas masks and breathe inside this building. The construction of Outpost Zero was in full swing while in the 301 medical pod adjacent to the light portal, a cross-world scientific dialogue officially commenced. Though nominally a medical pod, it was actually a fully sealed negative pressure isolation area converted from room 301 is situated next to the light portal in room 302. Through the one-way glass, the busy figures of engineers in the corridor outside could still be seen. Suwon's mental state was better than expected. After enjoying that unforgettable braised pork dish, she almost immediately demanded to start working. This is all the data we've collected so far on what you call the Z virus. Chen Guofeng's voice came through the communicator. He was sitting in the real world's P4 laboratory with a screen in front of him, showing Suwon inside the 301 medical pod. Just this simple analysis from the past 2 days. Suwon frowned slightly at the data on the screen. These data are too shallow, based merely on samples taken from ordinary infected bodies over the last 2 days. The real Z virus is far more complex than this. She sat at the console. Although the operating systems of the two worlds differed slightly, for a scientist of her caliber, mastering it took only a few minutes. What you're seeing now is just its surface. In our research, the Z virus is more akin to a nanoscale biomechanical entity, not merely a simple virus. A biomechanical entity. Chen Guofeng frowned. How is that possible? Under the microscope, we saw clearly a protein structure. That is its camouflage. Suwon explained. Although I've only scratched the surface of the core data, my father mentioned before his death that the core of the Z virus contains an encrypted genetic lock. It can not only rewrite an organism's DNA, but also reorganize the host's energy metabolism system. She pointed at a flashing red note on the screen. That's why zombies can survive for long periods without eating, and why high-level mutants can unleash energy attacks. Because they all have this inside them, a high-energy biological aggregate, which we commonly call a crystal core. Upon hearing the words crystal core, Lin Han, who was listening nearby, immediately perked up. He was holding a sealed bag containing the grayish-white crystal excavated from the Rager's head. Dr. Su, since you're a virologist, you must know the exact composition of this thing, right? Lin Han asked. I only know a part of it. Suwon looked at the crystal core with a grave expression. We call this substance the crystallization of God's blood. That one is a first-grade crystal core, seemingly full of impurities. Its main component is an unknown biopiezoelectric ceramic that can instantly release high-voltage electricity when stimulated by neural currents. Biopiezoelectric ceramic. Chen Guofeng murmured. No wonder our instruments can't detect radioactivity. What use does this thing have for us? Lin Han pressed. Besides studying it as a sample. Suwon was silent for a moment, as if hesitating to reveal that forbidden knowledge. In my world, some people, such as the High Gang group, attempt to strengthen themselves by injecting crystal core extract. They believe it grants power, but my father always opposed such practices. Direct contact or implantation of crystal cores results in extremely high mortality, and even survivors face a severe risk of mutation. She lifted her head and looked at Lin Han through the screen. As for how much energy it actually contains, or how to extract it safely, even our former laboratory never fully solved it. I can only tell you this. This thing is dangerous, extremely dangerous. Lin Han smiled. Don't worry, we're not going to use its bioenhancement function, but rather its physical properties. With that, he picked up the sealed bag and walked over to the huge floor-to-ceiling bulletproof glass. Opposite the glass was the dual-crossing portal emitting a faint blue glow. Dr. Su, since you don't know its energy magnitude, either let us verify it. What are you going to do? Su-won was puzzled. Lin Han did not answer. He took a deep breath, pressed his hand against the bulletproof glass, and fixed his gaze on the crystal core in his hand. System absorb, he murmured in his mind. The next second, Su-won was astonished to find that the grayish-white crystal core in Lin Han's hand began to glow. Without any instrument assistance or physical contact, the crystal seemed ignited by an invisible force, trembling slightly inside the sealed bag, then decomposing and vaporizing at a visible rate. Numerous barely visible streams of pale blue light overflowed from the crystal core, penetrated the sealed bag, the bulletproof glass, and directly drilled into the enormous dual-crossing portal. The originally calm, rotating vortex of the light portal suddenly accelerated, as if injected with a stimulant. Buzz. A low hum resonated throughout the entire floor. The pale blue halo at the edge of the light portal instantly expanded, even emitting a rhythmic pulsation like breathing. What principle is this? Su-won's eyes widened as she stared incredulously. This was completely beyond her scientific understanding. It was eaten by that portal. Lin Han released his hand. Inside the sealed bag, only a small pile of grayish-white powder remained. At the same time, the long-awaited message popped into his mind. Successfully absorbed 1 first-rank biological crystal core energy points, gained 12 current upgrade progress, 121,000, as expected. Lin Han clenched his fist, a triumphant smile spreading uncontrollably across his lips. Dr. Su, he turned around and looked at the stunned Su-won on the screen. This is the true purpose of this thing. It's not poison bits. A key. Su-won murmured. That's right. Lin Han pointed at the light portal. This door is hungry. And these crystal cores are its food. Feed it enough, and it will become bigger, stronger, and more stable. At this moment, whether it was Chun Guofeng on the other side of the screen, or Zhao Jingwo in the command vehicle, they were all deeply shocked by this scene. Crystal core energy. Zombies' mobile mineral packs. Once this equation was established, the entire strategic situation reversed instantly. The zombies that were once repulsive and avoided now turned in Zhao Jingwo's eyes into walking gold bricks and mobile barrels of oil. Comrade Lin Han. Zhao Jingwo's voice cut into the channel, barely concealing his excitement. Are you sure that only 100 of these first-grade crystal cores are needed to complete the first-stage upgrade? Positive. Lin Han looked at the progress bar in his mind. And I have a feeling that the upgraded dual-crossing portal will surely give us a huge surprise. Good. Zhao Jingwo slammed the table. Issue my orders. All special operations brigades are to be on level 1 combat readiness. The engineer company will immediately clear an armored corridor to the light portal. Since the zombies over there have our oil in their heads, well, go and dig them out. Inside the 301 medical pod, Su-won watched the suddenly fierce soldiers on the screen, and then looked at the light portal outside the window, which seemed even brighter. An indescribable shock surged in her heart. In her world, humans hid underground, viewing crystal cores as curses and zombies as death incarnate. But in the eyes of people in this world, zombies had become a resource. Is this a gap in civilization? Su-won murmured. She vaguely sensed that the intervention of this world might truly and thoroughly change the fate of that wasteland. Not salvation, but conquest. Level 1 combat readiness. Level 1 combat readiness. The piercing alarm shrieked across the Happiness Homeland community on the reality side, and the splendid Homeland Building 4 on the otherworld side. Squads of fully armed soldiers filed out through the light gates, swiftly deploying a defensive formation on the streets surrounding Outpost 0. Attention! This is not a drill. Everyone check the airtightness of your gas masks. Activate the friend or foe identification system. Heavy weapons teams, take your positions. Lei Long stood on the rooftop of Outpost 0, holding military binoculars, his gaze coldly scanning the ruined streets below. Behind him, 2 Type 89 heavy machine guns had been mounted, their dark muzzles aimed straight at the end of the street. Reporting to command post, the lure team is in position. The reconnaissance company commander's voice came through the communication channel. Begin the operation. Zhao Jingwo's voice was steady and forceful. About 500 meters from Outpost 0 at a crossroad, 2 hummingbird drones hovered in midair, carrying high-power military loudspeakers beneath them. ZZZ. With a crackle of electrical interference, a legendary song that had vanished from this world for 12 years suddenly exploded over the dead ruins. The boundless horizon is my love. Beneath the endless green hills, flowers bloom. What rhythm is the most swaying? What song fills the heart with joy? The deafening, most dazzling ethnic style shattered the silence of the post-apocalyptic world. The zombies that had been lurking in the shadows under the rubble and among the wrecked cars erupted like a stirred hornet. Though mindless, they were extremely sensitive to sound. Roar. Countless roars echoed one after another. Dense gray-white figures poured out from all directions, converging into a rotting tide, madly chasing the two low-flying drones. The prey has taken the bait. The reconnaissance company commander piloted the drones, leading the zombie horde toward Outpost Zero like flying a kite. All units, the target is within firing parameters. Distance 500 meters, 300 meters, 100 meters. Lei Long observed the surging tide of zombies below, at least 500 strong. Among them were several swift rakers. For an ordinary survivor camp, facing such a horde, the only option would be to abandon the city and flee. But today they faced a modern combined arms infantry battalion. Open fire. The command was given. Tat-a-tat-a-tat. The two heavy machine guns on the rooftop roared to life first. The 12.7mm bullets lashed like fiery whips across the vanguard of the horde. The terrifying kinetic energy instantly tore the frontmost zombies into shreds. Limbs flew and black blood splattered. Then dozens of automatic rifles deployed on the second and third floors opened fire simultaneously. A crossfire net blanketed the entire street. This was not a battle. It was an industrial slaughter. The zombies that made survivors tremble with fear were as fragile as paper in the face of a metal storm. They never even reached the barrier of abandoned vehicles. They fell like harvested wheat. Rager spotted in Sector 3. Request sniper. Roger. On the rooftop, a sniper calmly squeezed the trigger of the QBU-1. 91%. Earlier during the establishment of Outpost Zero, Lei Long had killed such a monster and left visual records. Suwon confirmed that this powerful thick-skinned variant was called a Rager, and ordinary rifle rounds struggled to deliver a fatal blow. Bang! A Rager attempting to leap through the ruins had its head explode like a watermelon, its headless corpse crashing heavily to the ground. In less than 10 minutes, the gunfire gradually faded. The once crowded and noisy street fell back into dead silence, leaving only scattered limbs and a thick stench of decay. Is it over already? Suwon, watching through surveillance inside Medical Pod 301, was stunned. She had witnessed zombie hordes before. They were a despair-inducing natural disaster. Yet before these soldiers in camouflage, the horde seemed utterly— This is the power of firepower. Lin Han's voice came from beside her, tinged with pride. Dr. Su, welcome to the world of truth within cannon range. Clean the battlefield. Lei Long's voice rang again. Engineer Company advance. Chemical Defense Company provide cover. We must dig out the crystal cores before their energy dissipates. Dozens of soldiers in fully sealed hazmat suits rushed out of cover, carrying special sampling tongs and cutting tools, beginning operations among the piles of corpses. For these soldiers, this task tested their mental fortitude more than combat. They had to endure the nauseating stench and skillfully crack open each zombie's skull to find the gray-white crystal. Report. Found a first-grade crystal core. Here too. Captain dug up a red one. Looks like a second-grade crystal core. The radio crackled with good news. Lin Han stood before the light gate, watching bags of blood-stained crystal cores being sent back as the system notification chimed incessantly. Absorbed first-grade crystal core 1, energy 12. Absorbed first-grade crystal core 1, energy 11. Absorbed second-grade crystal core, energy 150. The progress bar indicating the upgrade level was surging madly at a heart-pounding pace. 120-1000. 350-1000. 680-1000. 900-1000. Finally, when the last bag of crystal cores was sent through the light gate. Ding. Energy fully charged. Current progress 1000-1000. Dual crossing. Gate upgraded to LV2. Gate dimensions expanded to 5 by 5 meters. Adjustable new feature unlocked. Material transport channel stable state. New permission unlocked. Two-way large vehicle passage. New permission unlocked. Spatial anchor relocation. Boom. The circular light vortex, originally only 2 meters in diameter, suddenly burst into brilliant blue light. After the radiance faded, what appeared before everyone was no longer an unstable circular black hole, but a rectangular light curtain with straight edges, as stable as a mirror. Like a stargate to another world, it was firmly embedded in the bedroom wall. Only now it seemed confined by this narrow room. The light curtain pressed against the ceiling and floor, nearly filling the entire wall, exuding an oppressive aura. Detected current space constraint. Gate dimensions auto-adjusted. Maximum deployable size 5 by 5 meters. Host can adjust gate size at will through mental command. Lin Han gazed at the enormous wall of light before him, then glanced up at the somewhat oppressive ceiling, a meaningful smile curling at the corner of his mouth. He turned to Zhao Jiangwo on the communicator. Commander, the gate is open, and it's bigger than we expected. But, he pointed at the ceiling. This temple is too small to house such a grand Buddha. We need to move it, a new home. On the other end of the communicator, Zhao Jiangwo stared at the light gate confined in the cramped room on the screen, a sharp glint flashing in his eyes. You mean the current light gate can be moved, Oi? Yes, Chief. Lin Han nodded, his consciousness sweeping over the newly unlocked spatial anchor migration option on the system panel. It can't be opened anywhere I please, but I can move it onto any wall nearby. As long as the wall is large enough, it can fully expand. Good. Zhao Jingwo abruptly rose and strode quickly to the tactical sand table in the command room. Notify the engineering department, immediately initiate Plan B. The so-called Plan B was the preset second phase of the Ember Operation Group. As early as the second day after Lin Han submitted the light gate, the state machinery had already begun to operate in silence. To prepare for the potential need for large equipment entry in the future, an engineering unit affiliated with the Rocket Force had secretly taken over the underground air raid shelter beneath the Happiness Home residential complex. That old civil defense project built in the 1980s was reinforced, expanded, and transformed within just 48 hours into an underground fortress with independent ventilation power supply and the highest level of blast resistance. Originally, this was just a just-in-case backup plan. Unexpectedly, it came into use so soon. On the other side of the world, Outpost 0. Attention, all personnel. Prepare to evacuate Room 302. Upon receiving the order, Lei Long swiftly organized his team to dismantle the fortifications they had just constructed. Where are we moving to? Suwon asked, somewhat puzzled as she packed up the documents. Our defensive system here is barely established. Isn't it a shame to abandon it now? It isn't a shame. Lin Han stood on the other side of the light gate, smiling at her through the flowing blue curtain. Because where we're going is a true fortress. And he revealed a mysterious smile. We need to clear the way for some big fellows. Lei Long, take Dr. Su to the underground parking lot meeting point. We'll rendezvous there. Yes, sir. Lei Long snapped a salute. Preparations for the relocation proceeded swiftly. On the real-world side, the engineering unit had already cleared a massive concrete wall in the underground base. It was a load-bearing wall 3 meters thick with a smooth surface sufficient to support a 5x5 meter. On the otherworld side, after reconnaissance, the engineer company proactively chose the underground parking lot entrance of Splendid Home Community as the new anchor point. Originally the junction where the open ramp descended underground, the ceiling height exceeded 6 meters, and the space was open enough to accommodate heavy vehicles. Although it was cluttered with abandoned cars, under the efficient work of the engineer company, in just 2 hours they cleared a vast fan-shaped open area and marked a positioning frame on a sturdy retaining wall. Dimensional coordinates calibrated. Wall structural integrity test passed. All personnel from the other world have evacuated to safe zones. Migration can commence. Inside Room 302. Lin Han swept his gaze around the bedroom, which had been converted into a negative pressure isolation chamber. Though the light gate was about to be moved, this room would remain his living space and backup observation point. With a mere thought, the rectangular light curtain pressed against the ceiling instantly contracted, turning into a streak of light that shot into his brow. The room reverted to its original dimness. The walls were pristine, as if nothing had happened. Let's go. Lin Han turned and walked toward the door. With a soft hiss of pressure release from the heavy airtight door, he passed alone through the transitional disinfection chamber, left Room 302, and under the escort of special agents headed straight for the entrance of the underground shelter in the residential complex. 10 minutes later, in the core area of the real-world underground civil defense project, Lin Han stood before that immense concrete wall. Behind him, Zhao Jingwo, fully prepared, and countless researchers in white lab coats. He took a deep breath and pressed his palm against the wall. Expand. Hum. Without any resistance, an ethereal blue light unfurled like liquid mercury, instantly covering the entire wall. 5 meters high, 5 meters wide. The square light curtain was as smooth as a mirror, its edges radiating stable energy fluctuations. Standing before it, humans seemed so insignificant. This is the LV-2 form of the dual. Zhao Jingwo stood on the command platform, gazing at the magnificent stargate below. Even he, a man accustomed to grand spectacles, felt a surge of excitement. Chief channel test complete. The opposite side is the Splendid Home underground parking lot entrance. The space is open and unobstructed. Excellent. Zhao Jingwo straightened his uniform and picked up the red command phone. This is Zhao Jingwo. Order Steel Torrent advance. Rumble. Accompanied by a low roar of engines, the ground began to tremble slightly. The heavy gate leading to the underground base slowly opened. The first to emerge was a steel behemoth painted in digital camouflage. A Type 99A main battle tank. This 55-ton king of land warfare drove proudly into the underground hall. Its long 125mm smoothbore cannon exuded a suffocating sense of pressure. Behind it came a second, a third. An entire tank company. Next came Type 04A infantry fighting vehicles, self-propelled artillery, and heavy military trucks loaded with supplies. This was the power of the state machinery. This was the true dimensional strike. Target Otherworld Base 0. Move out. At the commanders, order the tracks of the first Type 99A tank ground against the floor, producing a jarring screech. With an unstoppable momentum, it slowly approached the colossal light gate. Ripples rippled across the massive tank body gradually submerged into the light gate, as if driving into a bottomless blue. On the otherworld side, the once dim and cold underground parking lot entrance was suddenly illuminated by two blinding headlights. With a thunderous engine roar, the Type 99, a tank burst out of the light gate on the wall like a steel beast traversing time. Its tracks crushed the scattered bones and rubble on the ground. The turret slowly rotated, emitting the distinctive grinding sound of machinery. Then the second, the third. Within 10 short minutes, an entire fully mechanized heavy armored force had miraculously appeared amidst the ruins of the apocalypse. Suwon stood in the corner watching the scene, completely petrified. She knew people from this world were formidable, but she never imagined they could be this formidable. Tanks. And these were main battle tanks that even in her world represented top-tier technology. Roar. Sensing the presence of living humans, a few zombie growls echoed from deep within the underground parking lot. A dozen shambling zombies in tattered clothes staggered out from the shadows. Among them was even a map. In the past, this would have been enough to wipe out a survivor squad. But now, the lead Type 99, a tank, didn't even rotate its turret. It simply maintained its speed and drove straight over them. Crunch, squelch. A spine-chilling sound of bones breaking arose. Whether ordinary zombies or the immensely powerful brute before the 55-ton steel colossus, there was no difference. They instantly turned into a pulp of flesh, failing even to slow the tank by a single second. This was the steel torrent. This was what it meant to crush. Lin Han stood atop an armored vehicle watching the scene, then turned to Su, one who still hadn't recovered from her shock. Dr. Su, let me reintroduce myself. This is Otherworld Development Office Base 0. He pointed at the endless stream of armored vehicles behind him, a slight smile curling at the corner of his mouth. And this is only the beginning. The roaring diesel engines for the 12-year-silent Haitian city sounded like a heavy drumbeat struck in the depths of the night. Not only the Jinxujiewen residential community, but zombies within a 2-kilometer radius were all drawn by this unprecedented commotion. They crawled out from shadowy corners, surged forth from abandoned shops, howling like a turbid gray-black tide madly rushing toward the entrance of the underground parking lot. Report. Radar detects a large number of heat-source biological reactions approaching. Count exceeds 3,000. Still increasing. Inside the temporary command center of the underground base, a communications staff officer stared at the dense red dots on the screen, his voice urgent, yet composed. Facing a zombie horde capable of swallowing any survivor, Camp Zhao Jiangwo did not even raise an eyebrow. He merely stood before the tactical map and calmly issued orders, saves us from having to search building by building. Let them come closer. Order the armored unit to block the entrance. Open fire at will. At the ramp leading to the underground parking entrance, 3 Type 99, a main battle tank, stood side by side, like an insurmountable great wall of steel sealing off the 20-meter-wide entrance solidly. The thick reactive armor seemed to emanate a chill that deterred all life. Behind them were 2 Type 04A infantry fighting vehicles and 4 heavy machine gun positions set up at elevated points. The dark gun muzzles and cannon barrels silently pointed toward that putrid exit. Roar. The first wave of the zombie horde burst through the rusted iron gate of the residential area, charging down the ramp. They felt no fear, no pain, only a craving for flesh and blood. Several swift hunters leaped high from their comrades' shoulders, attempting a surprise attack from above. Humph. The commander of the 1st Type 99A watched coldly through the sighting system, a sneer curling on his lips. Tat-a-tat-a-tat. It was not the main cannon firing. That would be overkill. The tank's roof-mounted 12.7mm heavy machine gun roared first. Then the 30mm autocannon on the infantry fighting vehicle and the heavy machine guns at various fire points joined the chorus. A metal storm. That was the only phrase to describe the scene. Dense tracer rounds wove a net of death across the dim ramp. Those hunters, leaping midair, were instantly shredded into a cloud of gore without even a chance to land. What would a 12.7mm round do to a human body? It didn't just leave a bullet hole. It severed the torso or blew half the body apart. The front row of zombies fell like mown wheat, the ground instantly covered with black flesh. The next ranks trampled over their comrades and charged onward only to be shattered again. Boom, boom, boom. The 30mm autocannon on the Type 04A infantry fighting vehicle unleashed its fury. High explosive rounds blasted into the heart of the horde, each detonation sending up a bloody rain of severed limbs and broken bones. Not a single zombie could break within 20 meters of the ramp. This was no battle, it was a one-sided slaughter. An absolute crushing of primitive biological instinct by industrial civilization. 40 minutes later, the gunfire gradually ceased. The air was thick with the pungent smell of gunpowder and the stench of charred corpses. On the slope outside the underground parking entrance, a tumter-high mountain of corpses had piled up. Black blood gathered into streams flowing into the drainage ditches, staining the entire ground a horrifying dark red. Clean the battlefield. At the commander's order, several modified engineering bulldozers rumbled out. They pushed their huge blades, shoving away the piled bodies like trash clearing a path. Next, the recovery team, clad in fully sealed white chemical protective suits, entered. They carried specialized instruments and cutting tools, skillfully slicing open the heads of high-level zombies to search for the faintly glowing crystal cores. As for ordinary zombie corpses, flamethrower troops incinerated them in batches to prevent the spread of plague. First stage crystal core confirmed. First stage crystal core confirmed. Second stage crystal core. This rager has a red one in its head. A team member excitedly held up a crimson crystal. In other survivor camps, hunting a single rager might cost an entire squad and require elaborately set traps. But here that unfortunate rager never even got a clear look at the tank before a 30mm autocannon shell sliced off half its body, dying without dignity. Suwon stood atop a command vehicle, staring blankly at the scene. Her hands gripped the railing tightly, knuckles white from the strain. She had seen zombie hordes before. In her memory, hordes meant death, escape, endless despair. Every outbreak of a horde was a catastrophe for human strongholds. But today she witnessed a different picture. Those terrifying monsters that had once kept her awake at night were now like raw materials on a conveyor belt, efficiently killed, cleaned, and recycled. Is this the power of order? Is this the strength of the nation? She murmured, her voice dry. This is nothing yet. Lin Han appeared beside her, handing her a newly opened ice-cold cola, the bottle beaded with tempting droplets. Wait until the Air Force arrives or missile strikes level the ground. Then you'll know what true firepower coverage really means. Suwon took the cola, feeling the cold touch in her palm, a surreal sense of disorientation. In a world where even drinking clean water required desperate effort, how could she still get an iced cola? Instead of watching the show Dr. Su, that over there is your true battlefield. Lin Han pointed into the distance. On the other side of the parking lot, engineer troops were rapidly building a white modular building complex at an astonishing speed. Several heavy trucks slowly unloaded massive shipping container modules, and robotic arms precisely assembled them together. That is. Suwon followed his pointing finger, and her eyes widened instantly. A P3 mobile biological laboratory, Lin Han said with a smile. For safety, we directly mobilized a complete field hospital module and the highest grade mobile lab. The equipment inside is the most advanced in active service. Centrifuges, electron microscopes, gene sequencers. Though we didn't know exactly what you needed, we brought every top-tier device we could think of. Suwon's hands trembled slightly. She knew too well the value of these things. In the apocalypse, even a functioning microscope could spark a battle between two camps, let alone an entire intact biological laboratory. And watching the engineers laying cables and installing the ventilation system, she understood that this was not just equipment. It was backed by an entire powerful industrial system. Electricity, water, consumables, security. For a scientist, this was paradise. With these devices, I can conduct an in-depth analysis of the crystal cores. The crude methods used by Black Steel Group directly consuming them are not only dangerous, but also extremely inefficient. Give me 3 days along with the data I brought out, and I will definitely identify the energy composition and find a truly safe way to utilize them. Suwon's eyes reignited with the light of a scientist's confidence and passion. This is real scientific research. Good. Lin Han nodded, looking at the steel tide that was cleaning the battlefield and the gradually illuminating base lights. Several high-power searchlights flared atop the buildings of Jinxujiawen residential community, piercing the darkness that had shrouded Haishan City for 12 years. The beams of light, like sharp swords, proclaimed the return of human civilization. This place is safe now. Lin Han took a deep breath, feeling the long-lost sense of order in this wasteland. From today, with this building as the center, a radius of 2 kilometers is our absolute territory. As night fell, several high-power searchlights flared atop the buildings of Jinxujiawen residential community, piercing the darkness that had shrouded Haishan City for 12 years. Base Zero had officially taken root in the apocalypse. In Haishan City, at the 3rd water purification plant. This is the only place in the entire city that remains somewhat alive after the disaster, and it is also the largest den of vice and darkness in this wasteland. High walls are topped with electrified barbed wire, and heavy machine guns and searchlights scavenged from pre-war military bases are mounted on watchtowers at the corners, their cold beams occasionally sweeping over the outer city beyond the walls. There lies a slum made up of tattered tents and shipping containers. Thousands of ragged survivors are crammed together like cattle. Their daily task is to extract deep underground water for the masters of the inner city, using human-powered levers, or to risk their lives searching for supplies, all for a bowl of murky recycled water and half a block of moldy synthetic protein. The air is filled with the stench of excrement, rotting garbage, and despair. Yet just a wall away, the inner city is another world. The generator roars and lights blaze. In the luxurious office on the top floor of the core administrative building, Li Sun sits on a leather sofa, elegantly slicing a piece of canned luncheon meat, pan-fried and sprinkled with black pepper, with half a glass of red wine beside him. As the intelligence chief of the Black Steel Group and one of the boss' most trusted three giants, he enjoys the highest treatment in this apocalyptic world. This batch of luncheon meat doesn't taste as good as the last one. Li Sun frowned, putting down his knife and fork, wiping the corner of his mouth with a napkin. Next time, have the collection team check the basements in the wealthy district. There should still be some unexpired imports there. Yes, brother Sun. The beautiful secretary next to him replied, timidly, afraid of offending this capricious. Suddenly, a rapid knocking broke the tranquility of the room. Li Sun's gaze instantly turned cold. Did I not say not to disturb me while I eat? Brother Sun, something major has happened. The door burst open and a burly subordinate wearing a black tactical vest rushed in his face, betraying unmistakable fear. What are you panicking about? Li Sun shot him an annoyed glance, picking up his wine glass again. Did that pack of mad dogs from the Wild Wolf gang come to harass the water trucks again? No, it's not that. The subordinate swallowed hard, pointing at the pitch-black night sky outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. You should see for yourself. Li Sun snorted coldly, stood up, and walked slowly to the window, suddenly pulling aside the heavy blackout curtains. In the next moment, the wine glass in his hand fell to the ground with a loud crash. Bright red wine splattered on his polished leather shoes, but he was completely oblivious. His pupils constricted sharply as he stared intently outside. About 5 kilometers southeast of the water purification plant, a blinding white beam of light shot up into the sky. It was a beam formed by several high-powered military searchlights, appearing so dazzling and unrestrained in the pitch-black, pitch-dark wasteland, like a sword piercing through the veil of night. Is that near Huaxia? No. One middle school, the Jinxiu Garden. Li Sun squinted, his mind racing. Isn't that a heavy disaster area for zombies? Not just lights. The subordinate's voice trembled as he reported half an hour ago there were suddenly sounds of dense explosions and gunfire from that direction. The noise was huge, very huge. How huge? It sounded like an army has entered the city. The subordinate thought for a moment and used the most fitting metaphor. Boom. To validate his words, a dull explosion could be clearly heard even from 5 kilometers away, shaking the bulletproof glass with a buzzing sound. Li Sun's expression changed completely. As a retired officer of the former Federal Army, he was too familiar with that sound. His ears twitched slightly as he quickly discerned every syllable carried by the wind. Is that a 30mm high explosive round? He muttered in disbelief. This. The rate of fire, this rhythm, is from the cannon of an 048 infantry fighting vehicle. And that is the sound of a 12.7mm heavy machine gun. In this world where even 5.8mm rifle bullets have become a hard currency, and most survivors can only use nail guns and cold weapons, who would have such structured heavy firepower? Could it be that remnants of the federal government are coming back? Impossible. Li Sun immediately dismissed the idea. The Huaxia military district was submerged by the tide of corpses 8 years ago. I personally confirmed that it had long become a ruin. Moreover, if it were a regular army counterattack, there wouldn't be just this much noise. At least there would be air. Brother Sun, could it be that the Wild Wolf gang has dug up some pre-war arms depot? The subordinate cautiously speculated. I heard that Lei Hu has been wandering around the industrial area in the west lately. Lei Hu? Li Sun sneered, his eyes filled with disdain. That brute who only knows how to fight. If you give him a cannon, he would only use it as a hammer. And even if he had a cannon, he wouldn't have so many shells to waste. He pointed at the relentless beam of light and the continuous sounds of gunfire, his finger trembling slightly. Listen to this commotion. It's been going on for almost an hour, right? That's saturation fire. The ammunition fired every second could buy us 100 slaves. Even in our heyday, we wouldn't dare to waste like this. Fear crept in. What followed was a deep greed. A glint of wolf-like hunger flashed in Li Sun's eyes. He turned around, pacing back and forth in the office, the sound of his leather shoes echoing in the silent room. No matter who they were over there, it meant one thing. There was a huge treasure. It could be an undiscovered high-level military base from pre-war times, a certain unknown energy facility, or even divine blood. If they possessed such heavy firepower, ruthlessly hunting down zombies, did that mean they held a substantial amount of crystal cores? For the god-making plan that the Black Steel Group is secretly conducting, crystal cores are the lifeblood. Pass on my orders. Li Sun paused, straightened his collar, regaining his usual coldness and calm, but the fervor in his eyes could not send the Night Owl team into action. The subordinate trembled all over, suddenly raising his head. Brother Sun, are we deploying the Night Owls? That's our most elite. Since they have heavy firepower, sending ordinary people would be a death sentence. Li Sun said coldly, his tone carrying an undeniable authority. Let the Night Owls lead the charge and bring the best equipment. Night vision goggles, silencers, and those few treasured Gauss rifles. Hold on. He paused, walked to the desk, took out a syringe glowing faintly blue from the drawer, and tossed it to the subordinate. Tell the Night Owls that if they encounter hard resistance, they are allowed to use the No. 2 agent. The subordinate hurriedly caught the syringe, his hands trembling. The No. 2 agent was a modified version of the frenzy agent developed by the Black Steel Group, capable of significantly enhancing the user's speed and strength in a short time, but with severe side effects. The mission has only one objective: to ascertain the details of the other side. Lee Sun walked to the window, looking at the beam of light, making a gesture across his throat. If it's just passing strong dragons, we will act submissively and negotiate cooperation. If it's a fat sheep, that has hit the jackpot. A cruel smile curled at the corners of his mouth. Then we will devour them whole, skin and bones. Every bullet, every crystal core from there belongs to Black. Meanwhile, 2 kilometers away from Jinxiu Garden, in an abandoned logistics park. This is the lair of the Raider faction, the Wild Wolf Gang. Unlike the strict barriers of the Black Steel Group, this place resembles a wild wasteland tribe. The walls made of scrap cars are adorned with various mutated beast skulls and desiccated corpses. At this moment, the camp that should have been holding a bonfire party to celebrate today's successful robbery was eerily silent. Everyone gathered on the walls made of containers, staring blankly at the distant flames. The burly tattooed Lei, who stood at the highest point, holding an even chipped monocular fixated on that direction. Boss, should we go join the commotion? A young subordinate leaned in, his eyes gleaming with greed, licking his cracked lips. From the sounds, it's definitely a big piece of meat. Those people have been fighting for so long, they must be at the end of their rope. Should we take advantage of them finishing off the zombies and go pick up the scraps? We might even score some good guns. Slap. A crisp sound of a slap echoed. Lei, who backhanded the young subordinate, sending him spinning twice on the spot, 2 bloodied teeth flying out. Pick up scraps. I think you're just looking to pick up ashes. Lei, who put down the binoculars, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. The string of zombie finger bones hanging from his neck trembled slightly with his heavy breathing. Are you deaf? That's a tank. An Honestagudness tracked tank. And that continuous sound is from the cannon of the infantry fighting vehicle. Lei, who grabbed the young subordinate by the collar, roaring, spitting all over his face. When I was mixing it up on the streets, what scenes hadn't I seen? That kind of continuous fire could plow our broken camp flat. You want to take a few broken nail guns to pick up scraps. If they fire around, there won't be a single crumb left of you. He released his grip, took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. As a powerful figure in this wasteland, Lei, who had survived to this day, not just through muscle, but with instincts sharper than mutated rats. Just a moment ago, when that beam of light appeared, he felt an unprecedented chill. It wasn't the fear faced in the tide of corpses, but rather a sense of powerlessness in the face of a higher dimensional force. Send the order down. Everyone stay put in the nest. Put out all the bonfires. Anyone who dares to approach that way before the other side even has to act, they'll skin them alive. And withdraw the outer sentries back by 200 meters. Don't let those gods over there misunderstand that we're night as dark as ink. In the ruins of Huaxia City, the wind howled, mingled with the occasional distant roar of mutated beasts. A shadow leaped silently from the broken overpass, landing noiselessly on the rubble-strewn street. Following it were the second and third shadows, 5 figures in total. They wore tight combat suits made from the skin of mutated beasts, a material that was not only tough and stab-resistant, but also capable of obscuring heat signatures to a certain extent. Each of them wore modified gas masks with red night vision goggles glowing eerily in the darkness. This was the sharpest Fong of the Black Steel Group, Team Night Owl. The team leader, Night Owl, knelt down, making a stop gesture. He raised his wrist, glancing at the military tactical watch that had been produced before the war, the hour hand pointing to 2 in the morning. This was the time when humans slept the soundest, and also the best time for hunters to strike. Ahead is the Jinxiu. Night Owl whispered through his throat microphone. The target area has a strong light source. Be cautious and stay hidden. Captain, that gunfire just stopped. The voice of the assault soldier Mad Dog crackled through the earpiece, carrying a hint of bloodthirsty excitement. Looks like those fat sheep have finished fighting and are now resting in their nests. Don't let your guard down, Night Owl coldly reminded. Such a loud commotion cannot be caused by ordinary survivors. The boss said that this mission is reconnaissance, focused primarily to ascertain the situation. If the enemy's defenses are lax, he touched the tactical dagger at his waist, which had been coated with deadly poison, a glint of coldness flashing in his eyes. Then we'll take a tongue back with us. Night Owl was very confident in himself. As a first-tier speed enhancer, his neural reaction speed was 3 times that of ordinary people, capable of sprinting 100 meters in under 8 seconds. Paired with team members who had injected microdoses of rage serum, even if they encountered those notoriously infamous second-tier mutated beasts in Huaxia City, they would still be able to escape unscathed. In his view, regardless of what heavy firepower the opponent possessed in nighttime urban combat, it was still the domain of these evolvers. Tanks. Artillery. In the complex terrain of the ruins, those heavy iron clunks were mere live targets. As long as he got close, he had 100 ways to kill the driver inside. Move out. With Night Owl's command, the five figures instantly dispersed using the cover of abandoned vehicles and collapsed walls, stealthily approaching the beam of light. Their movements were light and agile, the sound they made underfoot even less than that of a passing mouse. Professional tactical maneuvers, perfect coordination. This was undoubtedly the top special operations team in the apocalypse. However, Night Owl was unaware that just as he thought he was sneaking in undetected, a pair of invisible eyes 500 meters above were watching them closely. "TSK tisk, pretty professional," moves a voice remarked. In the underground parking lot of Jingxiuan, the temporary command center of Base Zero, Lin Han held a bowl of freshly made braised beef noodles, slurping the noodles while watching the enormous high-definition display that took up half the wall. The screen was not pitch black. Instead, it displayed a clear gray-white thermal image. 5 distinct human silhouettes were tactically advancing towards the perimeter of the base. Under the 4K lens of the high-definition drone, their every move, even the heat generated by each breath, was captured clearly. Beside the image, real-time data was even thoughtfully annotated. Target, a leader, heart rate 85, temperature 37. 2. Armed with a high-hardness alloy blade suspected to carry biochemical agents. Target B, assault soldier, heart rate 92. Carrying a short-barreled firearm, abnormally dense musculature suspected to be a strength enhancer. So this is the so-called Night Owl. Sitting next to him, Lei Long looked at the screen, disdainfully curling his lips. With such stealth skills, they wouldn't even pass the first round of our special forces selection competition. Look at that one on the left sticking there, but up so high, afraid the sniper might miss them. For apocalyptic survivors, that's already quite good. Don't underestimate them, Zhao Jiangwo said calmly, holding a cup of tea. They know how to utilize the terrain, understand how to spread their formation, and are equipped with heat-absorbing leather. It's just a pity that their equipment philosophy is still stuck 20 years ago. Look at that little red dot on the screen, he pointed out. Our hummingbird microdrone is hovering 100 meters above their heads, and they haven't even noticed it. This is the technological gap. The so-called heat-absorbing beast skin is like a layer of transparent stockings before military-grade multispectral detection radar, revealing no secrets whatsoever. Commander, should we eliminate them? Lei Long asked. The sniper team has locked onto all targets. With a single command, we could blow their heads off in 3 seconds. Don't rush. Lin Han swallowed the beef in his mouth, wiped his lips. Since the Black Steel Group sent someone to deliver a gift, we have no reason to refuse. Wasn't Su once saying she needed test subjects? These evolvers are just perfect for her to send over for slice studies. Oh no, I mean collaborative research. Capture them alive, Zhao Jiangwo nodded. Since we want to establish authority, let's show them what modern warfare looks like. Order Special Operations Team 1, close the net. At this moment, Night Owl suddenly felt an inexplicable chill shoot up his spine. It felt as if he were being targeted by some terrifying prehistoric behemoth. As an evolver, this intuition had saved his life countless times. Stop! Night Owl suddenly halted, signaling with his hand, and instantly shrank beneath the chassis of an abandoned bus. What's wrong, Captain? A team member's puzzled voice came through the earpiece. Something's off. Night Owl's voice was a bit hoarse. It's too quiet. Indeed, it was too quiet. They had penetrated to within 300 meters of the light source. Logically, there should be sentries, patrols, and even the smell of rotting corpses from the zombies that had been cleared. But there was nothing here. Deathly silence. Even the distant roar of the generator that had been rumbling seemed to have diminished. Captain, look over there. The assault soldier suddenly exclaimed. Night Owl followed his pointing direction, his pupils contracting sharply. In a clearing 100 meters ahead, several enormous vehicles were parked. In the faint moonlight, he could make out the outlines of those machines. They were tanks. But not the dirt tanks he had seen in the Black Steel Group, made from bulldozers welded with steel plates, but true killing machines with streamlined turrets and elongated barrels. They stood silently, their barrels drooping, as if they were slumbering steel giants. Even in their sleep, the overwhelming aura of steel made Night Owl feel suffocated. That is a main battle tank. Night Owl's eyes widened, staring intently at those steel behemoths. Though he could not identify the specific model, its shape even resembled relics from the old era, lacking the flashy hovering devices or energy shields. But the brand new composite armor, the long, menacing smoothbore barrel, and the remote-controlled machine gun on the roof all spoke of its danger. This was definitely not the kind of dirt tank pieced together by the Black Steel Group. This was a true war machine. It was equipped for a regular army. Not good. The turret is moving. Night Owl's pupils suddenly contracted. He fearfully noticed that the turret of that tank was turning silently, without any engine noise, the dark barrel instantly locking onto their hiding position. At the same time, a strong sense of crisis surged within him. It was too quiet. If this were merely an ordinary survivor's camp, even with tanks, it would be impossible to maintain such perfect silent defense. This implied that the enemy had long since discovered them, and was now just waiting for them to walk into the trap. Retreat. Quickly retreat. Night Owl almost roared this word. This is a trap. Run. Without any hesitation, he turned and fled. The confidence he had felt moments ago evaporated. Facing such a level of prepared heavy armored force, their small knives and guns were nothing but a ticket to death. However, it was too late. Just as they turned around, bang! A dull gunshot shattered the silence. Night Owl felt a sudden lightness in his right hand, followed by a piercing pain. The tactical dagger in his hand, along with half of his palm, was shattered by a large caliber bullet. Sniper! At 2 o'clock. Bang! Bang! 2 more gunshots rang out. 2 team members who had just drawn their guns had their weapons knocked from their hands, their palms bleeding from the immense recoil. Who? Come out. Have the guts to face me, unknown. The assault soldier Mad Dog yelled, suddenly pulling out a red syringe from his waist and stabbing it into his neck. That was Agent No. 2. As long as he injected it, his strength would triple for a short time, pain would vanish, and he would become a true human-shaped beast. However, just when the needle was a centimeter from his skin, a blue arc split the night sky. Mad Dog convulsed violently, foaming at the mouth, and fell down like a wooden plank. 50 meters behind him, a special forces soldier dressed in camouflage slowly lowered the electric shock gun in his hand. Damn it! Night Owl looked at his fallen teammate, a glint of desperate madness flashing in his eyes. Since he couldn't escape, he would fight. As a first-tier speed evolver, he had absolute confidence in short-distance bursts. If he could just rush into that shadow, he would have a chance to take a hostage. His leg muscles tensed, and he shot out like a drawn bow, moving with lightning speed. However, just as he took buzz, for blinding white beams of light suddenly illuminated the area around him like the judgment light of God, turning his surroundings bright as day. The intense brightness blinded Night Owl, who had adapted to the darkness. He screamed in agony, covering his eyes and falling to the ground. Welcome to Base Zero. Or should I say, welcome to the battlefield of information warfare. Night Owl gritted his teeth against the intense pain in his eyes, barely managing to open a slit. He witnessed a scene that would haunt him for a lifetime. Surrounding him on the rooftops, behind the ruins, and in the shadows, dozens of fully armed soldiers had appeared without. They wore uniform, digital camouflage tactical vests, helmets equipped with night vision goggles, and their black assault rifles were adorned with various tactical accessories he couldn't name. Dozens of red laser dots densely covered him and his teammates as if they had been dressed in a shirt of red pulp. And directly in front, that once sleeping Type 99, a main battle tank, had turned its turret at some point. The thick 125mm smoothbore barrel was coldly aimed at his head. The distance was less than 20 meters. Night Owl could even smell the faint scent of gunpowder wafting from the barrel. A main battle tank aimed at a man with a dagger. Was this something a human would do? Despair. Utter despair. The speed Night Owl prided himself on, the stealth he was proud of, seemed like a clumsy clown's performance before these steel behemoths and infrared scopes. Don't fire. Night Owl slowly raised his hands and gradually knelt down in front of the barrel, capable of turning him to dust. I surrender. 10 minutes later. Base Zero underground interrogation room. The 5 members of the once mighty Night Owl team were now like 5 plucked chickens locked in interrogation chairs with specially designed alloy handcuffs. When Lin Han walked in, Night Owl was hanging his head, staring blankly at the ground. Lift your head. Lei Long bar. Night Owl trembled and raised his head, seeing the excessively young man sitting opposite him. There was no fierce expression, no overwhelming aura. The other was dressed in a clean, shiny casual outfit, holding a cup. Was that steaming coffee? Let me introduce. Lin Han took a sip of coffee, smiling as he looked at the legendary top assassin of Huaxia City before him. My name is Lin Han, and I am the master here. To be honest, I am quite interested in your so-called evolver abilities. Lin Han put down his cup and pointed to the laboratory behind the one-way glass. In there, Su-1 was excitedly adjusting a blood centrifuge while wearing a white lab coat. My chief scientist just happens to need a few living samples to study the effects of crystal cores on the human body. So the next conversation will determine whether you lie on the dissection table for scientific sacrifice. Lin Han's smile remained bright, but in Night Owl's eyes it was more terrifying than a demon. Or as labor reform prisoners helping us move bricks in the back. Now tell me, before the higher-ups of the Black Steel Group sent you here, did they say how they wanted to die? Base number 0, underground interrogation room. An hour has passed. The wound on Yishao's hand had been simply bandaged, but the excruciating pain constantly reminded him that everything that had just happened was not a nightmare. He hung his head low like a defeated rooster, entirely devoid of the arrogance he had before. On the other side of the one-way glass, Su-1 was holding a freshly printed test report, her brow furrowed. Is the result out? Lin Han pushed the door into the observation room, still holding the cup of coffee he hadn't finished. It's out. Su-1 took a deep breath, handing the report to Lin Han with a hint of pity in her tone. It's shocking. What? The so-called evolvers are nothing but a complete scam. Su-1 pointed to the enlarged microscopic image of the cells on the report. You see, their cell activity is more than 5 times that of normal people, but this is not natural evolution. It is forcibly ignited by the virus. Ignited? Yes. It's like injecting excessive oxidizer into an engine. Suwon made an analogy. The mutant strain of the Z virus is constantly eroding their telomerase, forcibly overdrawing the vitality of their cells in exchange for a brief burst of power. At this rate of depletion, she glanced at Yi Xiao in the interrogation room. Even without any external injuries, he won't live more than 3 to 5 years. By then he will die from organ failure, or completely degenerate into a mindless zombie. So what you're saying is that the so-called God-making plan of the Black Steel Group is actually mass-producing short-lived beings. Not just short-lived beings, but moving biochemical bombs, Suwon said coldly. This kind of modification is irreversible. That guy named Lee Sun is completely treating living people as disposable consumables. Understood. Lin Han nodded, a meaningful smile curving his lips. This information is far more valuable than their so-called defense maps. After speaking, he took the report and pushed the door into the interrogation room. Thud. A document was slammed onto the iron table in front of Yi Xiao. Take a look. Lin Han pulled out a chair and sat down, his tone flat. This is your medical report. Yi Xiao raised his head in confusion and picked up the report with his uninjured left hand. Although he could not understand the complex medical data, he recognized the bold red conclusion at the bottom. Diagnosis: severe cellular depletion, signs of gene chain collapse. Expected remaining lifespan less than 3 years. What? What does this mean? Yi Xiao's voice trembled. It means that the divine blood you pride yourself on is actually a poison that hastens your death. Lin Han pointed to Suwon behind the glass wall. My chief scientist just analyzed your blood. The so-called enhancement agents injected by the Black Steel Group are actually overdrawing your life. You think you've become stronger, but in reality you are merely burning the last candle. Impossible, Brother Sin said. This is the key to evolution. This is the mark of the new humanity. Yi Xiao suddenly stood up, but was yanked back into his chair by the handcuffs. You are lying to me. You want to shake my will. Lying to you. Lin Han scoffed. Don't you feel it yourself? The extreme weakness after each use of power, the deep bone pain at night, and the increasingly uncontrollable bloodlust. Yi Xiao froze. His face turned pale in an instant. Every symptom Lin Han mentioned struck precisely at the deepest fears within him. He had always thought that was the price of evolution, the trial of becoming a god. It turns out, was it just a countdown to death? They have always been deceiving us. Yi Xiao murmured, the light in his eyes extinguished completely. Nothing is more despairing than the collapse of faith. But it's not all bad news. Lin Han suddenly changed the subject. Although irreversible, if you cooperate, Dr. Su might have a way to help you slow this process down and even allow you to live like a human in the remaining days. Yi Xiao abruptly raised his head, staring intently at Lin Han. What do you want? I want everything from the third water purification plant. Lin Han leaned forward, looking into Yi Xiao's eyes. Defense maps, fire points, personnel configurations, and Li Sin's hiding place. I want it all. Half an hour later. Command Center. A detailed defense map of the third water purification plant in Huaxia City was already projected onto the large screen. I have to say, this bone is quite tough. Zhao Jiangwo looked at the densely packed fire points on the map, his expression serious. 3 lines of defense, over 2,000 slaves as human shields, and 300 fully armed private soldiers. Besides the modified armored vehicles we've seen, they even hide an armed helicopter. It's a pre-war leftover Storm class, tiltrotor aircraft. Although its firepower is fierce, they lack specialized high-energy solid fuel, and each flight consumes half a warehouse of reserves, making it hard to use. Lin Han added, according to Yi Xiao's account, the core combat power of the Black Steel Group, besides these 300 private soldiers, includes about 50 evolvers like him. The strongest among them is the security Captain Butcher, said to be a second-tier strength enhancer capable of flipping small cars with bare hands. In front of a heavy machine gun, flipping a small car holds no tactical value. Lei Long interjected, his tone filled with disdain for such bioweapons. The key now is that they control the... Zhao Jiangwo pointed to the core water purification workshop on the map. If we launch a strong attack, that lunatic Lee Sun will likely blow up the water purification equipment or even poison the water. That is the only operational deep underground water well in Huaxia City, and it is also the key resource for our future development of this world. So we can't launch a strong attack, only use wisdom. Lin Han asked. No. Zhao Jiangwo shook his head, a hint of iron-blooded light flashing in his eyes. It's decapitation. He drew a red line on the map directly into the core administrative building of the Black Steel Group. Special forces infiltrate, coordinated with a frontal feint. Before they realize what's happening, take out their command center directly. Zhao Jiangwo turned to Lin Han. Comrade Lin Han, haven't you always wanted to test the spatial anchor point transfer combat effect of the double passing door? Lin Han was taken aback, then his eyes lit up. Chief, you mean, what if we open the light gate directly inside their headquarters? Zhao Jiangwo smiled slightly. For example, next door to Li Sin's office. Lin Han looked at the map, taking a deep breath. This is not decapitation. This is simply putting a knife to their neck and opening the door. Let's do it. Lin Han slammed the table. This is definitely the most unscrupulous special operation in history. Late night in Haitian City. The unceasing black rain still drifted down from the sky. At an abandoned subway entrance about 2 kilometers from the third water purification plant, an elite squad of merely 12 men was stealthily advancing under the cover of night. They wore deep black tactical exoskeletons with the power assist disabled, serving only as armor, and full coverage night vision goggles, moving as lightly as a group of phantoms. In the very center of the formation was the heavily guarded Lin Han. How much longer? Lin Han asked in a lowered voice through the bone conduction headset. Even clad in a full set of heavy blast suit with a compact submachine gun for self-defense clutched tightly in his hand, his heart still pounded rapidly. After all, this wasn't playing Call of Duty in front of a computer, it was a real infiltration deep behind enemy lines. Through this maintenance tunnel is the underground pump station of the water purification plant. The guide, the former Night Owl leader now codenamed Prisoner, replied hoarsely. That pump station has been abandoned for a long time right beneath the administration building where Li Sen's office is located. It's the only defensive blind spot in the entire base. Lei Long's gun muzzle remained subtly aimed at Night Owl's back as he said coldly, "You'd better pray that tunnel hasn't caved in yet, or you'll be the first one buried inside." Night Owl let out a bitter laugh and said nothing. After reading that medical report, he was now more eager than anyone to kill Li Sen. 10 minutes later, the group made it through the maintenance tunnel filled with mud and mutated rats without incident, arriving before a thick concrete wall covered in moss. Right here, Night Owl pointed upward. Above us is the basement of the administration building. Behind this wall used to be the backup generator room. It's quite spacious. Lin Han stepped forward and reached out to touch the cold, damp wall. Eligible attachment carrier detected. Deploy space gate here. Take him down and keep him under guard. Without activating the gate immediately, Lin Han turned and gave order. Lei Long nodded. 2 soldiers immediately stepped forward, unceremoniously fitted a black noise-canceling hood over Night Owl's head, and dragged him to a corner of the passage where his line of sight could not reach. Even the guide could not be allowed to see the secret of the gate. After confirming that all unrelated personnel had been cleared out, Lin Han turned around. Huff! Lin Han let out a long breath and looked back at Lei Long and the other special forces soldiers with their resolute eyes. Zhao Jiangwo had originally staunchly opposed him taking such a risk, but the space anchor transfer required the host to personally position it at the target location. To achieve the zero-casualty decapitation tactic, this was a necessary risk. Everyone prepare. Lin Han's voice was still a little tight, but it had taken on a note of determination. The Special Forces soldiers instantly fanned out muzzles, facing outward, forming a temporary defensive formation. Lin Han closed his eyes and communicated with the system through his consciousness. Deploy. Whoosh. A brilliant blue light suddenly blazed to life in the pitch-black underground. The once hard concrete wall seemed to meld away, and a huge rectangular light screen 5 meters wide and 4 meters tall materialized before everyone's eyes. The moment the gate took shape, a chill, lethal aura surged out from the other side. It wasn't the stench of another world, but the smell of steel and gunpowder. Operation codename Thunderclap. From the other side of the gate came Zhao Jiangwo's steady, forceful voice. Assault. Boom. 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 The synchronized footsteps rang out like war drums. The first wave rushing through was not infantry, but 3 Scythe-looking Bobcat, all-terrain assault vehicles. The 12.7mm remote weapon stations on their turrets gleamed with the cold light of death under the blue glow. Immediately after, 2 full platoons of heavily armed Special Forces soldiers followed. They wore fully enclosed heavy biological chemical protection suits covered with Type 07 urban camouflage tactical vests, and carried Type 191 assault rifles, pouring into the cramped underground space like a black tide. The originally spacious basement was instantly packed with the steel flood transmitted from Earth. Lin Han quickly retreated to the side, watching this awe-inspiring spectacle. His nervousness vanished, replaced by an indescribable surge of excitement. This was the power of a nation behind you. What post-apocalyptic warlords would awaken once? Before a modern organized military, they were all nothing more than insignificant rabble. At that moment, 3rd floor of the administration building, general manager's office. Li Sen had his feet propped up on the expensive rosewood desk, swirling half a glass of red wine. He was a bloated, middle-aged man with a look of a shrewd businessman and a thug's cruelty in his eyes. Night Owl not back yet. He took a sip of wine and asked his assistant. Not yet, boss. But we heard gunfire from that direction a while ago. Probably that small camp put up a fight and delayed things a bit, the assistant fawned. With Night Owl on the job, rest assured, before dawn that camp supplies and that pretty girl will be in your bed. That's more like it. Li Sen sneered. Things have been unstable lately. I hear that Salvation Army to the west is stirring again. If Night Owl brings back something good this time, we can expand our armaments. No sooner had he spoken than a deafening explosion rocked the building. The entire administration building shook violently, toppling the wine glass on the desk and splashing crimson liquid everywhere. What's going on? An earthquake? Lee's son scrambled up in panic. Boss. The guard's terrified voice came through the intercom. The basement. The basement blew up. What? Not blown up. There are vehicles. Tanks. They're charging out of the basement. Are you out of your mind? Lee's son roared. How can there be tanks in the basement? Did a groundhog dig its way in? But then he couldn't curse anymore. The heavy rattle of a machine gun erupted from the lobby downstairs, followed by ear-splitting explosions and screams. That was no sound of small arms fire. It was a metal storm shredding every obstacle. Boss. They're coming up. Too fast. It's special forces. Real special forces. The voice on the intercom cut off, abruptly replaced by a muffled gunshot. Lee Sen's face turned deathly pale. He trembled as he pulled a modified Desert Eagle from the drawer and was about to rush to the door. Bang! The thick, solid wooden door along with its frame was kicked flying by a booted foot. Amid flying splinters, 2 stun grenades rolled in. No, whoosh! Blinding white light and deafening noise instantly robbed Lee's son of all senses. He felt his vision go white, his head ringing, and he collapsed like a drunkard. When his vision slowly returned, he felt several cold muzzles pressed hard against his forehead. An icy voice said in his ear, Lee's son, right. If you don't want your head blown off, tell all your men to drop their weapons. Lee Sin struggled to open his tear-filled eyes. What he saw were fully armed soldiers with equipment so advanced it made him despair. And behind those soldiers, a figure in heavy blast suit stared at him coldly through the transparent visor of a sealed helmet. This is impossible. Lee's son groaned in despair. Where the hell did you come from? Lin Han stepped forward, looking down at the once arrogant overlord of this post-apocalyptic world. He pointed at the floor beneath his feet and flashed a bright grin. You may not believe this, but we grew out of it. The battle ended faster than anticipated, but the aftermath cleanup proved to be more tedious than the fight itself. As the first rays of dawn pierced through the thick layers of radioactive clouds, dappled light fell upon the ruins of the 3rd water treatment plant in Huaxia City. This fortress, once ruled by violence and fear, finally welcomed a long-awaited tranquility. In the square before the administrative building, the once mighty private army of the Black Steel Group huddled on the ground, heads clutched in despair, resembling a flock of plucked quails. Be honest. Don't move. A special forces soldier struck the back of a private army member who attempted to reach into his clothing with the butt of his rifle. A hidden dagger clattered to the ground. If you want to die, just say so and don't drag others down with you, the soldier said, coldly pressing the gun's muzzle against the man's forehead. The private army member trembled in fear, wetting himself instantly, no longer daring to make any sudden movements. This scene was witnessed by over 2,000 survivors crouching in the corner not far away. In their previously numb and hollow gazes amidst the habitual fear, there was now a flicker of incredulous shock. In their understanding, the rules of this wasteland were simple: big fish eat small fish, and the wicked prey upon the good. New conquerors typically meant a new round of slaughter, or even harsher enslavement. They had even prepared themselves to be selected as the new two-legged sheep. However, the anticipated whippings, insults, and executions did not come. Instead, they were greeted by waves of fragrant aromas carried by the morning breeze, enough to awaken humanity's most primal desires. It was neither the acrid smell of roasted mutated beast meat nor the sour scent of moldy bread. It was the unique fragrance of carbohydrates simmered at high temperatures. Is this the smell of rice porridge? A gaunt old man in the corner of the crowd twitched his nose. A sudden spark of life erupted in his murky eyes as he fixed his gaze on the other side of the square. There, beside several armored vehicles marked with red identification signs, a few soldiers clad in fully enclosed protective suits were working together to lower several large stainless steel thermos containers. As the lids of the containers were lifted, white steam billowed upwards. For those who had struggled to survive in this apocalyptic world for 12 years, this white steam was more addictive than the purest drugs. Form a line, oh everyone gets some. A soldier in charge of distribution activated a loudspeaker. Though the voice sounded somewhat muffled through the mask, the calmness and sense of order in his tone were a celestial melody that these survivors had not heard in 12 years. Elderly women and children first. No pushing, there is plenty of food. Once you receive your food, head to the medical tent on the left for a checkup. A commotion erupted in the crowd. Some instinctively tried to rush forward, but upon seeing the armed, black-clad soldiers around them, they hesitated and stopped in their tracks. Are they really giving us food? A small girl timidly peeked out from behind her mother, looking at a soldier who had approached. Her large, somewhat frightening eyes were filled with longing and fear. The soldier crouched down, looking at the filthy child who resembled a muddy monkey, and pulled a vacuum-sealed sausage from his tactical vest pocket, handing it to her. Eat. From now on, you won't have to go hungry again. At that moment, the girl's mother, a woman who had long since run dry of tears in this apocalypse, suddenly burst into tears, holding her child tightly. The cries seemed to be contagious. From one point, they swiftly spread throughout the crowd. Over 2,000 survivors wept bitterly before the buckets of white porridge and these unfamiliar soldiers. It was the pent-up grievance of 12 years as well as the release of newfound hope. Behind the administrative building in the underground experimental area, the atmosphere was starkly different. If the square represented a glimmer of hope, this place was the remnants of hell. These beasts. Suwon stood in a room marked Purification Room, her electronic notebook creaking under her grip. Even through the protective suit, she seemed to smell the lingering scent of blood and formaldehyde in the air. The room was filled with large glass jars. The jars did not contain specimens, but failures. Those who had been forcefully injected with excessive crystal nucleus extraction fluid leading to genetic collapse and bodily deformities were immersed in preservative solution, staring unblinkingly at the outside world. Is this what they call the God-making project? Lei Long stood behind Suwon, surveying the hellish scene before them, his tone chillingly cold, using living people as lab rats to test the virus' critical point. It's not just testing. Suwon pointed at a blood-stained experimental log, her voice trembling. They are attempting to mass-produce evolved beings. Li Sun believed that as long as the sample size was large enough, they would eventually filter out a few children of God who could coexist with the virus. As for those failures, they are the things in these jars. The log was densely filled with experimental data. Subject 074, injected with 10 milliliters of first-level crystal nucleus extraction fluid. Severe reaction, all blood vessels ruptured, cause of death, multiple organ failure. Subject 109, injected with 5 milliliters of second-level crystal nucleus extraction fluid. Partial skeletal metallization occurred, but it subsequently went out of control and became violent, already cleaned up. Subject 213. Every line of cold data represented a living life. Collect all this data properly. Suwon took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the nausea and anger within her, regaining the rationality of a scientist. Though cruel, this data holds significant reference value for our vaccine research and finding safe ways to utilize crystal nuclei. We cannot let their deaths be in vain. Understood. What about those scum? Lei Long pointed at the trembling Black Steel Group researchers in white coats in the corner. Suwon coldly glanced at them. Let the survivors judge them. I think those who have lost loved ones will be more than willing to exchange experimental insights with them. On the top floor of the administrative building, the general manager's office had turned into a temporary frontline command center. Though it had been cleaned, the air still carried the strange scent of mixed red wine and gunpowder. Lin Han stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the orderly queue of people below receiving food, as well as the construction vehicles beginning to clear the ruins in the distance. This is the first step in rebuilding civilization. Zhao Zhangwo's figure appeared on the portable command terminal screen on the desk. Behind him was the busy command center of the real world. Lin Han, you did well. Not only have you taken the territory, but more importantly, you have won the hearts of the people. Sometimes a bowl of hot porridge is indeed more effective than a gun. Lin Han sighed. But to maintain this goodwill, we need more things. Have the resources been counted? Zhao Zhangwo asked. We are in the process. The results are beyond imagination. Lin Han turned to look at the logistics officer busy at the side. Several large metal boxes had already been opened and were neatly stacked in the center of the room. Report, sir, the preliminary inventory is ready. The logistics officer handed over a tactical tablet. First is gold. Li Sun is a miser. He hoarded about 2.1 tons of gold in the underground vault. Most of it is in gold bars with some jewelry scavenged from survivors. The purity varies, but the total amount is substantial. Lin Han nodded. This 2 tons of gold is nearly 1 billion in the real world, enough to fill many gaps in the Fire of Rebirth plan's early stages. Next is technology equipment. The logistics officer pointed to 3 silver briefcases nearby. This is the biggest surprise. We found this batch of military-grade tactical tablets and a portable server in Li Sin's private collection. Although they are 12 years old, they have been perfectly preserved in lead boxes. Lin Han casually picked up a tablet and swiped a few times. The moment the screen lit up, the system ran smoothly without any signs of age. This thing solved our major problem. Lin Han's eyes lit up. We can bring communication devices from Earth, but the Huaxia City Municipal Network Protocol and encrypted maps stored on this are unavailable on Earth. With it, we might attempt to invade and awaken certain dormant systems in this city, such as traffic surveillance or the gates of underground air raid shelters. Finally, and most importantly, the logistics officer lowered his voice, a hint of uncontainable excitement. He opened the black and gold briefcase in the middle. In an instant, a captivating red glow illuminated the dim office. Crystal nuclei. All the high-quality stockpiles scavenged by the Black Steel Group over the past few years are in here. The case contained neatly stacked more than 30 blood-red second-level crystal nuclei and over 400 grayish-white first-level crystal nuclei. They lay quietly in shock-absorbing foam, emitting a pulsating energy fluctuation. High-purity energy source detected. Detected 32 second-level biological crystal nuclei and 415 first-level biological crystal nuclei. Estimated convertible energy, 4,800 points second-level, 4,980 points first-level current energy. Reserve 978010000. Lin Han stared at the system data, flashing on his retina, his breath momentarily halting. Almost 10,000 points. Merely by taking down a regional warlord, they had gathered 90 of the energy required to upgrade to LV3. Although they were still a step away from that legendary LV3, possessing such a massive energy reserve meant he was now a true new money. He could unreservedly activate the material transmission channel of the dual gateways, continuously transporting tanks, armored vehicles, and even heavy engineering machinery. He could freely use the spatial anchor point relocation to set the flames of war at any enemy's doorstep. Aside from these, we also discovered something on Li Sen's computer. The logistics officer operated the tablet, bringing up a blurry satellite map. This is a power distribution map of the areas surrounding Huaxia City. Though somewhat outdated, it marks two very critical coordinates. He pointed to a red dot on the edge of the map. The first is the lighthouse camp located in the west of the city. It shows that a large number of pre-war researchers congregated there, possessing relatively complete industrial production capabilities. Lin Han's gaze flickered. Suwon's home. What about the second one? The logistics officer's finger moved to the city center, the area shrouded in crimson. The second is the central hospital of Huaxia City. The Black Steel Group marked it with a massive skull symbol on the map, noting it as a forbidden zone. But beneath the remarks there is another line of small print. The logistics officer enlarged the image and read out that line. Suspected location of the fourth-level mutated being Mother Nest. Crystal nucleus reserves immeasurable. A brief silence fell over the office. Lin Han stared at the crimson skull mark as if he could sense the terrifying aura seeping through the screen. Fourth level. Mother Nest. If second-level crystal nuclei provide 150 points of energy, then fourth level. It seems our next target is already very clear. Zhao Jiangwo broke the silence from the screen, but before that we need to digest the results of this battle. Steady progress step by step. Lin Han nodded, turning his gaze back to the window. In the distance, construction vehicles marked with red identification signs were clearing roadblocks through the morning mist. Suwon's medical team was examining the survivors' health. Special forces were setting up heavy machine guns at high points. This place was no longer the den of the Black Steel Group. This was forward base now. 01. The first flame reignited in human civilization in this desperate world. Lin Han took a deep breath, feeling the cool air in his lungs. He knew that this game had only just begun. But he was no longer the ordinary young man shivering in a rental apartment. Behind him stood a powerful nation. Attention, everyone. On the screen, Zhao Jiangwo's calm and authoritative voice rang through the communication channel, formally issuing the first military order after the occupation. Level 1 combat readiness lifted. All units transition to construction status. A preliminary defense perimeter must be established within 24 hours. Additionally, Zhao Jiangwo looked at Lin Han on the screen, his tone slightly softened. Notify the cooking team for a special meal tonight. Braised pork plenty for all. Huaxia City's third water purification plant. Now in official documents, its formal designation is Advanced Base 01. When the first ray of dawn pierced through the clouds, dispelling the years of haze that had hung over the city, a brand new 5-star red flag fluttered vigorously in the morning breeze at the center of the base's square. That vibrant red seemed extraordinarily brilliant against the backdrop of the surrounding gray ruins, like a blazing flame igniting the long-extinguished hope deep within every heart. For the more than 2,000 survivors here, this flag was not merely a symbol of authority, but also a long-lost promise of civilization. The air no longer reeked of nauseating stench of corpses and despair. Instead, it carried the aroma of millet porridge drifting from the distant kitchen. This fragrance seemed magical, making everyone who caught it swallow involuntarily, and their once dazed eyes turned clear and bright. Yet civilization did not mean free meals. Lin Han and Zhao Jingwo both understood deeply that in an apocalypse, pure charity would only breed lazy ingrates. Only by establishing a fair exchange system could the vitality of this dead society be truly revived. Attention, all personnel. Attention, all personnel. The base's loudspeaker broadcasted in standard Mandarin, clear and powerful, echoing across the entire compound. All healthy adults aged 16 to 55. Please assemble in the square in front of the administrative building for identity registration and labor allocation. Repeat all. There was no major commotion among the crowd. Having survived 12 brutal years in the apocalypse, no one expected free handouts forever. Their only worry was whether the new masters would exploit them worse than the Black Steel Group, or casually throw them alive to the zombies. Old Zhang mingled with the crowd, nervously rubbing his calloused hands. He had once been the plant's senior engineer in his 50s, now with a hunched back and graying hair. During the Black Steel regime, his technical skills in fixing pumps and generators barely kept him alive, but merely alive a single moldy synthetic protein bar per day, sleeping in a leaking shed, and being whipped for the slightest mistake. He looked around. Everyone wore similar expressions, numbness laced with fear, and fear tinged with a sliver of anticipation. Old Zhang, what do you think they'll make us do? Not luring zombies, right? Whispered a young man skinny as a rat. Don't talk nonsense. Old Zhang shot him a glare, though his heart was pounding too. But looking at the soldiers standing straight and disciplined in the distance, he felt that these people were different from the Black Steel bandits. Have you ever seen bandits hand out new clothes to slaves? Indeed, yesterday, immediately after taking over the base, these new officers had issued a clean set of training uniforms to everyone. Old inventory, but to them it was silk and satin and arranged hot showers. The line crawled forward slowly. Name. The registration officer was a young soldier in black tactical exoskeleton armor. He didn't brandish a whip like a Black Steel overseer. Instead, he sat upright at the table, speaking calmly, even with a hint of bureaucratic precision. Before him lay a silver device the survivors had never seen, glowing with a futuristic shimmer. Zhang Jingguo. Old Zhang stammered, instinctively bending to bow. No need for formalities. Stand straight. The soldier looked up at him, not with contempt, but with calm indifference. What did you do before? I was an engineer here then. Then I fixed pumps and generators for Black Steel. Engineer. The soldier's eyes brightened. He operated the device. Look at the lens. A soft blue light scanned Old Zhang's iris. Beep. Identity file created. Zhang Jingguo, 52, senior technician. ID 01T042. The soldier took a black rubber bracelet from a box and handed it over. Wear this. It's your ID card in the base, also your wallet and health monitor. Wallet. Old Zhang stared at the delicate bracelet, stunned. In the apocalypse, money had long become worthless. Only bullets, food, and spirit crystals held value. Exactly, said the soldier, pointing to a huge full-color LED screen newly erected in the square. In Base 01, we don't use old-world currency, nor do we implement slave rationing. We implement a contribution point system. Old Zhang followed his finger. On that screen, as large as a movie screen, red text scrolled like a stock market ticker, clear, even from dozens of meters away. Base 01 mission board: basic labor, clean battlefield, carry corpses 1 point each, including epidemic subsidy ruins, clearing construction debris, transport 0. 5 points per 100 kilograms. Base sanitation, sweeping, 5 points day. Plantation reclamation, 8 points day. Skilled trades, urgent mechanical repair, electrician, 20 points day. Requires assessment. Senior technicians receive additional allowance. Medical care, 25 points day. Requires assessment. Construction, engineering, civil design, 15 points day. Vehicle driving and repair, 18 points day. Resource collection, high risk, high reward. Level 1 spirit crystal, 100 points each. Level 2 spirit crystal, 1,500 points each. Mapping unexplored areas, 50,500 points, depending on value. Searching for specific pre-war equipment, negotiable. On the other side of the screen was a dazzling, even breathtaking supply exchange list. Food: rice porridge, steamed bun, unlimited 0. 5 points per serving. Self-heating military ration, MRE assorted flavors, 5 points each. Can luncheon meat, 340G, 10 points per can. Can braised pork, special supply, 50 points per can. Fresh vegetables, limited, 20 points per gene. Purified water, 1 point per liter. Cola luxury item, 15 points per can. Daily necessities, soap, shampoo, 3 points per pack. Antibiotics, amoxicillin, 50 points per strip. New cold weather clothing, 100 points per set. Hot shower ticket, 2 points per session. 15 minutes cigarettes, hard currency, 30 points per pack. Old Zhang gaped his atoms, apple bobbing frantically. He made a quick mental calculation. If he took the toughest job, moving corpses 10 a day, that would be 10 points, enough to eat and drink well, and even have a hot shower. But if he could pass the mechanical repair assessment, good heavens, 20 points a day. That would mean a can of braised pork in just 2 days. A month's savings could get him a new set of clothes. More importantly, the rules here were open and transparent. No foreman skimming from the top, no arbitrary beatings. As long as you were willing to work, you could live like a human being. This wasn't a base, it was a paradise. Is this really? Old Zhang asked, his voice trembling with disbelief. Do you really give braised pork? Not just trick us into working. Of course, the soldier smiled, as if used to such reactions. He pulled a can of braised pork from under the table and shook it in front of Old Zhang. The sound of the tin can hitting the table was like heavenly music to Old Zhang's ears. As long as you have points, you can eat as much as you want. Our commander said that here labor is most glorious, and those who work more earn more. I sign up. I can repair pumps. I was the plant's chief engineer. Old Zhang suddenly straightened his back, his originally murky eyes blazing with unprecedented light. I can fix not only pumps, but also generators and transformers. Give me tools and I can work right now. Excellent. The soldier nodded with satisfaction, entering a code into the bracelet. Go to District B for assessment. Pass it, and your pay starts today. On the top floor of the administrative building, the luxurious office originally belonging to Li's son had been converted into a temporary command center. Lin Han stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bustling scene below. The crowd, though dense, was ordered. The numbness and deathly stillness on every face were fading, replaced by a vitality called hope. It seems humans' ability to adapt is far stronger than we imagined, Lin Han remarked, holding a cup of hot tea. Not just adaptation. Zhao Jiangwo's holographic image appeared on the communication terminal. He was syncing data from the real world's command center. It's a thirst for order. This point system is essentially rebuilding a credit system. As long as they believe that effort will be rewarded, and that tomorrow will be better than today, the productivity they unleash will be astonishing. We have the nation's material support to thank, Lin Han smiled. Without the mountains of canned food and grain as the credit backing, I couldn't make this system work. This is only the beginning, Zhao Jiangwo said gravely. The domestic expert team has done a preliminary analysis on the spirit crystal samples you sent back. The energy density contained in these things is extremely high. If we can crack the energy conversion mechanism, even just 1,000th of it, it would revolutionize the energy landscape of the real world. So Linhan Base 01 must be stabilized. It's our future energy mine. Don't worry, Uncle Zhao, Linhan nodded. By the way, how's Suwan doing? She's busier than you, interjected Lei Long, who had just returned from an inspection, his uniform smelling of gunpowder. She just picked over 30 people with medical and biology backgrounds from the survivors, and Lei Long paused, a hint of respect in his face. Also, our first batch of expert support team has already crossed through the light gate. Those old professors from the Chinese Academy of Sciences who usually get winded walking 2 steps were so excited when they saw the virus samples and mutant specimens Su Wan brought out that they nearly passed out from excitement. Now they're all crowded into the P3 lab on the 2nd basement level following Su Wan's orders. The scene there, a bunch of white-haired academicians calling a young girl teacher and asking her about otherworldly biology, was quite amusing. In a group of 3 there's always a teacher, Lin Han chuckled. Su Wan survived 12 years in the apocalypse and inherited the black technology. She's definitely more experienced in this area. Let the experts learn from her and speed up the integration of the tech trees from both worlds. As long as they don't create a biochemical crisis, Lin Han joked. But Lei Long took the word seriously. Rest assured, Advisor Lin. We keep the safety red lines in sight. All external labor teams must be led by elite squads. Also, we're focusing on those brave souls willing to collect spirit crystals. These people have guts and skills. They're excellent candidates for future local auxiliary forces. Understood. Lei Long saluted and was about to leave. Suddenly, the red alarm lights in the command center flashed. Beep, beep, beep. A radar operator leaped to his feet, his voice urgent. Report. Recon radar has detected an anomaly. Lin Han and Lei Long turned simultaneously and strode quickly to the massive electronic map. Bearing due west 5 kilometers from the base, approaching at high speed along the old national highway. The operator's fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up real-time drone footage. The image was slightly shaky but clearly showed a small convoy of 3 modified off-road vehicles and a heavy truck racing along the abandoned road. The vehicles were welded with crude steel plates and spikes, heavy machine guns mounted on their roofs, engines roaring and spewing black smoke. The west. Lin Han raised an eyebrow, his gaze locking onto the area marked red on the map. That's the direction of Lighthouse Camp. Yes. Lei Long zoomed in, scrutinizing the emblem on the vehicle bodies. A black lighthouse painted inside a white circle. Confirmed it's a convoy from Lighthouse Camp. Given their rush, they don't look like they're marching. More like fleeing. In the footage, the convoy weaved wildly, occasionally ramming abandoned cars on the roadside, as if something was chasing them. Whatever they're here for, Lin Han said, watching the fast-moving dot on the map, gripping his teacup a little tighter. Since guests are coming, we certainly must host them, but we need to know if they're friend or foe. Neighbors visiting call for a proper response. Lei Long stepped forward, his tone radiating the iron-blooded confidence of a professional soldier. Advisor Lin, leave the defensive deployment to me. For this first formal contact, we must show our hardest fist. They'll have those 2 Type 99A tanks directly face the main gate with infantry fighting vehicles spreading out on both flanks. Since they're coming, they need to understand who calls the shots here. This diplomatic engagement begins with a display of force. We'll teach these neighbors how to talk properly. I'm with you all, here at ease. Advanced Base 01 Underground Level 2. Originally the Underground Water Control Center of Haishan City's 3rd water purification plant, it was transformed into the notorious Forbidden Zone during the reign of the Haigang Group. Back then, this floor echoed with nothing but despairing screams and the scraping of chains against the ground. The walls were stained with deep brown blood, and the air was perpetually thick with a lingering stench of decay. But now, just 48 hours later, a dramatic transformation had taken place. After 2 days and nights of non-stop cleaning, disinfection, and renovation by the engineer company, the former Hell on Earth had become the cleanest and most precise area of the entire base. A P3 level biosafety laboratory. With a soft hiss, the heavy airtight door slid aside, releasing a chill air tinged with the faint scent of disinfectant. Dressed in a full white sterile suit, and having passed through 3 cycles of air shower decontamination, Lin Han finally stepped into this newly designated core zone. Gone were the sinister torture instruments and iron cages. In their place stood rows of top-tier research equipment rushed in from the real world: high-throughput gene sequencers, cryo-electron microscopes, ultracentrifuges, automated liquid handling workstations. These precision instruments, priceless in the apocalypse and long since reduced to scrap metal elsewhere, now hummed rhythmically in quiet operation. Various indicator lights blinked, alternately casting the laboratory into a scene straight out of a science fiction film. Over a dozen researchers in white lab coats were busy at their workstations. Most of them were gray-haired elders, along with a few middle-aged individuals wearing thick glasses. These were the first batch of expert support teams urgently dispatched by the state from the Academy of Sciences. At that moment, these esteemed academicians and professors from the real world, objects of universal respect, gathered around a young woman like elementary school students, their eyes burning with an intense thirst for knowledge. Dr. So do you think the RNA transcription process of this sample bears some resemblance to the influence of Professor Su? I have a new hypothesis regarding the metallization reaction of the Rager's muscle fibers. Surrounded by the crowd was none other than Su Wan. She wore an ill-fitting, oversized white lab coat. Her usually disheveled hair was meticulously pinned up, and a pair of protective goggles sat on her face. Though dark circles shadowed her eyes, her mental state was unprecedented in its vitality. She exuded an air of focused, efficient scholarship. Professor Chin, that RNA fragment is a trap. This virus is extremely adept at camouflage. Run a reverse transcription again. Su Wan replied without turning around, continuing her work at the electron microscope. As for the metallization reaction, that is a characteristic of third-order and above variants. Our current first-order sample data is insufficient. Do not jump to conclusions. Hearing the door open, Su Wan straightened up, removed her goggles, and turned to see Lin Han. A tired yet satisfied smile spread across her face. Lin Han, what brings you here? Lin Han walked over with a smile, signaling the elderly professors who were about to rise and greet him to continue their work, then looked at Su Wan. Just checking on our chief scientist. How do you like this new setup? Satisfied is an understatement. Su Wan gazed around the equipment, her fingers gently brushing over a brand new mass spectrometer, her eyes shining. It's nothing short of heaven. The lighthouse camp still had some pre-war equipment, but due to lack of power and maintenance, more than half of it was down, and the rest was constantly malfunctioning. But here, everything is brand new. Some models are even better than the most advanced ones I remember from before. A workman must first sharpen his tools right. Lin Han walked to the lab bench where several rows of test tubes were arranged. I heard from Lei Long that you made quite a splash as soon as you arrived. Mentioning business, Su Wan's expression immediately turned serious. Follow me. She led Lin Han to a separate data analysis area and handed him a thick paper report. I spent these 2 days carefully analyzing the experimental data of Li Sen's so-called God-making project. I have to say the people of Haigang Group may have been utterly depraved, but the vast amount of data they accumulated through human experimentation is indeed a tremendous treasure trove. Su Wan pointed to a chart in the report, her tone laced with both disgust and a hint of fortune. To create their so-called enhanced soldiers, they injected thousands of survivors with crystal core extracts at varying concentrations. The vast majority perished from rejection reactions. But while analyzing the death records, I noticed a peculiar, what phenomenon? Lin Han flipped through the report. Though he couldn't decipher the complex molecular formulas, several keywords circled in red caught his attention. Perception failure. Look at this subject code, A302. Su Wan pulled up a surveillance video. In the footage, a man covered in festering sores writhed in agony inside a cage filled with zombies. Strangely, the zombies around him, ordinarily driven mad by the scent of a living human, acted as if they were blind, paying him no heed. Even when the man rolled to their feet, they simply stepped around him as if avoiding a stone. Is this? Lin Han's pupils contracted. Invisibility. Not visual invisibility, sensory and olfactory masking. Su Wan explained. Zombies primarily hunt by scent, locking onto specific pheromones emitted by living organisms, followed by hearing. In the 30 minutes before that subject died, some metabolite in his body neutralized that living scent. Those fools at Haigang, obsessed only with power enhancement, deemed this subject a failure and disposed of him. Little did they know they had discarded the true divine skill. Su Wan turned and retrieved a spray bottle containing a pale green liquid from the cold storage. She gave it a gentle shake. The liquid shimmered with an iridescent luster under the light. I extracted that special enzyme, used the gene editing technology you provided to remove the toxic fragments that caused cellular collapse, and stabilized it with first-order crystal core powder to synthesize this. I call it Misno. 1. Su Wan's voice carried a hint of undisguised pride. A zombie pheromone camouflage spray. Applied to the body, it completely masks a normal zombie's perception for 30 minutes. Lin Han took the cool spray bottle, his mind churning with shock. He fully understood what this meant. In the apocalypse, the most terrifying aspect of zombies was not their combat strength, but their numbers. Once you fired a gun, the sound would attract more hordes, draining you to death. But with this was practically an official cheat for surviving the Wasteland. Has it been tested? Lin Han asked, suppressing his excitement. Already conducted live tests in the quarantine zone. Su-Wan opened another high-definition video. In the video, a special operations soldier in full protective gear, his body sprayed with the green agent, nervously entered a cage holding 5 zombies. Those zombies, which had been wildly banging against the cage, instantly calmed down and began wandering aimlessly. The soldier even bravely waved his hand in front of one zombie. It showed no reaction at all. Effective radius about 3 meters, duration 30 minutes. Su-Wan added objectively, but there are limitations. First, its effectiveness against second-order and above variants drops significantly, as they have evolved sharper visual and auditory auxiliary judgment. Second, no active attacks. If you make aggressive movements or fire a weapon, the camouflage fails. That's enough. Lin Han took a deep breath, gripping the bottle firmly. Enough for our search teams to venture deep into the city center, enough to let us go to those death zones we never dared to imagine before. Su-Wan, you've made a huge contribution. Lin Han looked at the frail scientist before him, speaking solemnly. If this can be mass-produced, its value rivals an armored division. Mass production will take time. We don't have enough crystal cores now. Su-Wan remained calm. Also, to improve its effect on high-order variants, I need more data, especially live data on second-order variants. Data we'll have. Crystal cores we'll have. Lin Han was about to say more when the tactical communication terminal at his waist suddenly buzzed. He picked it up, glanced at the screen, and his expression shifted slightly. What's wrong? Su-Wan keenly sensed the change in his mood. The communication squad just used the municipal network protocols left behind by Haigang Group to restore shortwave communication monitoring around the city. Lin Han moved to the large electronic map of Haishan City on the wall, pointing to an area on the western outskirts. 10 minutes ago, we intercepted a distress signal. Weak signal, intermittent, using open-band broadcast. Lin Han paused, looking at Su-Wan. The frequency code indicates it's from the lighthouse camp. Su-Wan's notebook slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a slap. She rushed to the map, staring at the blinking red, her voice trembling. Lighthouse, what happened to them? What's the content of the distress call? Only 4 words: beast, tide, flee quickly. Lin Han's voice was low. A reconnaissance drone has already flown over. Footage shows a large group of mutated beasts besieging the camp's outer wall. Without intervention, given Lighthouse's defensive firepower, they won't survive the night. Su-Wan fell silent. She leaned on the lab bench, her fingers white from gripping it. Not everyone in the lighthouse is good, she said quietly, her gaze complex. The high-level figures who drove my father and me away back, then scrambling for limited resources, were selfish and cold-blooded. They even cut power to my father's life support capsule to save electricity. I know. Lin Han interrupted, his voice calm but resolute. But I also know that there are still hundreds of innocent researchers like your father there, along with tons of experimental data and blueprints. Those people are scum, but the knowledge they hold is priceless. He turned, his gaze burning into Su-Wan's. Dr. Su, I'm not going there to play babysitter, nor to act like some saint. Base 01 now has guns, food, and medicine. What we lack are people, technology, and research strength. What the lighthouse possesses is exactly what we need. And what we have, he patted a supply crate beside him, is something they wouldn't even dare dream of. A hint of domineering confidence curled at the corner of Lin Han's lips. I'm going to pack up the entire lighthouse camp, people and equipment, and bring them back. As for those who once bullied you, he paused, turning back to reveal a brilliant smile, yet one that carried a biting chill. You'll see for yourself how utterly insignificant their so-called pride and power are in the face of absolute strength. Get ready, Dr. Su. Lin Han strode toward the door. Bring your mist now. 1. This time we're going to welcome your old colleagues back in style. We'll make sure everyone knows who the true lighthouse is in this apocalypse. Watching Lin Han's receding figure, Su-Wan took a deep breath and bent down to retrieve her notebook from the floor. She removed her glasses, wiped the corner of her eye where a hint of moisture had appeared, then put them back on. Her gaze became more resolute than ever before. Professor Chun. She turned to face the expert team behind her, her voice crisp. Prepare to establish a secondary biosafety isolation zone. We're going to receive a large batch of new live samples and new colleagues. Scene 01. The forward base west side main entrance. Originally a freight passage of the water purification plant, the wide concrete road is now blocked by 2 lines formed by abandoned containers and sandbags. Behind the barricade, 2 newly constructed watchtowers soar into the clouds, their dark machine gun muzzles overlooking the entire highway. Boom. A low rumble of engine noise shattered the afternoon tranquility. 3 wildly modified off-road vehicles and a heavily bullet-riddled truck rushed towards the base like wounded beasts stirring up clouds of dust. The vehicles are adorned with sharp steel spikes, the windows sealed with barbed wire, and a few desiccated zombie hands can even be seen hanging from the bumper. This is a typical Wasteland style, filled with the aesthetics of savagery and violence. Stop. Ahead is a military restricted zone. A cold warning echoed from the base's loudspeaker. Approaching further will be considered hostile behavior. Open fire immediately. However, the convoy seemed unwilling to stop, or perhaps their speed was too fast to halt. The lead off-road vehicle had its sunroof open, and a burly man, wearing wind goggles, leaned halfway out waving a red signal flare and shouting something hoarsely. Bang! A crisp gunshot rang out. It did not come from the burly man, but from a sniper on the watchtower. A 12.7mm bullet struck precisely 5 meters in front of the front wheel of the lead off-road vehicle, creating a deep crater the size of a bowl. Debris flew, forcing the driver to jerk the steering wheel, and the convoy screeched to a chaotic halt, less than 100 meters from the barricade. Don't shoot. Don't shoot. We are humans. The burly man raised his hands high and jumped out of the vehicle. He appeared to be in his 30s with a full beard and a heavily worn leather jacket, but his eyes radiated a fierce determination. We are the search team from the lighthouse camp in the west. We mean no harm. Something is chasing us from behind, he shouted while fearfully glancing back at their path. As if to validate his words, a massive cloud of dust rose on the distant road. Several mutated dogs the size of calves and covered in dark red growths were charging towards them at an astonishing speed. It's a hunter, the observer in the watchtower shouted. The burly man closed his eyes in despair. At this distance, being caught by these speedster-level mutated beasts after stopping would mean certain death. He had initially hoped to rush into this new powers base for refuge, but he never expected them to be so unyielding. However, the anticipated tearing did not come. Vroom! A sound of painful metal grinding resonated. The burly man suddenly opened his eyes, and then he witnessed the most shocking sight of his life. Behind the barricade, a large canvas that had originally been disguised as a container was suddenly lifted. A terrifyingly thick cannon barrel, exuding a cold aura of death, slowly emerged. It was a 99, a main battle tank painted in desert camouflage. Boom! The tank did not fire its cannon but unleashed a series of furious roars from its mounted machine guns. Simultaneously, 30mm automatic cannons hidden on either side of the barricade also opened fire. A dense rain of bullets instantly formed an insurmountable wall of fire 100 meters behind the convoy. Those fierce hunters did not even have time to scream before they were shredded into pieces by the high-caliber ammunition. The blood mist exploded under the sunlight, dyeing that area a glaring dark red. Instant kill. A complete instant kill. The burly man gaped, and the signal flare fell from his hand with a soft thud. Behind him, a dozen survivors who had originally held makeshift rifles and machetes emerged one after another, dumbfounded, watching the steel monster slowly emerging from its cover, their eyes filled with fear and confusion. This level of heavy equipment, this precision of fire control system. Is this regular army? The burly man muttered, the regular army from before the war. 10 minutes later, in the base square, this search team called Hawk was completely disarmed and squatting on the ground. Although they were captured, their eyes could not help but dart greedily around. They were observing those soldiers in uniform with rosy complexions, looking at the car wash station spewing clean water in the distance, gazing at the large diesel generators humming nearby. For these survivors struggling to survive in the wasteland, everything here, clean water, ample electricity, even the smell of food in the air, felt like an unreal dream. Have some water. A bottle of mineral water was tossed into the burly man's arms. He instinctively caught it, twisted off the cap, and took a big gulp. The crisp, sweet liquid slid down his throat, instantly soothing his parched lungs. Real water. He wiped his mouth, looked up, and saw a young man standing in front of him. Lei Long stood before the burly man in full tactical gear, towering like an iron tower, inspecting him from above. The killing aura emanating from him, born from a sea of corpses and rivers of blood, made the burly man feel breathless. Speak up. Lei Long's voice was deep and rugged. What part are you from? What are you doing? Why do you have a The burly man took a deep breath, striving to calm himself. As a seasoned wastelander, he knew that his value lay in information. My name is Wang Ming, deputy captain of the security team at the lighthouse camp. Wang Ming glanced at the tank not far away, then at the group of fierce soldiers in front of him, swallowing hard. We were ordered to scout. It is said that the Black Steel group was annihilated, and the leader sent us to see which deity had occupied this place. He forced a bitter smile. I didn't expect it to be a real deity. Stop wasting time, Lei Long interrupted coldly. Get to the point. What was up with those hunters just now? Hearing the word hunters, Wang Ming's face turned pale, and a deep fear flashed in his eyes. Beast time. He trembled as he spoke the word. The mountainous area in the west has exploded. I don't know why, but all those mutated beasts that usually hide in the deep mountains suddenly rushed out. Not just hunters, but also powerful beasts, and even dragons have been sighted in the sky. Dragons. Lin Han, who had been listening not far away, suddenly spoke up, his brows slightly furrowed. He wore ordinary combat attire without displaying any rank, but the moment he spoke, Lei Long immediately ceased the interrogation and stepped aside, allowing Wang Ming's heart to race. It's a rotting flesh dragon. Su Wan, who followed Lin Han, approached, holding a tactical tablet, displaying the recently intercepted signal wave. Lin Han, what he said is true. We just confirmed the signal source again. The lighthouse camp has indeed been surrounded. Those hunters chasing them might just be scouts on the periphery. Seeing Su Wan, Wang Ming was momentarily stunned, then his eyes widened in shock. Dr. Su, you're still alive. You're here. Su Wan shot him a cold glance. What? Surprised. Captain Wang, you were the one who led the charge to kick my father out of the laboratory back then. Wang Ming lowered his head awkwardly, not daring to meet her gaze. Although Su Wan and her father's plight at the lighthouse camp was sympathetic, in that survival-off-thefitist environment no one cared about the lives of the defeated. But who could have imagined that this fallen princess who had been driven away would now stand at the core of this powerful, mysterious force? Let's talk about old times later. Lin Han calmly interrupted this awkward conversation. He looked at Wang Ming with a flat tone, as if evaluating the value of a batch of goods. So you managed to escape? Sort of. A breakout. Wang Ming clenched his teeth. Before the camp was surrounded, the leader sent a few convoys in different directions to seek help. We were lucky enough to break out, but we were also targeted by those beasts and chased all the way here. Officer Lin. Wang Ming suddenly knelt on the ground. Please save the lighthouse. There are still over 3,000 people there. Although their leaders are not good people, the survivors below are innocent. Moreover, there are many facilities and data in the camp. If they are breached by the beast tide, it will all be over. Lin Han looked at this man who knelt down for survival, silent for a moment. 3,000 people. Lin Han turned around, looking at Lei Long and Su Wan behind him. 3,000 laborers plus those facilities and colleagues that Dr. Su has been thinking about. This deal can be made. Agreed. This is indeed a worthwhile deal. A deep voice came from behind. Zhao Jingwo strode over, surrounded by a group of staff. He first nodded at Lin Han, affirming his judgment. Director Zhao. Lei Long and the surrounding soldiers immediately stood at attention and saluted, their eyes filled with awe for this senior officer. Zhao Jingwo returned a military salute, his expression serious. The staff has assessed that the personnel and equipment from the lighthouse camp are urgently needed by us. Lei Long, I approve your combat request. Take the armored company and 2 mechanized infantry companies to bring the people back. Remember, what we want is population and equipment, not ruins. Minimize collateral damage. Yes, we will ensure the task is completed. Bloodthirsty light flashed in Lei Long's eyes as he turned and picked up the communicator, his roar instantly reverberating through the square. All personnel. Level 1 combat readiness. Wang Ming knelt on the ground, dumbfounded, watching everything before him. As the alarm sounded, the distant underground garage doors crashed open. 1 vehicle, 2 vehicles, 3 vehicles. A total of 1099, a main battle tanks rolled out in a neat formation, exuding an earth-shaking momentum. Behind them were dozens of infantry fighting vehicles and heavy trucks loaded with supplies. At that moment, tears streamed down Wang Ming's face. He knew the lighthouse was saved. Or rather, this damned apocalypse had finally welcomed its terminator. Forward Base 01, Assembly Square. The air was thick with a heavy, intoxicating scent. For a wasteland drifter like Wang Ming, it was the most expensive perfume in the world, the smell of high-grade military diesel burning. Like a naive provincial who had never seen the world, he huddled in a corner, staring dumbfounded at the spectacle unfolding before him. Dozens of tanker trucks were queued up, plunging thick fuel nozzles into the tanks of those steel behemoths. The golden fuel gurgled in as if it cost nothing, and every stray drop spilling onto the ground made Wang Ming flinch with heartache. Such a waste of precious things. So extravagant, he muttered. At the beacon camp, fuel was a strategic resource more valuable than gold. Every drop was meticulously calculated, only the leader's vehicle and key generators could use it. Even the supply convoys had to make do with a mix of alcohol and low-grade biodiesel. But here, he witnessed with his own eyes a young soldier casually pour half a bucket of barely used oil into the waste barrel, then crack open a new one and fill the engine. Is this what national power looks like? Wang Ming was no stranger to the world. Before the cataclysm, he had been a veteran. But the army he remembered paled in comparison to this futuristic sci-fi modern force before his eyes. Wang Ming stopped gawking and get in the vehicle. A Mengsher Generation 3 assault vehicle pulled up in front of him. The window rolled down, revealing Lei Long's stern face behind tactical sunglasses. You'll guide the way, ride in the lead vehicle. Yes. Yes, sir. Wang Ming snapped to attention, scrambling into the fully armored assault vehicle. The air conditioning was blasting inside, and the touch of the leather seats felt surreal. Attention all units. Lei Long's low commanding voice crackled through the comms. Target due west beacon camp. Distance 25 kilometers. Operation codename Dawn. Move out. Rumble. The ground began to shake. At the vanguard were 10 Type 99A main battle tanks flanked by 20 Type 04A infantry fighting vehicles followed by dozens of heavy trucks laden with ammunition and supplies. This steel dragon belching black smoke slowly rolled out of the base gates. Though the streets of Huaxia City were broad, 12 years of abandonment had choked them with rampant vegetation, abandoned cars, and rubble from collapsed buildings. In the old days, any search party encountering such obstacles would spend half a day clearing the way or caution. But today Wang Ming witnessed what straight-line logic meant. Obstacle ahead. About 50 abandoned sedans blocking the intersection. The lead vehicle's observer reported. Plow through. Lei Long's voice came through the radio icy and devoid of emotion. Roger. The driver of the lead Type 99A floored the accelerator. The 1500 horsepower diesel engine roared like a beast, the massive hull carrying dozens of tons of kinetic energy as it charged forward like a bulldozer. Crunch, bang. The piercing screech of twisting metal echoed. Those once expensive private cars crumpled like paper under the tank's tracks. The steel tracks mercilessly crushed everything in their path, flattening all obstacles into pancakes. No detours. No manual clearing. This was, roads are made by going. Sitting in the vehicle, Wang Ming stared through the bulletproof glass at the ruins, speeding past, his throat dry. This method of advance was practically a declaration of war against every zombie in Huaxia City. Predictably, the commotion soon attracted trouble. As the convoy rolled through a commercial street, a dense tide of zombies suddenly surged from the alleys on both sides. At least 1,000 zombies, drawn by the engine roar and the scent of living humans, charged at the convoy like a black flood. Sir! Sir! Horde! A zombie horde! Wang Ming paled in terror, instinctively reaching for the door handle. Stop! We need to take cover in the buildings. According to the Wasteland survival rulebook, when caught in the open by a horde, the only way to survive was to immediately find a sturdy building to hold up in, or outrun them. Yet no one paid him any attention. The driver held the steering wheel steady, even casually chewing gum. What's the Suwan in the back seat glanced at him coolly. She wore a tactical camouflage uniform, a tablet on her knee, her expression indifferent. Just watch. The next second Wang Ming understood. Open fire. Lei Long's order was simple and direct. Rat-a-tat-a-tat. The tank's main gun wasn't even needed. The 30mm autocannons and heavy machine guns on the infantry fighting vehicles wove a deadly net of fire. The leading zombies fell like wheat before a scythe. Large-caliber rounds didn't just puncture the rotting bodies, they blew them apart. Limbs and debris flew through the air, and black blood stained the street dark as ink. Some tenacious zombies tried to climb the vehicles, but before they could get close, they were either stopped by reactive armor or taken down by point-blank headshots from accompanying infantry. The convoy didn't even slow down. The steel tracks rolled over the carpet of corpses, emitting a cacophony of cracking bones that set one's teeth on edge. This was the ultimate manifestation of modern industrial civilization's violent machinery. Before this torrent of steel, the so-called zombie horde was nothing more than ants in front of a steamroller. That's it. Staring at the red carpet of flesh left behind, Wang Ming slumped in his seat, feeling his worldview shatter. He had fought for 12 years, rationing every bullet, always skirting around zombie groups. But these people, they were just steamrolling. This is the difference, Wang Ming. Su Wan gazed out the window, her expression complex. Before we were just surviving. But them. They are conquering. The convoy continued westward. 2 hours later, as they drew closer to the beacon camp, the smell of gunpowder grew stronger. In the distant sky, tracers and flashes of explosions could be seen sporadically. We're here. Wang Ming pointed to a fortress-like building built into the mountain, his voice trembling. That's the beacon. The beacon camp was in 10 times worse shape than when he had left. The one-stall walls had been breached in several places, and countless mutated beasts were pouring through the gaps. The defenders' gunfire had grown sparse. Clearly, ammunition was nearly exhausted. Outside the camp, the beast tide stretched like an endless black ocean. Among them, several massive brutes were furiously pounding at the gate. Looks like we arrived just in time. Lin Han put down his binoculars and picked up the communicator. Attention, all units, disengage travel mode. Switch to combat formation. Target the beast tide ahead. Objective, leave none alive. Open fire. With his command, all 10 Type 99A tanks turned their turrets, the long 125mm smoothbore muzzles slowly aiming at the distant horde. It was a greeting from the pinnacle of human industrial civilization. Boom. Lighthouse Camp had been transformed into a veritable hellscape on Earth. This survivor encampment, established within a villa complex nestled on the mountainside, was once hailed as one of Huaxia City's safest refuges. Its formidable walls, strategic high ground, and the remnants of pre-war automated defense turrets, though most were now silent, had allowed it to endure for 12 long years in this post-apocalyptic world. But today this beacon of hope was about to be extinguished. We can't hold the line. The eastern wall has fallen. Stalkers are breaking through. Where's the heavy machine gun? Why isn't it firing? We're out of ammo. The last crate was emptied 5 minutes ago. The communication channel was filled with nothing but the desperate screams and agonized cries of the dying. Zhou Cheng, the camp's leader, stood on the command post's rooftop. His face was smeared with blood and grime as he stared, his gaze locked onto the horde of mutated beasts surging up the mountain like a black tide. His hand clutched an empty pistol, his knuckles white from the crushing grip. It's over, he murmured to him. In his field of vision, thousands of mutated creatures were violently assaulting the last line of defense. Agile stalkers moving like geckos scaled the vertical walls with ease, leaping over barriers to pounce on the helpless defenders. But even more terrifying were the brutes hidden within the swarm. They swung enormous bone hammers, each impact causing the very ground to tremble. Boom! A thunderous crash. The villa's grand iron gate, finally succumbing to the onslaught, was smashed down by a brute's sheer force. With the gates collapsed, the last vestige of psychological resistance crumbled as well. Run for your lives. The monsters are inside. Survivors let out panicked screams, scattering in every direction. But within this sealed-off camp, where could they possibly flee? A stalker pounced on a soldier who was reloading his magazine. Its razor-sharp claws instantly tore open his throat. Blood gushed forth, sending the surrounding zombies into an even greater frenzy. Zhou Cheng closed his eyes. He thought of Su Wan's expression when she left 3 days ago. The woman he had driven away. Had she perhaps foreseen this day? If I hadn't driven her away back then, just to keep that equipment. Maybe. Resentment burned within him. This place held Haitian City's most complete scientific research data, the last remaining prototype exoskeletons. He had intended to use this as capital to forge a new civilization in this wasteland, not to become monster fodder. Roar. An enormous mutated beast spotted Zhou Cheng on the rooftop. It roared, trampling over the corpses of its kin as it charged toward the command post. A bitter smile crossed Zhou Cheng's face. He raised his empty gun, striking a final defiant pose. Then at that very moment, in the nick of time, boom! An earth-shattering explosion suddenly detonated at the mountain's base. The sound was so immense it drowned out every other roar and scream on the battlefield. Immediately after, Zhou Cheng felt the entire mountain tremble violently beneath his feet. He snapped his eyes open. The brute that had been charging up just moments ago was now a mass of burning, rotting flesh. No, it wasn't just that one. Every zombie within a 20-meter radius behind it had been shredded by the terrifying shockwave in an instant. Well, what is this? Zhou Cheng couldn't process it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A sharp, piercing sound of projectiles followed in rapid succession. Over a dozen fiery orange tracer rounds like the whips of the Grim Reaper lashed out violently from the darkness at the base of the hill. They came from 30mm autocannons. Each shell carried enough kinetic energy to punch through armor. They carved bloody furrows through the monster. The mutated beasts with their thick hides that could withstand rifle fire shattered like fragile tofu before the thump, thump, thump. Accompanied by the deep rhythmic roar of cannons, the darkness was torn asunder. 10 Type 99, a main battle tanks painted in desert camouflage, emerged slowly into view like 10 mobile steel fortresses, crushing the rubble in their path. Behind them followed 20 infantry fighting vehicles, their guns spitting flames. At that moment, time itself seemed to stand still. Both the despairing survivors and the bloodthirsty beasts felt a primal shudder beneath the overwhelming pressure of this pinnacle of industrial civilization. Grr. A stalker, still unaware of the situation, tried to use its speed to charge the tank. Bang! The tank's coaxial machine gun fired a single precise burst. The creature that was a nightmare to the survivors was reduced to a mist of blood in midair. A dimensionality reduction strike. This was a complete and total dimensionality reduction strike. There was no tactical maneuvering, no elaborate baiting. It was the simplest, most brutal, and most effective method: sheer firepower. Advanced thermal imagers made the beasts visible even through the smoke and dust, while fire control computers precisely locked onto every high-threat target. The tank cannons eliminated the brutes, the autocannons swept away the stalkers, and the heavy machine guns mowed down the common zombies. The once ferocious beast tide crashing against this steel line shattered like waves against a reef. In just 10 minutes, a mere 10 minutes, the tide of monsters that was about to annihilate Lighthouse Camp was ruthlessly erased from existence. The clearing at the mountain's base was now only a field of scattered limbs, broken bodies, and crackling flames. The thick scent of gunpowder hung in the air, overpowering the smell of blood. Zhou Cheng stood frozen on the rooftop, his gun clattering to the ground. He stared at the slowly advancing steel behemoths, at the bright red flag emblazoned on their turrets, his entire body trembling. The regular army. It's the regular army. He burst into a manic mix of sobs and laughter. The nation didn't forget us. They've come to save us. As the final gunshot echoed and faded, the battlefield returned to an oppressive silence. A Mengsure assault vehicle emerged from the tank formation and stopped before the shattered gate. Several fully armored soldiers jumped out, first establishing a perimeter. Then Lei Long opened the rear door, and a young man stepped out. He wore a black lightweight protective suit and a clear filtration mask. Despite his advanced gear, the careful way he stepped around the bloodstains on the ground betrayed his lack of professional soldiering. This type of protective gear, lacking the bulk of a hazmat suit, offered perfect respiratory protection against the corpse toxins and airborne dust of the battlefield. Lin Han suppressed the nausea rising in his gut and stood his ground under Lei Long's protection. His face was pale from his first direct exposure to a battlefield, but the steel tide behind him gave him courage. He took the megaphone Lei Long offered and addressed the deathly silent lighthouse camp. "This is the Ember Rescue Team. I am Lin Han speaking on behalf of the Ember Rescue Team. This location is now under our authority." Lin Han's voice wasn't loud, but in this moment it resonated. He looked up. Through his clear mask, his gaze pierced the smoke and dust, fixing accurately on Zhou Cheng, who stood on the rooftop. Although his legs were stiff from tension, he forced his voice to sound calm and commanding. "Chief, Zhou, aren't you going to come down and greet your saviors?" At that moment, Zhou Cheng understood. From this day forward, Lighthouse Camp had a new master. As the smoke cleared, the special forces of Base 01 swiftly took control of the key routes of the Lighthouse Camp. There was no resistance. It could even be said that the survivors looked on with a nearly reverent gaze as these soldiers in black tactical protective suits, armed with advanced rifles, took over the defense. In this cannibalistic apocalypse, great military power is the greatest justice and the only source. Lin Han, surrounded by a team of guards, entered the main building of the camp. Once an extremely luxurious hillside villa, this had originally been the private residence of the richest man in Huaxia City, which was transformed into a gathering place for survivors after the disaster. One could still vaguely discern the former grandeur from the peeling wallpaper, dusty crystal chandeliers, and the mildewed valuable oil paintings. But now it was merely a vast refugee camp. The hall was crowded with the injured and the terrified survivors. The expensive marble floor was covered with filthy bedding and rags, while the air was thick with the stench of blood, sweat, excrement, and a unique sour odor stemming from long-term malnutrition. In the corner, a few emaciated children huddled in their mothers' arms, their terrified eyes fixed on the group of aliens that had suddenly burst in. When Lin Han stepped into the hall, the noisy crowd fell silent in an instant. All eyes turned to him, and to the figure behind him. It was a woman in a brand new white research uniform. She was tall, and although she wore a transparent face shield, everyone present was all too familiar with her cold, clear eyes. "Dr. Su!" someone in the crowd exclaimed in disbelief. It was a young man lying on a stretcher, moaning with one leg broken. He had once been Su Wan's experimental assistant, who chose silence during the last power struggle, watching helplessly as Su Wan was driven away. Seeing Su Wan return now, he lowered his head in shame, trying to shrink into the dark, tattered blanket. Zhou Cheng had already been patched up and was standing in the center of the hall. His left arm was cradled against his chest, his face pale, gazing complexly at the woman whom he had once regarded as a burden and had driven away. 3 days ago, when Su Wan left, she carried only a worn-out backpack, looking exhausted and disheveled like a 3 days later, she returned in this manner. Behind her was an entire team of well-equipped medical personnel, each holding a silver first aid kit and dressed in pristine white protective suits, forming a stark contrast to the filthy hall. Beside her was the young man who had just cleared the area with artillery, protecting her like a constellation surrounding the moon. "Su Wan." Zhou Cheng opened his mouth, his voice dry. You are back." He had prepared a speech in his mind, but at this moment not a word could escape his lips. Apology, pleading, or trying to rekindle a friendship. In the face of absolute power disparity, all of this seemed so pale and ridiculous. He thought Su Wan would mock him, humiliate him, or even use the soldiers to kill him. However, Su Wan merely cast a faint glance in his direction, as if looking at a stranger. Her gaze passed over Zhou Cheng, not lingering on him for even a second. "The air quality here is poor. Is the ventilation system broken?" Su Wan frowned, ignoring Zhou Cheng, and turned to the leader of the medical team behind her. "Establish a quarantine zone first. Treat the severely injured as a priority. Also, the sanitation conditions here are too poor. Conduct a thorough disinfection immediately. I do not want to see cross-infection." "Yes, Dr. Su." Several young experts from the Chinese Academy of Sciences immediately responded, swiftly setting up the portable medical unit. "Xiao Lu, if your leg injury is not treated in time, it will necrose." Su Wan walked up to the young assistant, who was trying to hide her voice, calm and devoid of any emotion. "Take him to the medical area and prepare for debridement surgery." The young man named Xiao Lu instantly broke into tears, trembling lips, wanting to say sorry, but found that Su Wan had already turned to the next injured person. Zhou Cheng was stunned. The feeling of being completely ignored was even more painful than a slap in the face. It indicated that in Su Wan's eyes, Zhou Cheng and the entire power struggle in the lighthouse camp were utterly insignificant. She was still that lofty scientist focused on her field, while he was merely a clown rolling in the mud. Dr. Suai. Zhou Cheng wanted to say something, trying to salvage a shred of dignity. Leader Zhou. Lin Han suddenly interjected. He smiled as he stepped forward, although his tone was gentle. The aura of authority made Zhou Cheng involuntarily take a half-step back. We can discuss past matters later. Lin Han pointed to the emaciated Halloween survivors in the hall. The urgent matter now is food. These two words seemed to possess magical power, instantly capturing everyone's hearts. The once lifeless hall suddenly stirred with a hint of life. Lin Han waved his hand. Outside, several soldiers entered carrying huge stainless steel thermos containers. The heavy weight made everyone watching swallow hard. Clang. As the lid was lifted, a rich aroma of rice mingled with the unique fatty scent of braised pork erupted instantly. This aroma domineeringly swept across the entire hall, overpowering the smell of blood and decay, drilling into everyone's nostrils and awakening their most primal desires. Gulp. It was unclear who swallowed first, but soon the sounds of swallowing echoed continuously. That was plain porridge. That was meat. In the lighthouse camp, even high-ranking individuals like Zhou Cheng could barely maintain basic sustenance, living on unpalatable synthetic protein paste or moldy old grains. As for meat, that was a luxury only tasted during the new year, and it was mostly the sour-tasting flesh of mutated beasts. Yet now these people had actually brought in several large barrels. In the porridge were finely chopped preserved eggs and lean meat, while the trembling fatty meat in the braised pork glistened enticingly under the light. To celebrate the survival of the lighthouse camp and the return of Dr. Su, Lin Han announced loudly, his voice echoing through every corner of the hall. Tonight we will serve unlimited preserved egg and lean meat porridge and braised pork cans. Eat freely. Eat your fill. Boom. The crowd erupted in cheers. If just now they had been intimidated by force, now they were utterly conquered. Long live. Thank you, Commander. Thank you, Dr. Su. A mother holding a child trembled as she accepted a bowl of hot porridge handed to her by a soldier. Before she could eat, tears had already fallen into the bowl. She couldn't care about the heat, and quickly scooped a spoonful to feed her child. The child's previously dull eyes brightened instantly as he devoured the food, incoherently shouting, "Meat, it's meat." Some even knelt down directly, bowing their heads towards Lin Han, and Su Wan weeping profusely. In this apocalypse, being able to provide a hot meal was akin to being a father, a mother, or a rebirth. Watching this scene, Zhou Cheng bitterly closed his eyes. He knew that from this moment on, the hearts of the lighthouse camp people had completely scattered, or rather they had entirely coalesced around the young man before them. The prestige he had painstakingly built over the years was utterly fragile in the face of this bowl of hot porridge. Leader Zhou, there's no need to be so depressed. Lin Han walked up to Zhou Cheng, patted his shoulder, and pulled out a pack of cigarettes from the pocket of his tactical vest, taking one out and handing it to him. Its packaging was pristine, as if just off the production line, the word Zhonghua stinging Zhou Cheng's eyes. We are not bandits, we are here to cooperate. Lin Han produced a lighter, and with a snap, lit Zhou Cheng's cigarette. I have food, you have technology. This deal is not a loss for you. Zhou Cheng trembled as he held that precious cigarette, taking a deep drag. Cough, cough, cough. He choked slightly from inhaling too quickly, but soon the long-lost rich tobacco flavor filled his lungs, the nicotine's stimulation coursing through his blood to his brain, relaxing his tightly strung nerves a little. This is life. He looked at the subordinates in the hall who were wolfing down food, their faces lit up with long-lost smiles at the survivors who usually bowed and scraped, but now didn't even glance at him, and finally at Su Wan, who was intently treating the injured. Su Wan was focused on operating a portable biochemical analyzer, her profile appearing pure and distant. She no longer belonged to this filthy refuge, as she belonged to a bright world with unlimited resources and powerful might. At that moment, Zhou Cheng suddenly felt that this outcome didn't seem so bad. At least everyone could live on, right? Cooperate. Zhou Cheng chuckled bitterly, his voice hoarse and tinged with a sense of resignation. Commander Lin, take what you want. As long as it allows us to survive, allows us to live like humans. What I want is not just survival. Lin Han leaned in closer, his voice muffled through the mask, yet still clear and enticing. What I want is to rebuild civilization. And the technology from your lighthouse camp is one of the cornerstones of rebuilding civilization. He paused, his gaze fixed intently on Zhou Cheng. Follow me, and you will no longer be the rats hiding in the holes, but the contributors to reconstructing this world. Zhou Cheng's body shook violently. Rebuilding civilization. That term felt too distant for him, but seeing the confident look in the young man's eyes before him, his long-dead heart actually stirred slightly. Take me to see Leader Zhou. Lin Han pointed to the underground entrance of the villa which led to the P4 laboratory. Let me see what good things you have hidden that Su Wan can't forget that the High Gang group covets so much. Zhou Cheng took a deep breath, crushing the cigarette, but underfoot, as if extinguishing his past ambitions and entanglements. Please follow me. He gestured for Lin Han to go ahead, his posture seeming a little straighter than before. Although we are not good at fighting, we do have some background in scientific research here at the lighthouse camp. Some things were absolute secrets even before the war. After passing through the concealed underground entrance of the villa, and 3 heavy blast doors, the stench of decay finally vanished, completely replaced by a faint scent of ozone and machine oil. This was the P4 level laboratory of the former Haitian Biotechnology Research Institute, the final trump card of the lighthouse camp. Please come in. Zhou Cheng entered a complex biometric verification code, and the last alloy door slid open slowly. What came into view was an underground space brimming with a sense of science fiction. Although most areas were shrouded in dim emergency lighting, due to insufficient power, one could still see the neatly arranged precision instruments, massive, transparent cultivation tanks, and rows of silent server racks. This is our core asset. Zhou Cheng pointed to a glass display case in the center of the laboratory, his tone finally regaining a trace of confidence. The Titan exoskeleton prototype, along with the 3rd-generation neural connection system. Lin Han stepped closer, peering through his tactical visor at the steel monster. It was a black, full-coverage exoskeleton armor. The surface was not smooth like in movies, but covered with exposed hydraulic tubes and servo motors, exuding a rugged industrial aesthetic. Its left arm was equipped with a foldable alloy shield, and the right arm featured a modular weapon mount. This is the 4th-generation individual combat system originally planned for deployment by the Army, Zhou Cheng introduced. It allows an ordinary soldier to possess the strength to lift a small car, run at 60 kilometers per hour, and withstand direct fire from a 12.7mm caliber machine gun. Impressive, Lin Han commented judiciously. In the real world, he had seen plenty of exoskeleton data, but most were still stuck in the assistance stage. This kind of power armor, truly suited for high-intensity combat, was a product that transcended eras. Unfortunately, it's just a pile of scrap metal. Su Wan coldly poured cold water. She had somehow already stood before the console, skillfully pulling up data. Because there's no matching high-energy battery. Right now, it can only take a few steps in the lab while plugged in. Once the power is disconnected, it becomes an iron coffin weighing several hundred pounds. Zhou Cheng's expression stiffened for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. Yes, energy is indeed the biggest problem. He walked to the other side of the laboratory, pointing to an inconspicuous safe. So this is the real treasure. He opened the safe and took out a black square no larger than a palm. High-density solid-state hydrogen battery. Zhou Cheng said, his eyes growing fervent. This is the highest secret of the Haitian Energy Research Institute. Its energy density is 50 times that of traditional lithium batteries. Theoretically, just this one battery can power the Titan for 6 hours of full combat operation. Lin Han's pupils contracted slightly. 50 times. What did that mean? It meant that electric vehicles in the real world could easily achieve a range of over 30 kilometers. Drones could fly continuously for days, and a phone could be charged once a month. This was not just military value. It was a nuclear bomb capable of overturning the entire energy industry. But Su Wan delivered another blow. You can't manufacture it. Yes, we can't manufacture it, Zhou Cheng admitted with a bitter smile. It requires extremely high environmental conditions, a dust-free vacuum production line, a stable and massive power supply, and a complete rare metal refining industrial chain. In this wasteland world today, it's hard even to gather a single qualified screw, let alone this jewel in the industrial crown. At this point, Zhou Cheng suddenly turned around, his gaze burning as he stared at Lin Han. Lin Han simply smiled. A dust-free vacuum production line, stable power supply, complete industrial chain. These conditions, which were nearly impossible in the apocalypse, were, for him, backed by an entire powerful industrial nation, simply a perfect fit. Mr. Lin, you possess resources we cannot imagine, and even some miraculous means of transport. He wasn't stupid. Lin Han's fresh food and brand new equipment could never have been produced in this wasteland. I am willing to offer all of this. Blueprints, samples, data, and even all the researchers under my command. Zhou Cheng took a deep breath, finally revealing his trump card. In exchange, I hope to retain management rights over the survivors of the lighthouse camp. Of course, in name, we would be subordinate to your organization, but the internal affairs. You want to be a feudal lord? Lin Han interrupted him with a faint sardonic smile. Zhou Cheng gritted his teeth. I just want to find a way for the brothers who follow me to survive in this chaotic world and to preserve a little dignity for myself. After all, even before the war, this technology was priceless. Lin Han did not answer immediately. He circled the Titan exoskeleton, tapping its cold alloy armor with his fingers, producing crisp sounds. Chief Zhou, you seem to have misunderstood something. Lin Han stopped, turned to face Zhou Cheng, and spoke in a tone so calm it sent chills. In business negotiations, the value of an asset depends not only on itself, but also on who the buyer is and whether the seller has the right to refuse. He pointed at the black battery. In your hands, this thing can only light a few bulbs or serve as an expensive brick. Not only can it not help you fend off the beast tides, it will attract wolves like the Black Steel Group. But in my hands, Lin Han's voice rose. I have a complete industrial system, I have tens of thousands of engineers, I have endless raw materials. The industrial thresholds that trouble you are nothing more than the electricity cost to start the machines for me. I can turn it into products on an assembly line, into shields that protect humanity, into light that illuminates the darkness. You call it a treasure, but in your hands it is a death warrant. Lin Han walked up to Zhou Cheng, looking down at him. As for the management rights you mentioned, Chief Zhou, do you think those survivors who just ate braised pork would rather continue eating chaff with you or eat meat with me every meal? Zhou Cheng's face turned deathly pale. His biggest bargaining chip, the people's hearts, had been bought away by Lin Han with a few buckets of porridge half an hour ago. So this is not a negotiation. Lin Han reached out and gently took the black battery from Zhou Cheng's hand. This is an acquisition, and a bankruptcy liquidation-style acquisition. He held up 2 fingers. I give you 2 choices. First, leave here with your dignity, and go reason with the zombies outside. Second, unconditionally join Base No. 01. You can work in our logistics or personnel department. You won't have the title of chief, but you'll have clean water to drink, hot food to eat, a safe bed to sleep on, and even, if you perform well, I can give you a well-equipped squad of your own to realize your ideal of protecting survivors. The hall fell into dead silence. Only the hum of the server cooling fans echoed. Zhou Cheng stared at Lin Han, his chest heaving heavily. He was unwilling, truly unwilling. But reason told him every word this young man spoke was the truth. In this apocalypse, possessing a treasure was a crime. A treasure without the strength to guard it was an original sin. After a long moment, Zhou Cheng slumped like an old man drained of all strength, his head hanging dejectedly. I choose the second option. If there was a choice, who would want to be a tin-pot tyrant in the ruins, always on the verge of death? Being a well-fed senior worker might be the greatest happiness in the apocalypse. A wise choice. Lin Han showed a satisfied smile and casually tossed the battery to Su Wan behind him. Dr. Su, these things are yours now. Organize the data as soon as possible. We're going to take them home. The No. 01 Forward Base Underground P3 Laboratory. At this moment, it is experiencing an unprecedented academic carnival. Genius. This is simply the idea of a genius. On the other end of the video call, Professor Chen Guofeng from the Institute of Energy Research at the Chinese Academy of Sciences was so excited that he was gesticulating wildly at a complex molecular structure diagram displayed on his screen. If it weren't for the screen separating them, Lin Han would have suspected that this elderly academic, who was already over 60, might leap forward to kiss the black battery. What do you mean, Professor Chen? Lin Han asked, sitting on a chair nearby, playing with the sample of the solid hydrogen battery that had just been transported back from the lighthouse camp. Lin Han, do you know what this means? Chen Guofeng took a deep breath, attempting to calm his excitement, but his voice still trembled. Before this battery appeared, humanity's energy storage technology was essentially in the Stone Age. Whether it is lithium batteries or graphene batteries, they essentially cannot surpass the limits of chemical energy. Chen Guofeng pointed at the screen, but this battery, it utilizes a special crystal structure to solidify hydrogen atoms in a metallic state within the lattice. This is not just a battery, it is practically a miniature safe hydrogen bomb energy reservoir. Its energy density has reached an astonishing 5,000 whkg. Chen Guofeng's voice suddenly rose. What does this concept mean? The best military lithium batteries currently only have about 300 whkg. It is over 10 times stronger than existing batteries. Lin Han raised an eyebrow. Didn't Zhou Cheng just say it was 50 times? That might have been a comparison to their old energy system before the apocalypse, or a theoretical limit. Chen Guofeng waved his hand. But even the current tenfold is enough to change the world. Just think about it, an electric car that originally had a range of 500 kilometers with this can achieve a range of 8,000 kilometers. This is even more durable than a fuel vehicle. More importantly, Chen Guofeng's eyes sparkled with fervor, it resolves our greatest pain point. Miniaturization of high-energy weapons. Lin Han felt a stir in his heart. You mean exoskeletons? Not just exoskeletons. Chen Guofeng said excitedly. There are also electromagnetic railguns and high-energy laser weapons. The reason these things couldn't be deployed before was that they required carrying a huge generator. But now just a battery the size of a brick is enough to support a high-intensity urban street fight. Lin Han, what you brought back is not just a battery, you brought back the key to unlocking the future war. Lin Han looked at the cold black square in his hand and couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. This is the true meaning of the dual pass door. It is not for those few tons of gold nor for those few crystal cores, but for this black technology that can allow Chinese civilization to realize a shortcut in the real world or even directly take off. What about mass production, eh? Lin Han asked the most crucial question. Zhou Cheng said it requires a very stringent industrial environment. No problem. Chen Guofeng replied decisively, vacuum and dust-free. We have that. Stable electricity. We have the national power grid. Rare earth elements. The warehouses of the National Reserve Bureau are piled high. As long as we understand its principles and the catalyst formula, give me 3 months. No, 1 month. I can produce the first batch of domestically produced samples. Great. Lin Han nodded heavily, then I'll leave it to you. After hanging up the call, Lin Han turned to look at Su Wan, who was busy at the experimental table. It seems your dowry is quite substantial, Lin Han joked. Su Wan rolled her eyes at him, but the smile at the corner of her eyes couldn't be concealed. As a scientist, seeing one's research results, even if they are from predecessors, being valued so highly and expected to become a reality, is an indescribable sense of achievement. As a scientist, seeing one's research results, even if they are from predecessors, being valued so highly, and Su Wan pointed to the Titan exoskeleton being disassembled by technicians next to it, and a server connected to it. Do you think the exoskeleton is just a few steel plates and motors? She quickly typed on the keyboard, and the screen immediately displayed a mass of dense code and blueprints. This is the crystallization of a complete industrial system. Su Wan's eyes sparkled. To drive this big guy, scientists in Huaxia City developed a compatible carbon-based chip architecture with 10 times the computing power of current silicon-based chips and extremely low power consumption. To make it as flexible as human limbs, they wrote the 3rd-generation neural mimetic AI, which is the true prototype of artificial intelligence. And this? Su Wan brought up a 3-dimensional model holographic tactical goggles. It requires not only microprojection technology, but also the real-time battlefield situational awareness algorithms behind it. These codes just quietly lie in the hard drive of the server. Lin Han listened in astonishment. He originally thought he had just picked up a gun, but Su Wan told him that he had picked up the entire military-industrial chain. Chips, AI, operating systems, holographic technology. Any one of these brought back to the real world would be enough to trigger a technological earthquake. And now they are all packed in this small laboratory. Then let's move the equipment and people back. Lin Han took a deep breath, waved his hand grandly. What Huaxia City can't produce, we will produce in our world. What our world can't produce, we will mine and refine here, and then take it back. With the dual world complementing each other, there is nothing we can't handle. Just as he was speaking, Li Zhan walked in quickly. Chief, the relocation operation has already begun. Li Zhan saluted and reported, Zhou Cheng is very cooperative, and all the researchers and families at the lighthouse camp have been registered and are being transferred in batches to the No. 01 base. The experimental equipment and data are also being packed. However, Li Zhan paused. While we were clearing the lighthouse camp warehouse, we discovered some other things. What? A large batch of sealed No. 2 agents. Li Zhan's expression was somewhat serious, that is to say the type of enhancement agents from the Black Steel Group. Although Zhou Cheng did not use them on a large scale, it seems he has been secretly carrying out improvement experiments. Lin Han's eyes narrowed. Enhancement agents. This thing is like Pandora's box. Although the side effects are enormous, the temptation to instantly become a superhuman is indeed hard to resist. Su Wan, this is up to you. Lin Han looked at Su Wan. I understand. Su Wan nodded, her expression serious. I will analyze its components. If the side effects can be eliminated, it might become our trump card against high-level mutated beings. If not, then destroy it. Lin Han said coldly, we do not need to create a group of short-lived monsters to defend our homeland. Understood. Lin Han stood up and adjusted his collar. Let's go check out our new belongings. By the way, we should also prepare a great gift for the Black Steel Group. Since we have battery technology, are there some big weapons that could only remain on paper in the real world that can also be put on the agenda? For example, the individual electromagnetic gun still in the testing phase. Lin Han's mouth curled up into a hint of anticipation. Huaxia City West District Lighthouse Camp. If you have ever seen an army ant migration, you could roughly imagine. However, compared to the destruction of army ants, the team before them was clearly more constructive. Though in the eyes of the survivors at Lighthouse Camp, there wasn't much difference between the two. That microscope. Handle it with care. That's a vintage Zeiss from Germany. Over there, the server cabinet. Remove the hard drives first. Yes, watch out for static electricity. Pack all these petri dishes. Don't worry about whether they're useful. Professor Chen said even trash must be taken back for analysis. Su Wan stood beside the command vehicle holding a tablet like a symphony conductor orchestrating the massive, moving operation with calm precision. Beneath her command, dozens of engineers clad in exoskeleton assistive devices were dismantling, packing, and loading everything in the underground laboratory of Lighthouse Camp. From precision centrifuges to ordinary office chairs, even the whiteboard on the wall and the coffee machine in the corner, with astonishing efficiency. This stripped the place bare. Professionalism left Zhou Cheng standing by dumbfounded. He had originally thought that Lin Han's takeover meant only removing core technology and personnel. He had never imagined that these people were truly intending to clear the place out. Ahem. Commander Lin, Zhou Cheng said, watching a few soldiers dismantling emergency lights in the corridor, his mouth twitching involuntarily. These lights, are they to be taken as well? Those are long-life lights powered by nuclear batteries. Lin Han stood beside him holding a bottle of mineral water, speaking in a matter-of-fact tone. The technology is a bit outdated, but it's still very useful in the wild. Chief Zhou waste is shameful. Zhou Cheng. Suddenly he felt that losing to these people was not unjust. This was not merely a gap in military strength, but a difference in a spirit of diligence and thrift, ingrained to the bone. 2 hours later, a convoy led by 2 Type 99A tanks and consisting of over a dozen heavy trucks laden with supplies and modified passenger coaches departed from Lighthouse Camp in grand style. The once bustling underground shelter now had only empty walls and litter on the floor. The convoy wound its way through a forest of ruins. The survivors from Lighthouse Camp seated in the modified bus pressed against the windows, gazing with mixed emotions at the familiar streets outside. They had eked out a meager existence here for 12 years. Today they were finally leaving. "Where are we going?" a young female researcher asked her companion uneasily. "I don't know," replied her companion, a middle-aged man with thick glasses clutching a stack of manuscripts tightly. "I heard we're going to that base 01. Hopefully we can get a hot meal." In this apocalypse, for most people, dignity and ideals were luxuries, survival and food were the basic necessities. Half an hour later, the convoy reached its destination. When Base 01, surrounded by towering concrete walls, actually temporary blast walls brilliantly lit, and even patrolled by drones in the sky, came into view, an outburst of suppressed gasps filled the carriage. "Oh my God, there's electricity here. Is that a searchlight? Aren't they afraid of attracting zombies? Look, are those vegetable greenhouses?" Through the perimeter fence, they witnessed a shocking sight. In areas that should have been wasteland, neat rows of greenhouses had been erected, glowing with an enticing green. That was the color of life. The convoy slowly entered the base gate. What greeted them was not dark gun muzzles, but rows of medical personnel in white protective suits and a rich aroma of food that made one want to cry. "Everyone get off. Follow the guidance and undergo decontamination first." A command voice came from the loudspeaker. There was no shouting or pushing. These survivors were guided into a huge temporary tent. There they experienced their first luxury in 12 years, a hot shower. When the warm water washed away the dirt and radiation dust accumulated over months, or even years, when they changed into dry and clean training uniforms, when a steaming white steamed bun and a bowl of braised pork with potatoes were thrust into their hands. The psychological defenses of many completely collapsed at that moment. Sob. "It's meat. Real meat. I thought I'd never eat white flour again in my life. Mom, the water is sweet." Crying, laughter, and swallowing sounds interwove in the cafeteria. Zhou Cheng held his tray and sat in a corner. He looked at the glistening bowl of braised pork before him, then at his subordinates devouring their food, and at the base workers who, though busy, had clear, hopeful eyes. He suddenly understood something. For the past 12 years he had only been leading these people to survive. But Lin Han was leading them to live. "I lose." Zhou Cheng picked up a piece of braised pork and put it in his mouth. Rich, but not greasy, melting on the tongue. That long-missed delicacy exploded on his taste buds, melting away the last traces of reluctance and ambition in his heart. "I lose with full conviction." Base Command Center. Lin Han watched the touching scenes on the surveillance monitors, a gratified smile appearing on his face. "The mind-gathering work has gone smoothly." Li Zhan stood behind Zhao Jiangwo and reported in a low voice. "After preliminary screening, the proportion of researchers among these survivors is very high. Among them there are 35 experts with senior titles, over 120 intermediate engineers, and nearly 200 skilled technical workers. In particular, the biology and mechanical engineering experts we desperately need are all here. They are all treasures." "Very good." Zhao Jiangwo nodded. "Notify Dr. Su to arrange for them to enter their work positions as soon as possible, especially those working in electronics. Have them cooperate with Professor Chen to thoroughly digest the data in that server first." "Yes. By the way, Commander." Li Zhan seemed to recall something, his expression still as solemn as before. "The hidden sentries responsible for perimeter security just reported that they seemed to feel ground vibrations on the convoy's return route." "Vibrations?" Zhao Jiangwo frowned. "Caused by the tanks?" "It doesn't seem so." Li Zhan shook his head. "The frequency of those vibrations was very low, and they came from deep underground. It's as if some enormous thing was turning over." Lin Han, standing aside, felt his heart leap. He turned his head to look at the electronic map on the wall. Base 01 was about 20 kilometers from the city center, and the legendary hive was directly beneath. This moving operation had made too much noise. Had it disturbed that landlord? "Reinforce alert," Zhao Jiangwo ordered in a deep voice. "Activate radar at full power, double the drone patrol range. If any anomaly is detected, sound the first-level combat alert immediately." "Yes." Outside the window, night was deepening. Though the base was brightly lit and filled with laughter and joy. But deep in the unseen darkness, a storm seemed to be brewing. Earth Beijing. Mount Shishan, a top-secret underground command center. No lavish decor here. Only thick concrete walls and lead shielding rated for nuclear blast resistance. The air hung heavy with solemnity and quiet tension. Seated around a long conference table were 7 or 8 elderly men clad in Zhongshan suits or military uniforms. Any one of them appearing on national evening news would send shockwaves through global geopolitics. At this moment, all their gazes were fixed upon a black briefcase placed at the center of the table. Beside the briefcase stood Professor Chen Guofeng, dusty from travel, still wearing his lab coat, eyes bloodshot, yet burning with feverish intensity. Comrades, esteemed leaders. Chen Guofeng drew a deep breath, his voice trembled slightly. After 48 consecutive hours of cross-verification by 3 independent research teams at the Academy of Sciences, I can now report to the party organization with full responsibility. He snapped the briefcase open, revealing an unassuming black cube within. We hold in our hands the key to the future. Silence swallowed the room. The elder seated at the head of the table, his gaze fathomless, spoke slowly. Professor Chen, you are a national hero and a titan of science. What we require is data, not metaphors. Yes, sir. Chen Guofeng straightened his posture and activated the large display behind him. This is sample No. 01, the solid-state hydrogen battery retrieved from the lighthouse camp in another realm by Comrade Lin Han. Its energy density, 5000 watt-hours per kilogram. This figure is no mere statistic. It signifies that. His finger traced across the screen. If installed aboard submarines, our conventional vessels could submerge indefinitely like nuclear-powered ones. If mounted on tanks, our armored divisions would no longer require fuel supply convoys. If integrated into drones, our swarm fleets could circumnavigate Earth 3 times without landing. Simulated schematics flickered across the screen, one after another, each representing a paradigm-shifting strategic advantage. This is but the tip of the iceberg. Chen Guofeng pressed a remote. The display shifted to a complex chip architecture diagram. This is the carbon-based chip blueprint transmitted and compiled by Dr. Suwan. Though we lack lithographic equipment capable of fabricating it, its design philosophy outpaces our current silicon-based chips by 2 full generations. Should we master it, the 30-year technological stranglehold imposed by Western powers on China's semiconductor industry will vanish forever. And this neural mimetic control algorithm for exoskeletons. This foundational logic for holographic imaging. As Chen Guofeng continued, the atmosphere in the room subtly transformed. The earlier gravity and restraint gradually gave way to a palpable, almost electric fervor. These were seasoned strategists, veterans of geopolitical warfare, who understood more keenly than anyone what such breakthroughs truly portended. This was not merely technological advancement. It was the reversal of national destiny. A long silence followed. The elder at the head of the table tapped the table once softly. Has it been verified? Verified, sir, Chen Guofeng replied resolute. We powered a high-energy laboratory laser with that very battery. The result, it effortlessly pierced 10 layers of tank armor, yet the battery's charge dropped by less than 1%. The elder nodded faintly, his gaze shifting toward a video feed on the side of the screen. There stood General Zhao Zhengwo, commander of Base No. 01. Zhao Zhengwo. Present. Zhao Zhengwo snapped to attention and saluted sharply on screen. What is Comrade Lin Han's position on this matter? Report, Comrade Leader. Zhao Zhengwo responded, voice low and steady. Comrade Lin Han's stance is unequivocal, full handover to the state. His sole request that the nation rapidly translate these technologies into operational capability and deploy them back to the other realm. For the threats there may far exceed anything we can currently imagine. The elder paused, then swept his gaze across the assembly. Heaven bestows, but if we refuse to accept, misfortune follows. His voice remained quiet, yet carried irresistible authority. Since this young man has entrusted us with fortune of such magnitude, we must not only receive it, we must forge it into a sword to defend China's great rejuvenation. I propose, first establish the Kunlun Technology Group, a dual-use civilian military front led by Comrade Chen Guofeng, mobilizing the full strength of the nation to reverse engineer and master these trans-realm technologies. Second, elevate the Xinhua Initiative to the highest classification level, top secret plus. Any unauthorized inquiry, including by personnel outside this room or those directly involved, shall be prosecuted as treason. Third, approve immediate deployment of engineering brigades and special operations units to Base No. 01. Comrade Lin Han is correct, we must pursue dual-realm synergy. Experiments impossible on Earth shall be conducted there, resources they lack we shall supply. Personnel, funding, arms, without hesitation or reserve. The elder rose, his eyes blazing. This time we shall show the world what Chinese speed truly means. Meanwhile, across the Pacific Ocean, Langley, United States of America, a classified intelligence headquarters. An analyst stared at fresh satellite telemetry reports, brow furrowed. Sir, something's off. What is it? The section chief approached, coffee cup in hand. Energy grids and logistics networks in that eastern nation have exhibited anomalous fluctuations over recent weeks. The analyst pointed to several curves on screen. They've mobilized strategic-grade materials en masse, specialty alloys, rare earth elements, ultra-high-strength cement, even some decommissioned military hardware. But none of these shipments are directed toward any known national megaproject, not toward aircraft carrier construction, nor the Northwest Launch Complex. The chief frowned. No, their final destinations remain ambiguous, converging vaguely on a southern coastal city. Beyond that, they vanish like a clay ox sinking into the sea. And curiously, the analyst added, civilian grid load shows no significant rise, while encrypted military fiber optic traffic has surged by 300%. Strange. The chief narrowed his eyes at the deliberately vague report, a chill of unease creeping up his. As a professional intelligence officer, he instinctively sensed danger. Such massive yet utterly silent mobilization often heralds a move of extraordinary scale and consequence. Could they be constructing a clandestine underground defense facility, or developing a new weapon demanding colossal resource input? Uncertain. No direct evidence exists at present. Whatever it is, they're watching closely, the chief said coldly, setting down his coffee cup. Activate our deep sleepers embedded there. Tell them spare no cost. Even if all they retrieve is a scrap of paper, I demand to know what the Chinese are